fling, I just blocked a sudden enemy attack. This high-level adventurer says that it seems I've noticed his plans. Holding my waifu in one arm, I know these wiggas are eyeing my Barbie doll, so I'm slashing everyone away. And it seems that all those so-called friendly adventurers are attacking me from behind like the true snakes they are. I reply that, of course. I knew from the very beginning that they were thirsting over my girl and wanted my neck. 4 sudden slashes come from above, but I'm swiftly dodging everything. Another guy tries to hit me from the side, but I can easily block it and retaliate with a barrage of cuts. Unfortunately, I'm surrounded on all sides, but that's fine because I'm carrying a legendary demonic sword that no one else can wield. They're confused by my confidence, and it seems they don't know that every guy with white hair and a stylish scar on his face is a protagonist. 2 more jump in, saying that I'm just a kid and a bastard. They hit hard, and I'm pushed back, and before I can react, I feel something. From above, their leader is coming with a gigantic attack, the so-called meteor strike. He comes swirling at me with a barrage of fire and ice. The whole place starts to break, and an atomic bomb-like explosion happens. But when the smoke settles, I'm still standing. But hold up cause those dudes have no chill, and they are attacking me from all sides once again before I can breathe. I leap to the side, and the leader says that he's happy that I was suspicious from the beginning because now it's not a disappointing fight. It's my time to go on the revenge attack, so I prepare a meteor vision. Another one tries to stop my conjuring, but when his blade meets mine, I use the flying snake attack, and his whole sword is surrounded by energy. He's engulfed in flames, and his body is thrown toward the other soldiers, and in the blink of an eye, I'm slashing everyone. Another guy meets my thick, long, rare sword, and the leader from the background is impressed with my skills. How can a mere boy handle a whole high-level adventurer team? So suddenly, he starts to cast another one of those meteor strikes. I'm pushed back again, and when I look up, I see the guy coming with the destroyer's skill. The whole floor is shattering, but that's fine because I have the Jagger vision. With exploding steps, I dart toward his attack, my palms against his explosions, and once again, the whole field is destroyed. Everybody is confident that now I must be dead, but from inside the smoke, I come attacking like an arrow. He's surprised. This is crazy. No one should have survived something like that. But it's too late for bro. My demonic sword slashes him in half, and with that, a whole high-level adventurer group has been wiped by a young nigga. To get here though, we gotta see when I was young fella. My first mission was to kill a duke of a huge empire. He couldn't believe that a kid like me had so much bloodlust and strength. Dude was killed on spot. I burned his whole house and his whole family. Damn, bro's a menace. Walking out like a badass, true G. Right after things changed a bit though, his mind flashed back to a time when he was sprinting through the forest, sweating like he was in gym class. Among the massive trees, he slipped through, trying to make a sneaky escape. Finding a spot behind a tree, he sighed, feeling like he just dodged a pop quiz. But the chase was still on, and he was running on empty. He had a bad feeling, like when you forget your homework. With a quick duck, he saw an attack miss him, hitting the tree instead. Turning around, he was shocked by the enemy's strength, like a boss fight in a video game. Even though the tree was huge, it got split like a banana. The monster had teeth that could rival a shark's and looked super intimidating. It was a fierce orc, built like a tank. Without warning, the creature charged, teeth grinding like it was trying to scare him. With a face full of panic, the young man thought it looked like a hangry beast. In the enemy's hand, a powerful sword caught his eye, knowing it could mess with anyone who held it. In the center of the hilt, a violet light shimmered, surrounded by a wild aura. Fueled by this evil power, the creature went on the attack, driven by a killer instinct. But the warrior was ready, knowing the enemy's moves like a pro gamer. The orc swung a big hit, while the other guy got ready to counter. The sword's energy surged through the creature, delivering a massive blow. Even though the young man was focused, the violet light came way too close for comfort. Behind him, trees got wrecked, making it feel like the sword had a mind of its own. The monster was losing it, going full-on berserk. Its attacks were deadly, making the swordsman dodge like he was in a dance-off. The fight was intense, with tree bits flying everywhere. And as fast as he defended, the warrior whipped out his sword and faced the creature. The orc, totally caught off guard, didn't see the quick counter coming. With a horizontal slash, everything in front got shredded, and the beast's face was in the line of fire. But something caught the swordsman's eye, a shadowy figure with a feminine vibe. That presence amped up his power, making him doubt if the strike would work. Soon, the monster's wound started healing right before his eyes. With a side eye, the creature searched for its prey, still hangry. Holding his sword, the young man with a scar muttered about charging double for the gig. Once more, the creature charged with rage while he was ready to hit back. And like two lightning bolts colliding, their energies clashed in an epic showdown. And while the swords clashed fiercely, the battle for control over the wrecked field raged on. But under the pressure, one of them started to crack like a phone screen. Then, the warrior gripped his hilt tighter, ready to launch a new attack. Even as he dodged the enemy's blade, he realized he was holding just half of his broken weapon. Still, he didn't back down and launched himself behind the opponent with the remaining sword piece. His eyes were cold, almost like he was losing it during the fight. That's how he landed the final blow, making the creature hit the ground with the sword, ending the battle with a win. Exhausted, he plopped down on a trunk, mumbling about wanting to quit and the state of his blade. Suddenly, the evil aura that once belonged to the enemy started to show up again. At that moment, his eyes locked on the fallen sword in front of him, realizing it seemed alive. The weapon, packed with dark power, called him to be its new master, promising strength to crush anything. With the dark aura wrapping around everything, his reflection showed up in the energy sphere, like the power was feeding his grudges. Even confused, he started to walk slowly toward the blade. All right, buckle up for this wild ride. Here we go. Even though he acted all brave, he knew grabbing that weapon might turn him into the same kind of monster he was up against. The sword's spooky vibes had him frozen, eyes locked on it, losing control like he was in some kind of trance. Even though he wanted to bolt, his hand had a mind of its own, reaching for the sword's handle. As soon as he touched it, all that dark energy zapped him, changing his look while the sword whispered all sorts of destructive stuff. But then, he just held the sword with a meh face, totally missing the evil vibes it was throwing off. Ignoring the sword's desperate cries, he just stood there in the grassy field, chill as ever. Calmly, he lifted the sword, aiming at where he'd chuck it, even as it begged for a break. Then, he heated the blade, sending it skimming across the lake like a pro. Afterwards, he checked out his hand, feeling a bit sore from the epic throw. Meanwhile, the sword was sinking, heading for the lake's dark depths. Not bothered at all, he just let out a little sigh after the whole drama. Then he remembered his old boss, wondering how many more missions he'd need to finish to get some cash. Without realizing someone was there, he started whining about being tired and broke. When he noticed, there was a girl with dark hair and fair skin, giving him a serious look, arms crossed. Thinking she was just some lost kid, he walked past her, leaving her totally confused. To stop him, the girl grabbed his wrist with a grip of steel. Her face was all about confronting him, asking how he dared ditch his owner, leaving him baffled. Sweating bullets, he forced a smile, saying she must have the wrong guy. As he tried to leave, the girl got all restless and ordered him to stop right there. Fed up with being ignored, she clenched her teeth, boiling with anger and frustration. And then, she shouted, accusing him of touching her inappropriately, shocking the poor guy. Freaked out, he yelled back, asking what nonsense she was spouting in front of everyone. Behind him, a crowd gathered, judging him hard for what they thought he did. Fuming, he asked why she was pulling this stunt. Pointing her finger, she shouted she'd been abandoned in the lake. And with his face drenched in sweat and fear rising, he finally got it. The girl was actually the cursed sword. With arms crossed again, she confirmed with a grin she was a magical weapon left in the lake. Then, she whined about being tossed into the lake without a care. Eyes shut, she pointed and said he had no clue about his actions as a servant. But before she could finish, he was already gone, leaving her talking to herself. In a rush, the Scar guy said he barely escaped and almost got into another mess. But then, Minerva popped up beside him, asking what he was mumbling about. Not getting how she showed up there, he pointed out they were in a dead-end street, amazed by the sword's power. Even confused, he listened as she declared she'd follow her servant anywhere, because she was his queen. With a smile, she said she'd always find him, no matter where he hid. But he was freaked out by her powers and being called a servant. Annoyed, he asked again where this servant stuff came from. She explained it was normal for someone wielding a weapon like her. Still not buying it, he turned away, complaining he was losing it, which made her furious and start cursing him. Out of patience, he tried to brush her off, telling her to go home, which only made her angrier. Right away, the sword unleashed its demonic aura, grabbing attention with its bright violet glow. In a sassy tone, she declared herself Queen Minerva. Then she revealed her true form as a blade, surrounded by demonic energy. But instead of being impressed, the guy was just confused by all the drama. While she hyped herself up, the sword demanded he fall for her majesty. Fed up, he grabbed her wrist and pulled her along, making her nervous. On the way, she yelled for him to be gentler and begged her servant to be kind. When they reached the city, glowing in the sunset, they headed to the old man who hired him. Even with the grumpy girl by his side, he grinned like a fool. The old dude was surprised to see him again, but the guy explained he wanted to talk about the demonic sword, shocking her. When he revealed it was a cursed weapon, the old man was even more puzzled by the whole weird situation. Things got real awkward when the dude grabbed the girl by the shoulders and said she was the sword. The room went dead silent, like, who even thinks a girl can be a sword? Then the owner of the place pulled a face that screamed, what the heck? And the guy scrambled to explain himself. He was talking a mile a minute, trying to spill the tea, while the sword just stared, shocked he wanted to ditch it. Minerva started bawling like a drama queen, grabbing everyone's attention. Her face was tomato red, tears everywhere, claiming she was a sis abandoned by her evil servant. Every word made the old dude madder at the guy, who was yelling for her to cut it out. Outside, the guy plopped on the curb, all frustrated, while the girl sighed, glad she wasn't sold. With arms crossed and a look that could melt steel, she said selling his queen was a mega fail, worthy of a 1,000-year timeout. He was clueless about her drama, so he straight up asked why she pulled that stunt. In her head, they were bonded for life since he touched her. But for him, she was just a headache, so he looked up at the sky and sighed. Soon, a carriage rolled up, driven by a servant. Inside, the guy chomped on a sweet, trying to chew away his frustration. With gritted teeth, he thought about never showing his face in the city again. While she was all about the view from the window, he decided no more missions from the Merchants Guild. Curious, he asked how she could go from sword to human, and she perked up. Clueless, she stayed quiet, lost in thought. Innocently, she said she didn't get her own powers and asked how he bailed from her grip. Dodging the question, he said he had no clue, it just happened. But the mystery bugged them both, and they tried to figure it out. After a bit, the carriage stopped, and the driver said they were there. He got out slow, but she was already outside waiting. With a smile, the guy thanked her for the ride, and the young man nodded back. Out of nowhere, the driver handed him a card with a symbol, hinting he should check out the House of Roses sometime. Saying they'd meet again, he left while the young man kept his cool. But the girl wasn't feeling the politeness and griped he never treated his queen that way. Annoyed, he shot her a look and said she was just a pain. He turned and said she could go solo if she wanted, but she said he was just running away again. Up ahead, they hit Epilim, the biggest city in the province of Kaid, buzzing with life. Her eyes lit up at everything, amazed at how humans had leveled up. Checking out a fruit stand, he called her a country bumpkin, which ticked her off. After strolling together, they reached their spot, and she stayed quiet, taking it all in. They started bickering again. She asked if she'd be sold again, and he thought that was nuts. When they knocked on the door, he was all quiet, making her think he was nervous. Finally, he walked into a room full of people, some even rocking armor. A red-haired woman in uniform greeted him with a smile. Chill. He asked for a mission, and she wanted his ID card. Calmly, he slapped it on the table, shocking everyone with Jagger's signature, the warrior of destruction. All eyes were on him, making him super uncomfortable. Ticked off, he just asked for the mission list, while the redhead, all jittery, handed it over. While he checked out the tasks, others whispered about his past and where he'd been. In the end, he picked a mission and was set on that one. Soon, he got the intro letter he needed to get the job done. Minerva was hyped hearing everyone call her servant an assassin and warrior of destruction. He was one of the 5 great warriors, which explained the hype. But it bugged him big time, the main reason he dodged the city. His face showed how much it bugged him, and as if the city's noise wasn't enough, he had to hear the sword's laughter mocking his issues, making him curse her. After all that chaos, they ended up in a forest, arguing non-stop. She smugly said it was the only mission he got, not worthy of a legendary warrior, ticking him off more. To mess with him, she repeated the nickname that bugged him with a cheeky grin. Earlier, they visited a lady's house who said she'd been waiting for help since she posted the mission. Even without any surprises, he was all ears while his buddy hummed away, lost in his own world. With a burst of emotion, the lady declared he was her last hope to crack the case. Chill as a cucumber, he promised to find the lost critter, but his partner was off in La La Land. On the wall, there was this fancy painting of the lady with a cat on her lap, and it totally grabbed her attention. Because of the silly stuff she was saying, she got a playful bop on the head to snap out of it. After they bounced, he noticed the park was shut down because the animal had gone MIA. To roast him, she joked about a mighty warrior hunting a tiny kitten, cranking up his frustration. Pointing his finger right at her, he yelled that it was all because of that living weapon's existence, but she just shrugged it off. Things got heated when he blamed her for his sword snapping, saying he couldn't fight like that. She clapped back, reminding him he said he didn't have any weapons left. With a cheeky grin, she asked if being his queen wasn't enough. Teasingly, she touched his chin and said even without giving her anything, she'd still make him the strongest. The offer was tempting, especially with her smooth talking, almost making him cave to ambition. But that idea made him pause and think hard. His eyes locked on her. In his mind, he saw himself winning under a violet moon, surrounded by defeated foes and his flag flying high. That thought snapped him back to reality, and he quickly pulled his hand away, realizing this wasn't the right path. As payback, he flicked her, making her yelp in pain. He called her out for being childish, and she curled up, trying to soothe her forehead. Calmly, he kept walking, while she hurled fresh insults from behind. Suddenly, something made him stop. He spotted the missing cat. The place was eerily quiet, not a peep, not even from the birds. In that weird vibe, he saw the teeth of a tiger appearing, making him wonder why this mission was such a big deal. With no weapon to defend himself, he froze as the beast charged. Right after the impact, the ground cracked from the creature's powerful blow. Even so, he reacted like a ninja. With his hand on the ground and body low, he shielded his buddy and kept his eyes on the enemy. The tiger's attack caused another earth-shattering impact. The creature was a massive saber-toothed tiger, with destruction in its eyes. This time, fear was all over his face as he got the mission's seriousness. It was wild, since they thought the target was a cute, harmless kitty. Calmly, she looked at him and asked if they were in danger. Not liking that vibe, he tossed her to the ground, causing a bruise. With the aggressive behavior crossing the line, she asked if he'd keep treating her like that, while he grabbed a branch and told her to stay back. Coldly, he ordered her not to mess things up or get hurt, but she warned him the tiger was about to pounce from behind. With the beast charging, she froze in fear at the looming attack. But then, a powerful light zapped the animal's jaw, pushing it back. The energy came from the branch he was wielding, successfully deflecting the blow. Impressed, she was amazed at how he used that simple stick to hold back the tiger. Even with such a basic tool, he showed mad combat skills, keeping his moves on point. The animal got hit several times, but despite its strength, it couldn't fully resist. After taking it down, the beast lay there, staring at him like it was tamed. Shaking with fear, the tiger seemed to get the power difference between them. But seeing the animal rise to attack again, he realized there was another reason behind that attitude. He soon figured out the aggression came from the instinct to protect, as there were cubs nearby. From the bushes, tiny cats emerged, waddling towards their mom. The cubs snuggled into her fur, looking for comfort and safety. Even so, the tigers glared at him with anger again. To show he wasn't a threat, he raised his hands and explained the owner was worried. He kept it cool and gentle to dodge another showdown. Gently, the feline laid him on the ground with her weight, revealing why she was called Kitty Cat. The scene lightened up when she started licking his face, showing love instead of hostility. On the way back, the owner was already waiting eagerly for the reunion with her beloved pet. Lovingly scolding the tiger, she called it a troublemaker. Meanwhile, the cubs huddled around her, and she was all like, "I was so worried." Grinning and giving the big cat some love, she thanked the warrior for being a total lifesaver. Even when called the warrior of destruction, he was chill, while his buddy was practically eating his hair from being so nosy. With a hand on her face to push her away, he told the lady she already knew who he was, even though he tried to keep it low-key. Still smiling, she said it was impossible to forget the epic stuff someone like him did. But then she got all curious about what was up with him and the girl who was glued to his side. Hearing different takes, they started bickering about who was the sidekick or the rando, both annoyed by the nicknames. Their little spat caught attention, but then everyone was back to talking about the tiger's name, Kitty Cat. The lady explained the nickname came from when she found him and thought he was all cuddly. Even if others were like, nah, that's what she felt when she first saw him. With a soft smile, she admitted maybe he ran away because he didn't feel at home. So she decided to take him back to his real home, which totally surprised the young dude. Then she asked if the place was what he thought, and she nodded, all mysterious. Turns out, the tiger's homeland was a chain of snowy mountains glowing in the sunset. There, in Sigmir, he'd get his crib back. And the tiger, hearing this, was all hyped about going home. As he strolled through the streets, the warrior got constant stares from passers-by. Noticing this, he was like, finding it super annoying. Meanwhile, the tiger trotted alongside his buddy, with the cubs zooming ahead. But, as always, she thought the looks were for her stunning self, not caring about humans or the big cat. Coldly, he said she was just lucky, which totally riled her up. Right after, he joked he'd rather be like that cursed sword, free from all the nonsense, clearly teasing her. Thinking she'd get the cold shoulder again, the girl nervously asked about the mission to take the tiger to Sigmir, but he said he had to go somewhere else, which shocked her as she asked where. Calmly, he explained he was off to find a new sword for battle. He didn't realize this would hit her hard, and that's why she grabbed his cloak. Shaking with disappointment, she showed how much it hurt, but he was unfazed. Fuming, her face changed, and she was ready to throw some serious shade. In a shout, she even blamed the wind, dodging a direct insult. After that, they hit up a place called FLM, where a dude with pink hair and a fake grin greeted them. With his usual May vibe, the young guy said he was hunting for a top-notch sword, while the girl checked out the place, all curious. But the shopkeeper gave him a side eye, thinking he couldn't afford the fancy stuff. While the duo bickered, the warrior told her to chill with the drama, but she stood her ground, refusing to be second best. Pretending to be nice, the vendor showed off the goods with a forced grin, making it clear there were no payment plans. Annoyed by the judgment, he said he'd just browse before making any moves. Soon after, they followed the attendant, who was clearly over their presence. With a hand on her hip, the girl said the guy was weird and that, even with cool weapons, humans were still beneath her. Expecting this kind of sass, the warrior patted her head and said she was still a good sword, making her blush. Then, the vendor led them down a corridor full of stuff, clearly trying to ditch them. Once again, with a fake smile, he showed off a fancy section of the store. They all strolled in, passing by displays of swords in glass and velvet cases. Trying to sound all impressive, the guy adjusted his glove and said to face epic beasts, the warrior needed a special weapon. Then, he showed a sword that looked like dragon scales, saying it was perfect for him. Lightly touching the sword, he said it was the red dragon's blade. He revealed it belonged to a legendary hero named Arinus Gunfield, famous for slaying that dragon. While hyping up the weapon, he praised its curves and dragon spine material. But no one got why the vendor was so pumped, even turning red with excitement. With a sweaty face and a forced grin, the customer asked the price, thinking he was in the best shop in town. All right, buckle up, cause this story is about to get a glow up. So, when he heard the price, his face went full on despair mode. Cause, yeah, his wallet was crying. He asked to see another one, and the attendant, already knowing the dude was broke, tried to hide his face with a super awkward smile. They kept strolling down the hall, chatting about prices, and it was obvious the vendor was trying to make him ditch the idea of buying anything. But then, the receptionist was all speedy to show the next sword, but our destruction warrior hit the brakes when he spotted a different weapon. The manager explained that the bluish blade was snagged by Sir Carl, one of the big 5 warriors, and it didn't even have a name or price yet. But when he touched the weapon, the fancy guy got all huffy, like it was the ultimate no-no. Feeling some mega energy vibes, he locked eyes with the sword and couldn't look away. Totally mesmerized, he moved in slow-mo, reaching out to touch it. When he grabbed the hilt, a blue glow popped out, lighting up the place like a mini rave. His eyes sparkled with awe, and a tiny grin crept up, showing he was totally smitten with the weapon, deciding to snag it. Next thing, the scene flips to the city's rich and not-so-rich zones, landing at a small, basic inn. There he was with his crew, in this old, rundown spot, which made his buddy super grumpy. She was fuming, with the cubs chilling on her head, whining about how the place was a total dump for crashing. Chilling on the bed with his new sword, he snapped back, telling her to sleep outside, getting a death glare in return, while the tiger snoozed. It was late, so he just shrugged, saying he couldn't do squat and was hitting the hay, leaving her even more shocked by his ice-cold attitude. She hated being treated like that, and every shout showed how much she loathed being in such a shabby place. Quickly, night draped the sky in deep dark blue. In the room, the girl in sword form snoozed on the tiger, with the cubs piled up, when a weird noise echoed. The sound woke him up, bugged by where it came from. He sat up fast in bed, ready to check out what was going down. Eyeing the door, he knew he had to investigate. He figured the noise was from upstairs and paused at the staircase. Climbing up chill, he peeked and saw this intense bluish glow. Moonlight lit up a girl with long bluish hair, dressed in white, surrounded by her own power. All he could see was her back and her glowing hair strands. But, with zero patience for drama, he facepalmed, showing he was totally lost on what was happening. Still, he messed up his hair and said, crying like that wouldn't fix anything. At that moment, the girl turned, shocked by his words. Her eyes were waterfalls of tears, full of deep loneliness, though it didn't really explain all the drama. When he tried to speak again, she cut him off, saying everyone she ever knew was gone. Calmly, she put her hand on her chest, where a blue stone was, and said she didn't want anyone else around, having lost everyone already. Her words made him think about who she really was, and in his cold stare, there was a wish not to lose anyone else. Without moving, he watched as tears streamed down her calm face, and she revealed she was a cursed sword named Sui. Under the stunning night, they chatted about this new buddy, and he wanted the deets on being a cursed sword. While checking out his own hand, he tried to piece together the day he bought her, remembering everyone who wielded her bit the dust. And so, Sui calmly answered all her new master's questions. No fuss. But she was shocked to see him clearly stressed, since he blew all his cash on that sword. Seeing his annoyed face, the girl was startled and admitted she never meant to make a contract. It just happened by accident. Trying to chill things out, he got closer and gently put his hand on her head, starting a speech. With a grin, he made a serious promise. He said he'd never kick the bucket because of her power, and his words hit home as she looked at him with teary eyes. The promise reminded her of way back when a woman cried while touching her face, saying she'd have a new partner someday. That person said the time would come when Sui would find someone ready to stick by her side forever. In her lonely gaze's reflection, the girl saw a bit of her new master in that ancient woman. Curious and feeling all the feels, she wanted to know more about the dude who was super nice. So, she walked up all sweet and asked for his name. With a chill smile, he said he was Sig, or Signature Jagger, just like at the start of the story. Sui grinned, cheeks all red, and called him Mr. Sig. But then, the vibe flipped when another sword's presence was felt, and the room got icy. Minerva, with a mean grin, wasn't cool with someone else, stepping in and called the newbie a stranger. Her scary vibe left the shy girl barely able to say her name. The blue-haired girl was all confused by the veteran's sudden attitude. In a shady tone and with a sneaky smile, the sword of jealousy got all worked up, finding out the newbie was cursed too. Her look turned wicked, wanting to keep Sig as her only servant. But to wrap up the drama, he stepped in, bored, and tapped her head, shutting down the possessive talk. This time, she wasn't feeling it and got even more annoyed, but he explained that being unique meant not acting like that. His words made her think, and she went quiet, pondering what being unique and worthy meant. Realizing she overdid it, she shot a bitter look at the new buddy. Sweetly, Sui asked her veteran to take good care of her, as she have a new life with her master. Finally, Minerva got what Uni meant being unique or an older sister and realized she couldn't act like a brawler. Then, the scene switched to the snowy mountains, where the tiger would be left. Sui was wiped out, while the other was buzzing with energy, probably from making her repeat her title all night. Soon, Jagger called his second sword for a new mission, stirring up the older companion. With wide eyes, Minerva watched as he called the blue-haired girl to become her blade form. No time wasted, she transformed, giving off a chilly vibe. With a serious face, he rested the sword on his shoulder and said he'd buy another. So, he headed back to the shop, where he got Sui, marked with a sword symbol at the entrance. With a strong kick, he blasted the doors open, making a loud bang. Inside, the snooty vendor was shocked and annoyed by the wild entrance. Still, keeping his cool, Sig demanded to see the owner while being called nuts. Trying to stay chill, the receptionist said things were getting out of hand until a buff dude came to the counter. He looked like a bomb about to go off, ready to teach the client a lesson at the attendant's request. To threaten, the guy put a heavy hand on the young man's head and said it was better to leave. But this just made Jagger lose his cool and punched the brute in the face. With the hit, the security guard flew backward. Still, the warrior, looking grim, insisted he wanted to see the shop owner, not some useless guard. Tired of being ignored, he went back to the attendant, who shook in his presence. With the sword in hand, he pointed the blade at the aristocrat's neck, who clenched his teeth in fear. Coldly, he asked again if the fool planned to call the real boss. The man started yelling, saying his title was a big deal, and he wouldn't take threats. But suddenly, someone barged in shouting, cutting off the argument. The arrival of that person didn't faze the warrior, but left the receptionist shocked. It was his dad, the real shop owner, who came in with other guys, confused about the chaos. Trying to cover up, the son lied, saying nothing serious happened, but the dad told him to zip it and focused on the visitor. They started talking, with the elder wanting to know what was up, while the young man wanted to confirm he was talking to the boss. Impatiently, the old man said he wouldn't take excuses and wanted a solid reason for the young man's actions. With the ice sword in hand, the warrior revealed he was the feared warrior of destruction. The weapon's energy glowed in his eyes with a bluish, threatening light. With force, he slammed the sword into the ground, making ice crystals pop up around him, showing off his power. Still with a cold stare, he threatened the shop's rep, accusing it of selling a cursed weapon. The words made him think about the risks his shop would face if the truth got out, even with the son trying to prove innocence. As he watched the blade slice through the ice he made it clear he wanted fair payback. Then he turned to the attendant, who was now freaking out, and begged his dad for help. Amid the chaos, the warrior announced he'd take an arm as payback for all he'd been through. The move was so fast, the receptionist shut his eyes, sure his end was near. But when nothing happened, he peeked to see his dad with his neck near the blade. The old man had stepped up, offering his own life for his sons. Seeing this, the warrior just sighed deeply, as he never acted out of meanness, only with purpose. The man then stared at him, hearing him say that dad love was touching, but he still needed something in return. Soon after, the empty display case of the red dragon sword was shown, the one he had his eye on earlier. Meanwhile, the attendant was kneeling at his dad's feet, who was super disappointed. Even claiming he tried to help the customer, his words didn't cut it, and as punishment, the old man left, calling his son useless and weak in that moment. These words hit the young man's pride, leaving him drowning in sadness, with a shadow over his face. At that moment, a growing anger took over the attendant, who clenched his teeth and saw the veins pop on his face. Meanwhile, Sig was already holding the red dragon's sword, being called by the ice girl to answer a question. They both walked side by side when Sui wanted to know if he was really going to cut the guy's arm. With a bitter look, he made it clear he wasn't crazy and wouldn't do something like that without reason. Curious, she pushed, saying from the start he just wanted to snag that powerful sword. Then, he raised the blade to face level and explained he did it because he hated the seller's arrogance, seeing the act as fair payback. Even so, she still didn't get why he went so far. But the truth was it all boiled down to his life motto, gratitude and beef. After that, the crew headed to the Cathedral of Roses, where carts often rolled by. With arms crossed and always grumbling, the dark-haired girl couldn't handle him having another sword. Her face showed major jealousy, and she didn't hide wanting to be the only one in his arsenal. To tease her, he ran the new weapon across his cheek, saying with a grin it was just a basic sword, not what she thought. While they bickered, Sui stayed quiet beside the tiger, visibly awkward with the scene. Unable to take it anymore, she decided to call her master, who turned to listen to her. With teary eyes, she whined in a cute way that only the new weapon got attention. Trying to fix it, Sig gently said he was just checking the blade, but she wasn't buying it. Still shy, she put her hand on her chest and started recalling the events. In his mind, the situation felt like a big déjà vu, But before he could finish the thought, she shouted about how well he knew how to pamper her. This statement froze him, as it was too wild for the moment, and he feared everything would spiral out of control. But there was no escape. Soon, people gathered to gossip and judge, leaving him anxious and stressed. Annoyed, he threatened to return her if she kept up the drama, but she turned her face, refusing to back down. With the experience he had with the other sword, he just placed his hand on her head, trying to chill her out. Sui loved that move, even though he felt like tearing her apart, even taking the blame for the mess. Right there on the street, strangers came up calling him by name, which caught him off guard. Among them, a bald guy introduced himself, not looking very trustworthy at first glance. Even so, he smiled and said his name was Mark, letting him know he'd joined the same expedition. Politely, Sig shook his hand, though he suspected someone from the hiring company leaked his info. Soon after, the bald guy checked out the warriors' unique team, a jealous girl, another shy one, and a tiger with 3 cubs. Trying to stay polite, he approached the queen to introduce himself, saying they traveled together to Emilia, but he was flat out rejected, being called incomplete. Mark, on the other hand, kept smiling, not getting how such a small girl could be so cheeky. In fact, she was mesmerized by the shine of his head, which looked like a golden crystal ball. After a few minutes, everyone was already in the carts, driven by the guys with the new member. Inside, Sig was chatting with someone about how wild the human world is, while tiger cubs clung to him like he was a jungle gym. So he glanced at the master, who was already grinding his teeth like he was trying to turn them into diamonds. His queen was busy giving the bald guy a makeover, not getting why everyone was so annoyed. Sig, totally out of patience, told her to come back, but she ducked behind the guy, playing hide and seek. And boom, the argument kicked off, with him insisting she stick by his side, while the cart rocked like a roller coaster. Later, they lit up a bonfire in the forest, setting the scene for some serious chill vibes. Trying to patch things up, the warrior said sorry, and the bald dude was all chill about it. The guy then shared how his daughter flipped his world upside down, while the other just smiled, hiding his yawns. Mark, with a cheeky grin, asked if it wasn't cool for her to be so spontaneous. There was the girl, playing on the tiger, with Sui watching silently from her corner. The guy started chatting again, saying maybe it was destiny they crossed paths. To back it up, he flashed a fancy drink, using it to win the warrior's trust. All hyped, he offered the glass as a celebration move. But knowing the drink's rep, which could survive a dragon attack, Jagger was like, nah. Still, the glass got shoved in his face, and he took it, but didn't sip. Face to face with Mark, he heard about how someone was missing to hear the warrior's epic tales. Calmly, he lowered his head, thinking about which story to spill, and his face got serious. His eyes, lit by the campfire, brought back memories of losing his dad and the fresh start that shaped him. He remembered the folks who welcomed him without a second thought, but as a kid, he never guessed they'd cause so much trouble. The story wowed the bald guy, who got curious about how he made it through. But before he could finish, Minerva showed up, grabbing his attention. With her usual bossy vibe, she wanted the scoop on what was so interesting. Pointing at him, she questioned the sweet smell of the drink he held. Knowing convincing her wasn't easy, he said it was no big deal, even offering her a taste. That got her excited, saying she was glad to see him stepping up. Just for that, he almost regretted it, but she snagged the glass, claiming it as hers. Without a second thought, she downed it all, while the bald guy freaked out seeing her chug it. With a mischievous glint, the warrior continued his tale about being saved by a mercenary who taught him loads. Meanwhile, she finished the drink, her face turning tomato red. Still calm, he turned to the nervous guy and said the first lesson was to repay kindness double and grudges tenfold, and the second was never to trust someone smiling with hidden motives. That's when the glass slipped from her hand. As a side effect, she felt heavy, and darkness slowly wrapped around her. Before she fell, Sig gently caught her, holding her close. Even though it was a kind move and knowing she'd be okay, he supported her while locking eyes with Mark. With a cold, dark look, he faced the man's silence, waiting for truths he clearly didn't want to spill. Then, Mark reached for his sword, matching the icy stare of the scarred young man. While holding his queen, Sig kept a firm gaze on the enemy ahead. Mark's anger showed when he asked, through gritted teeth, when the other had caught onto his plans. But for someone betrayed so many times, that question was pointless, shown with a cold smile. With swift moves, the warrior fought, keeping his companion safe, showing conviction like never before. But as more enemies showed up, he had to lay her down, still dizzy from the drink. Soon, Mark's crew jumped in from all sides for a team attack. Then, he turned, alert to every move, showing he knew their game from the start. In the middle of a blue explosion, the warrior appeared with his cape flying, wrapped in chaotic energy. In sync, he moved between golden and blue flashes, with brutal, epic speed. One dude charged in, blasting out this wild blue energy, eyes locked on the target, totally wanting him gone. But, boom, The red sword sliced through it like it was nothing. Then, bam, he hit back hard, unleashing a golden explosion that blinded the enemy. He was still up against a bunch of armed guys, swords clanging everywhere. The fight was intense. In the chaos, Sui looked worried, eyes wide, expecting the worst. Curious, she stepped closer, asking what was up, and he whispered her name. Chill. He told her to bounce with Minerva, who was still down and super mad about the whole mess. Even though she didn't want to, she took Minerva, insisting she could help, but he was like, nah. His eyes went cold again, gripping the red sword tight, making it clear it was about to wrap up. The goons laughed it off, clueless that the end was near. Wanting to finish it, he made it clear he was taking everyone down. Quick and slick, he popped up in front of one enemy, demanding to know who was behind the attack. To the enemy, he was like a sword-dancing ninja, but got no answers. Despite the pressure, all he got was a bunch of curses as they charged back, all fired up. Their weapons clashed with the red one, blocking a hit aimed at his face. Then, with a burst of power, he spread his arms, blasting two enemies away. The move took a lot out of him, and he caught his breath as smoke rose from the blade. But something was coming, and his instincts kicked in. Looking up, he saw something zooming in, leaving him shocked. Above, Mark swooped down, glowing red, ready to strike with his sword. A blue light shot from the weapon, kicking off the meteor strike to wipe out the foe. The warrior was cornered by the sudden attack. The energy was so thick, it turned into a rainbow, about to slam into him. But mist swirled at his feet, showing he had a plan. Then, the attack exploded, leaving a smoke mushroom. Everything around was wrecked. Meanwhile, the scarred warrior stayed kneeling, hurt but gripping his weapon tight. He thought the attack was pointless, and the enemy's vision was super narrow. Still, no time to think, as another hit came for his face. Even hurt, he dodged the relentless attacks from that sneaky dude. Just before a red lightning strike, he reacted in time. In the new explosion, a red glow burst from the chaos. The enemy, grinning wickedly, thanked him for catching on to his plan, though it was a letdown. Despite the taunt, the swordsman stayed strong, his weapon soaking up loads of energy. With his special vision on, his look got even sharper and more strategic. As he geared up to move, an enemy jumped him, demanding to know his plan. But the hit was blocked by the blade. Then a new move kicked in, Flying Cobra and Greedy Toad. The first hit was the closest one, zapped by golden rays from the sword. He charged in, taking the enemy out midair, leaving the rest freaked by his deadly style. With icy eyes, he aimed at anyone daring to get near the red sword. Even with his clear power, another enemy tried to take him head-on. The swords clashed in a test of strength, while a mere goon tried to match him. During the clash, the bald guy taunted him again, doubting he was more than just a name. Ticked off, he focused his energy, swearing payback for the damage done. To dodge bigger issues, the swordsman quickly backed off from the pressing hit. With gritted teeth, he felt the pressure, looking for a way out. The enemy's energy turned dark and intense, channeling into a special move called Jagger's Vision Destroyer. When it hit the ground, the impact cracked it, blue energy bursting everywhere. Still, he didn't back down, walking into danger, fearless. He punched the ground, making more cracks, set on ending the fight. Then he sprinted straight at the destructive wave, ready to show his real power. As he neared the impact, he planted his feet, prepping the final move. With his hand ready, he was set to crush his enemy's hopes. Soon, another explosion rocked the place, smoke filling the air. Watching, the enemy thought the fight was done. Golden rays started dancing through the mist, like a light show in the sky. Out of nowhere, the warrior popped up, faster than a TikTok trend, ready to wreck everything. The bald dude was shook when he saw the other guy using his own arm as a shield, but the young dude didn't care about the screams or drama. His eyes were locked on, wiping out the bad guys. And boom, he smashed the opponent's sword with a killer move. The weapon flew off, like it was yeeted into the horizon. While the swordsman stood tall, his opponent was down on one knee, totally out of gas. Without missing a beat, he said he'd end the enemy's chaos, who was now shaking in his boots. In a panic, the guy spilled the beans that Kevin Argorin from Weapon Best's store was the real villain. Even with the confession, the warrior was like, duh, I knew the old man's son was behind it all. But after all he'd been through, he couldn't just let it slide, saying the dude should have been sneakier. Despite everything, he pushed on through the smoky air. Soon, his buddy came running, worried about his beat-up state, but he waved her off, saying it was all over. As the blood dripped, his eyes sparkled, showing he wasn't backing down. With effort, he explained he was just following his second sword's choice, which didn't want to end him, touching the girl's heart. But his worn-out body finally gave up, and he hit the ground, still clutching the red sword. Then out cold, he was lying there, covered by a sheet, looking all peaceful. Slowly, he blinked awake, trying to figure out where he was, face wrapped in bandages. Sitting up, he wondered who brought him there. He spotted someone holding a cup, warning him not to move too much. Surprised, he tried to figure out who it was, while sweat dripped between the bandages. The guy in front, with brown hair, had a chill smile and greeted him nicely. Turns out, it was the second prince of Emilia, Pius. Flashback to the royal castle, 5 years ago. In a rage, a fist slammed the table. Tadris, the first prince, was fuming, announcing Duke Parthenon's death, making the room tense. In the chaos, he demanded the protagonist's execution, calling him a killer. But a strong voice cut in, defending the swordsman as a real warrior. Annoyed, the prince glared at his brother, who accused the duke of old crimes and tyranny. With a sly grin, Pius backed the warrior as a noble heir, saying he just served justice. Still, another guy in a white uniform protested, praising the duke as a respected noble. Yet, the second prince said no one got the real story behind the scenes. With serious eyes, he pointed out the dead aristocrat's guilt to the gathered nobles. Despite this, Tadris, burning with hate, snapped back, saying his brother was clueless. In response, Pius just smiled and said he'd give the warrior a new name as a nod of respect. Back to the present, the scene shifts to the room where the swordsman was still healing. Even so, he found the prince's presence and the place he was taken to kinda weird. With a sly smile, the man explained this was his turf and he had a big question to ask. Then, he pointed to the door, hinting he'd found something. Slowly, the door creaked open, revealing what had the prince so curious. There were the swordsman's crew, along with the tiger, who'd patched him up before the royals showed up. Even so, he didn't get why the warrior was with those girls, still chatting about their bond. Sighing, the young man said it all started when he got stuck with the title of Warrior of Destruction. He remembered the lonely days in a village, always getting hassled by bullies. Because of this, he got hurt a lot, and now he felt more at ease with his new squad. Soon after, one of the prince's aides called his name, grabbing his attention. Coldly, he asked for more respect for his master. This ticked off the companion, who snapped back, only to be held back by the other. Her blunt reply made the guard uneasy, reaching for his sword hilt. That's when his name was dropped, Roches, and he was immediately stopped by the prince's order. Standing up, Pius asked if the warrior had any self-defense skills. With one hand on his hip, he stepped closer to the bed, recalling the motto of double gratitude. Once again, his intense stare screamed, "Payback's gonna be epic, dude." But the swordsman, totally chill, just eyeing him with a side of suspicion. The prince, acting all friendly, was like, "Bro, you owe me big time for all that stuff." Straight up, he was like, "Cut to the chase, man," shocked it was just a mission. Once he agreed, the dude spilled that his crew was getting picked off one by one. With so many losses, he was like, "Something's fishy," even if it seemed normal to others. Chill vibes, he added that even his bro's squad got hit by the same attacks. Getting the gist, the warrior figured his gig was to sniff out the baddies. But the prince was like, "Nah, that's not the main gig." Finger to lips, he whispered the real fear was the warrior's rep as a destroyer. The baddies were shook because he served justice like a boss, no mercy. So he became more than just a dude. He was like a walking justice meme. That's why PS was like, having him on my team would freak out the enemies. Smoothly, he was like, solve even one murder and we're golden. Classy move, he gave the swordsman a month to crack the case. Before bouncing, he headed to the door, a sly grin still on his face. He winked, inviting him to New Temion's sacred city to kick off the mission. Fed up with the drama, the young dude sighed like he wanted to vanish. In his head, he was all, ugh, more drama, while a dark vibe surrounded him. Then, his buddy rolled up with a nervous grin, asking how the chat went. He remembered using her as bait to dodge the bald dude, bracing for payback. He also recalled the tiger cubs that teamed up with her, trying to explain it all. So, he was like, chill. No one got hurt in the last rumble. Hearing this, the girl paused her punch, staying quiet. Even though he was surprised, he was nervous about her new reaction, used to her wild side. For the first time, she showed she cared, not wanting him hurt without her say-so. This confession left him speechless, seeing her softer side, which was her way of caring. But since he didn't say anything to calm her, her moody sword was like, "You mad, bro?" That was enough to kick off another round of bickering. Soon she tried to bite him, while he gently patted her head. Meanwhile, the blue-haired one looked sad, scared he'd get hurt or worse cause of her. Even trying to hide it, she struggled to keep her feelings in check. With her hand on her heart, tears fell, and she was like, "I hate seeing you hurt." So, she asked him to promise to use her if things went south, leaving him shocked. Faced with this, he smiled, wanting to show he got her feels. Even though he didn't spell out his feelings, he promised, showing he cared. Right after, the scene flips to the royal carriage, driven by a guard. Inside, the prince was deep in thought, staring out the window, until his servant spoke up. With a straight face, he wanted to know why the guard was all jittery. Worried, the other asked if the destroyer warrior could really handle the kingdom's mess. At that moment, the prince held an envelope, remembering Sig was still kicking after the duke's fall. He then wondered if others were also trying to ride the swordsman's power wave. The note in his hand said the supposedly dead duke would hit up the opposition, hinting it was all a revenge plot. So, he asked if Rashes had the guts to hit his goals and make his enemies pay. His question was so intense, his chill was obvious even in the carriage's dark vibes. Next, the kingdom of Amelia's capital, New Temion, pops up with its epic medieval buildings. As they rolled into the city, Minerva was totally awestruck by the view. Her eyes sparkled like gold, amazed by human achievements since forever. During the ride, he explained it was the only city safe from invasions, no lost artifacts here. Feeling awkward, he was like, "Stop gawking like a tourist. It's embarrassing." Then, he told them to pick up the pace, with the tiger and its cubs tagging along. On the way, the streets were packed, like a can of sardines, but with people. Sui was stressing about getting lost in the sea of humans. Minerva nodded, looking like she was ready for a nap. Out of nowhere, she waved her hand to grab everyone's attention. With a cheeky grin, she joked about making all the humans disappear. Even the tiger was amused. But then, the swordsman showed up, putting his hand on her and the tiger's head, totally catching them off guard. He was clearly ticked off, reminding them not to stir up trouble in the city. As they strolled past the stalls, a vendor was hyping up some shoes, catching Minerva's eye. Another stall had something to cancel out drug effects, and she was all about buying it, but got a big nope. She pouted, cheeks all red, feeling a bit let down. The swordsman noticed her sulking from the corner of his eye. Then he glanced at his other buddy, who was eyeing something with interest. She was checking out some hair clips, totally fascinated. He walked over and asked if she wanted one, offering to buy it for her. It was a shiny clip shaped like an ice flower, and they haggled over the price for a bit. He snagged the clip and handed it over with a low-key smile. She blushed and thanked him sweetly, surprised by the nice gesture. Suddenly, a clip flew over to the other friend, who thought she was in trouble. She was puzzled about getting a gift, which made the guy a bit worried. Even though she was stoked, she played it cool and acted all tough. The clip looked awesome in her hair, totally matching her vibe. With her arms crossed, she tried to hide her feelings, joking it might save him one day. As they wandered through the city, she thought about the history there. Watching her friends, she hoped to find something to break the cursed sword's hold. Even so, she saw them acting like sisters, knowing that, as weapons, those bonds could snap easily. Soon she reached the spot where the prince was waiting, all jittery. In his presence, the sword of resentment made its dislike for the noble super clear. But he was curious about the mission, hearing he was just supposed to play detective. With his usual smug grin, the prince admitted he was just using the warrior title for clout. He joked that his look wasn't scary enough, suggesting something like Amelia's terror. Winking, he said the new nickname would stir up a storm. Impressed by the dark-haired friend's style, he complimented her taste. But the main guy was annoyed at the idea of fitting into the new title, thinking of telling her off. After the meeting, they entered a fancy hall where big shots were chatting. The first prince, Todris, was worried about his brother's no-show due to his bad manners. King Winston was there too, grumbling about the complaints. He scoffed, saying the second son was the real boss of what they'd built. The second prince was uncomfortable, rejecting his brother's background. The king was surrounded by kids who ditched their duties for fun. Then, the butler announced Pius's arrival, cutting through the chatter. He walked in with his usual friendly vibe. His brother was not happy. Annoyed he showed up after the king. Pius explained he was late because he was with a guest, piquing his dad's interest. With the green light, the prince got ready to introduce the guest, making his brother even madder. The guest approached slowly, while everyone whispered about who he was. Passing by the nobles who knew him as the guy who took down Duke Parthenon, he reached the king. Now in fancy clothes, a black cape, and a fresh haircut, he looked totally different. But for Todris, it was a no-go seeing him there after taking out an aristocrat, even a bad one. The first prince ordered the guards to nab the duke's killer, but no one dared to touch the warrior of condemnation, shaking in their boots. With his usual chill, he said taking out the duke was fair, given the crimes. When he arrived, he drew his sword, which gave off a freezing vibe, showing he meant business. He made it clear his actions weren't shameful, as they were all about justice. As he spoke, icy power wrapped around him, spreading everywhere. The chill hit hard, making all the fancy folks shiver, feeling the dude's intense vibes. Out of nowhere, he zoomed past the crowd, leaving everyone shook with his lightning speed. One guy was all shaky when the warrior's hand landed on his neck, totally freaked out. Then, he dropped his intro, all formal and no drama, keeping it short and sweet. He gave the king a nod, totally ignoring the rest of the big shots. The king chuckled quietly, while the first prince was all eyes, super curious. Then boom, the king burst out laughing, catching everyone off guard with his over-the-top reaction. But just like that, he stopped, shooting a mean glare, saying it was no accident. So, he told everyone to bounce, as whispers started flying around. This cranked up Todris's rage, hearing the warrior say he was just doing what the people wanted. Meanwhile, the second prince stayed chill, and the others got that the duke was a big deal for the older bro. Knowing this, he realized that the fallout from that death was a big deal. Looking at the throne, he saw the king trying to hide his anger, telling everyone to get back to the feast. Soon, the ball kicked off into Temion, a big deal for the nobles, happening every couple of months. At first, everything seemed chill, but there was some shady stuff going on behind the scenes. Even with friendly faces, they were all about their own agendas, pretending to be all nice. To him, it was clear it was all a show, a quiet battle for power. Suddenly, a tap on his shoulder made him spin around. With his usual grin, PS said hey and hyped up his entrance in front of the nobles. But the warrior wasn't buying that he'd ever be accepted by those who tried to take him down. Around him, some ladies gave him the side eye, treating him like some kind of beast. Soon, the first prince winked, saying it was all thanks to rumors flying around. He spilled that these rumors came from those wanting to mess up his hero rep. It was clear his presence freaked out those ruling with shady tactics. Trying to lighten the mood, the prince said this was just the start of the wild ride. Naturally, he suggested staying strong, as it would bring in allies among the nobles. Yet, the main dude thought that in the power game, nobody cared about the real ones. Just then, someone called out to him, and he turned around. He spotted a girl with short hair and a pink hat, tears in her eyes, unsure about coming closer. Seeing her, he noticed her sadness and shyness. Fed up with it all, he ran a hand through his hair, saying he wouldn't do anything to her. Soon after, the little girl called her friends, saying it was cool to meet the kingdom's hero. Once he reassured them, the kids gathered around, stoked to be with the warrior of destruction. While they fired off excited questions about his title, someone suddenly showed up. With her usual cheeky grin, his partner claimed he was her servant and a big hassle to deal with. Right away, the kids turned to her, asking about how a servant should act, making her beam with pride. But the fun didn't last, as behind her, a clenched fist was coming in hot, ready to set things straight. Feeling the heat, she started sweating, knowing she'd pay for her teasing. Soon after, the sword of resentment popped up, laughing and warning everyone they'd be doomed with her, making the kids scatter. With a cold stare, he thought the kids didn't get what was really going down, still too innocent. Then he headed towards a massive fancy door, ready to tackle a new mission. At dusk, he was chilling on the castle's upper balcony, tired of the same old stuff, looking for some peace in the sky. Out of nowhere, a blonde woman appeared with a gentle smile, asking if dodging monsters was easier than facing them. She introduced herself as Princess Lauraai Amelia, all dressed up and looking calm. Respectfully, he bowed, showing off his gentleman's side, but she got closer, asking him to drop the formalities. With a smooth tone, she said she left the hall out of frustration, drawn by the moon's beauty that night. As she walked past him, she kept talking about the night's charm and how it brought her there. Then, out of the blue, she asked why people bothered with such boring stuff. She soon hinted he knew why, touching his chest, pressing close, asking if he wanted to call her out right there. With a twinkle in her eye, she hinted it'd be way more fun than chasing bad guys. But he knew all about the princess's rep and her habit of mingling with everyone in the kingdom. Staring at her scheming face, he said nobody could be into such deep-down sadness. His blunt words struck a chord, sparking a weird thrill in her, used to a life of hollow thrills. Chillin' on the balcony, she asked if he was there for power, like everyone else. Suddenly, she dropped the brave act, admitting everyone in the castle was out for themselves. He pointed out she didn't seem to dig her own crib, making her eyes show real sadness. With a quiet voice, she admitted she saw no other way to get anything but by using her looks. Turning with a wind in her hair, she tried to act tough, saying this was her chosen path. But he wasn't one to fall for games, leaning against the wall, hinting there were other ways out. She just listened quietly, while he said the only way to live was to fight till the end. He watched her from the side, asking if she really believed her own worldview. Softly, she closed her eyes, saying it'd be awesome if fighting could really change things. After that, she thanked him for the hangout and said goodbye calmly. As she walked away, she glanced back, hinting at a more private meetup. Once the princess left, he just watched her go, staying silent. Despite her moves, it was tough for anyone to grab the warrior's attention, who leaned back on the balcony. In his mind, she was just another target, a princess pretty on the outside but rotten inside. Soon after, a scream echoed from one of the corridor's many rooms. Inside, the partner was yelling, asking what he was doing with her head being squeezed. He was mad because the sword of resentment popped up without his say-so, and he wanted to punish her. But the other buddy was also ticked, thinking he'd cheated with another girl. Still, he kept slapping the queen's head, who was begging for help, making it almost funny. Suddenly, the first prince showed up, asking if he knew Albert Frederick. Of course, he said he did, as Albert was one of the top 5 warriors, known as the Steel Knight. This title goes to young folks who get super strong early and are the continent's ultimate power. With a bit of awkwardness, Pius revealed this warrior wanted to duel him. Hearing this, he got nervous, as such invites were rare. Facing the danger, his vibe changed, and he quickly called his crew to bounce with him. Truth is, he wanted to dodge the mess, seeing it as a big problem, worrying the prince. Fuming, he burst out, saying accepting the challenge was like signing up for doom. Then, he started teasing, hinting there was something fishy in his behavior, making him suspicious. He then asked a creepy question. If he knew a guy named Sigmund Frederick. Finally, the partner innocently asked if they should still run from these issues. And so, the new scene kicked off with a group camping in the forest, where one said he hated kids. Another, while grilling meat, said he hated even more those who yelled or talked loudly. The third, with a chill vibe, said nobody should care about the weak, as they just wasted food. The woman in the group grinned weirdly, saying she loved kids, especially warrior ones. She soon stood up, facing a white-haired boy lying on the ground. That was the main dude as a kid, with his wrists tied and mouth covered. Cockily, the woman said, being of the Jagger line, he have a short life but good sale value. So, one of the guys brought his foot close to his face, while the boy seemed hopeless. There, a mean dude thanked for the boy's existence with a creepy smile. Even tied up, the kidnappers asked if he had anything to say, until they were shocked to see him open his lips, even gagged. In a quick move, he headbutted one of the attackers hard. Then, he got up and started running like crazy, trying to save his own skin. But as he sprinted, one dude stuck out his foot, tripping him hard. He hit the ground, and the others were all. His family's tough, no wonder he's fierce. Then the armored guy was like, no time to chill, who knows what he'll do next. Even hurt, he was all, I'll be back to wipe you out, which freaked one kidnapper out. Fueled by rage, the boy was like, I'll get justice myself. But one kidnapper pinned him down, pressing his neck to the dirt. The bad guy sneered, how's a weakling like you gonna take us down? Another blamed their soft treatment for his defiance. The woman in the crew mocked, a kid like you doesn't stand a chance. Then they beat him again, making his injuries worse. Cruelly, the same guy asked how he'd escape now. But then, a mysterious voice was like, he'll do more than you think. Above, a hooded swordsman appeared, sword gleaming. With force, he clashed his weapon against the enemy's axe, sparks flying. The attack was blocked just in time, and the stranger stepped back. Quickly, the three kidnappers teamed up to face the newcomer. It was a young dude with dark hair and a chill smile, holding a lollipop. Calmly, he said he was looking for the Duke Parthenon's crew. Then, he took off his cloak, still smiling, and said, I'm Sigmund, the Proud. Chill as ever, he said finding them was tough and asked for the boy back. He promised to spare them if they handed over the kid, still looking friendly. But before they could answer, one threw an axe at a tree with force. The visitor didn't flinch, treating it as a clear warning. They called him a fool for not fearing the hunter's squad. Still smiling, he said, message received. Hearing the taunts, he got ready to fight, moving in with precision. Even through flames, he showed total control of his moves. With his speed, he confused the enemies, who couldn't keep up. One guy told the woman to use magic to light up the place. Meanwhile, another admitted he couldn't see, but death was close. In a precise strike, the swordsman took him out with cold precision. Soon after, light magic shone from the woman's hand, but she saw one of her allies down on the ground. His name was Jeremy, and the invader mocked the weak, hunting dogs. Outraged, the leader yelled for Grace to back him up as he attacked. Fueled by rage, he swung wildly. No technique, just anger. But the cloaked guy dodged and blocked all the attacks easily. Every enemy blow was blocked with precision and strength by the shiny blade. The clash of weapons sparked, showing the battle's balance. But soon the tables turned, and the hunters became the hunted. Tired of playing, the swordsman warned he wouldn't hold back anymore. Still, one insisted it was all nonsense and kept pressing with his sword. And when the attack lost steam, his face got smashed, leaving him to scream and curse, while the other stood victorious. With a cold stare and total focus, he readied his fist for the final hit. Then, he struck the enemy's chin hard, knocking him out completely. After winning, he just held his weapon, looking at the fallen body, showing who the real hunter was. Then he walked silently to the body on the ground, no remorse. But there was still one left, and with his weapon on his shoulder, he said he'd finish it. Then something caught his eye. Flames suddenly flared up nearby. A huge fire spread, like the start of an inferno. The woman was casting a powerful spell, symbols boosting the flames. From afar, she thought she'd won, thinking he was toast. But as she held the scepter, she saw a shadow moving in the fire. Even in the flames, he smiled and sarcastically praised the spell. Scared, the woman ran, calling for Leader Benjamin, with no one left to protect her. Just like the kids she bullied, now she was the one in despair. Trying to save herself, she ran to the hurt boy, using him as a human shield. With a tiny knife, she threatened his life if the swordsman got closer. Even so, he agreed and opened his hand, facing it all with coldness. In the woman's eyes, you could see pure despair, while the boy was crying quietly. Then, he started moving towards the hostage, all set to fix everything. In a flash, he kicked the sword, aiming like a pro. The boy was totally freaked out by the scene, looking away. But in the end, another baddie bit the dust, and his pain was finally over. Now free, he was just left with his hands tied up. The swordsman let out a big sigh of relief and checked if he was okay. Using the knife, he cut the ropes and asked if the boy had figured out how to survive yet. With his head down, he admitted he'd been through worse. The savior mentioned that the bad guy was seriously cruel. Then they introduced themselves. One was a mercenary and the other a warrior's descendant. After that, a double payment was offered for the help, leaving the boy totally shocked. With a cheeky grin, he said that was his life motto. Before heading out, he said kindness and gratitude should be paid back double, but grudges, according to him, should be paid back tenfold. In the end, it turned out his sword, named Shadow, had a black aura. A year later, the two started living together, camping in the forest and munching on snacks. The mercenary praised the skewer he made, feeling like a top chef. Meanwhile, little Sig got all shy, saying the skewer wasn't that epic. Looking at him, the older one saw the tough times were fading away. Now the boy seemed to be living like a kid his age should. While munching on his sweets, he thought finally something good happened in his life. But Jagger warned that too many sweets could mess up his teeth and heard he should skip smoking. Like a responsible kid, he said overdoing sweets wasn't smart, getting props for being so unique. Then, the two hit up a bar restaurant for a decent meal. But the mercenary was already chugging drinks and slammed his glass on the table with excitement. Totally buzzed, he celebrated the moment with a beer cheer. Then, he asked if the boy wanted a sip, and the little one asked where they were, hearing it was a restaurant. While chatting about their plans, a pretty waitress served the food. Calmly, he flipped through papers and said the boy should be more straightforward. But reading a news article got him all riled up, and the little one wanted to know why. The article said the Cadrigo family was wiped out, which made him furious. He remembered their mansion, where he did an important job. They were the only ones who knew the Duke's dirty secrets and planned to spill the beans. Meanwhile, they got destroyed, and the evidence went up in flames with the house. Because of this, they were doomed, and now something had to be done fast. Then, the boy asked his buddy to sort everything out quickly. The vibe was tense, knowing the Duke's trackers could show up any second. So, they dashed into the night, led by the mercenary. During the escape, he explained they had to go back. No other choice. Curious, the boy asked where they were headed and was told it was the safest spot on the continent. But suddenly, a scary light came at them, trying to hit. Quickly, he spun around and blocked it with his sword to protect his buddy. With a serious look, he realized the enemies were already coming to take them out. This time there were loads, all hooded, with masks and weapons, hiding in the trees. So, he called the boy firmly, getting him ready to follow any order. Smiling, he promised to clear the way and that the little one shouldn't worry. After giving instructions, he jumped straight into the fight with the first enemy. His moves were on point, taking out the first one easily. But then, a new fiery attack came from behind, putting him in danger. Luckily, the blow was blocked just in time, and the swords clashed hard. Actually, it was the boy himself who protected him, fighting to defend him. The attacks came from everywhere, front, back, and even above. With a powerful slash, the enemies planted their swords in the ground, showing they wouldn't back down. But they only hit the mercenary's cloak, as he had already dodged with the boy. When one of the attackers turned, he was shocked by the boy's determined look. Smiling, the older one said it was time to learn a key lesson in battle. Soon after, the enemies charged in a new wave of attacks. The blades came fast, and the boy feared for his protector's life. Then, he heard that the best way to win was to use the terrain to their advantage. So, his eyes went all icy again, and he just wiped out his enemies with laser-like precision. He threw out a challenge, asking if anyone else was brave enough to step up after seeing his epic power move. Then, he went on the offensive, dragging his sword like a boss, calling those guys nothing but hunting dogs. But he wasn't about to go easy on them, just moving forward with deadly accuracy. The dust was everywhere, making it hard for the bad guys to see, and they were whining about his mad skills. Out of nowhere, one of them got totally blindsided and was staring down the barrel of doom. No second thoughts, he delivered a killer blow that ended the dude's game. The body hit the ground, and his sword was dripping with blood. Chill and menacing, he left a message for the Duke's crew. No sugarcoating. He asked, all cold, if that was the best they could throw at him. Then, the story jumped back to now, with Albert Frederick, the Steel Knight, rolling in. He was hunting for deets on the guy who saved the kid back in the day, showing mad respect with a head bow. Still shook, the kid finally spilled that the hero was gone. The news hit the knight so hard, he smashed a chair in pure agony. He took a deep breath, but his sadness was all over his face. In the quiet, the kid just waited for some kind of reaction. Finally, the older dude dropped the bomb that the mercenary was his only son, leaving the kid totally floored. Then, he shared how his son tried to come back to face the Duke. With shaky steps, he wanted to know how someone so epic had died. The kid was all gloomy, too scared to meet his eyes. The old man demanded answers, and the silence just made him more ticked off. Still, the kid knew he had to say something to ease the pain. With effort, he looked up and promised to reveal the real story of his master. but he laid down 2 conditions, which really ticked off the knight. He wasn't having his son treated like some object, and his anger was crystal clear. Then, the scene switched to a packed arena, with everyone buzzing for the fight to start. From up high, someone said no matter how tough he was, Jagger didn't stand a chance against a kingdom knight. Above the crowd, 3 thrones were set, with 2 princes already there to watch the showdown. Tadris, always grumpy, poked at his younger bro, saying he was too chill about the guest. But Pius just grinned, saying the day was too awesome for drama. Annoyed, the other turned away, showing his zero tolerance. Soon, a voice told him to zip it, and he turned to see who it was. Then the king of Emilia showed up with his guards, getting a warm welcome from his sons. Calmly, he sat down and shut his eyes, tuning out everything. But something caught his eye. His daughter Lauraai's seat was empty, just a wilted flower left behind. Seeing this, he refused to call her to the event. He said there was something more important to check out. Meanwhile, the announcer hyped up a big duel in Emilia, a land of epic pride. It was going to be the Knight of Steel versus Signature Jagger, famous for taking down Duke Parthenon and earning the title of Warrior of Condemnation. Then, the announcer called the fighters to the arena, and they both stepped up at the same time. They stood face to face under the red sky, ready to throw down. Next, they got into position, but the older guy turned around, leaving the young dude curious about his move. Soon, he spoke to the king, and everyone wondered why the fight hadn't kicked off yet. He touched his face, armor, and bowed, kneeling before the royalty. Kneeling, he said he had something important to discuss before the fight. The king, all chill, asked him to spill, and heard it was a shame to fight his own junior. So, the knight proposed that if he got hit by the young guy's sword, he'd accept defeat and grant any favor. Tadris was fuming at the request, shouting about how ridiculous it was. But his dad shut him down, demanding silence, clearly fed up with his antics. With calm, the king said he was the one dealing with Sigmund. After that, the request got the green light, and the knight thanked him for the consideration. Almost whispering, he asked the young guy if he was cool with how things turned out. With eyes closed, the young guy confirmed he was stoked about his plan working out. Soon after, the knight adjusted his armor and told the opponent to bring his A game. In a flash, he drew his sword, which gleamed intensely, showing off his strategic coolness. There was the epic red dragon's sword, all set for battle. Meanwhile, the opponent took a deep breath, ready to give it his all. In one hand, he had the ice sword, Sui, and in the other, the dragon's, staying chill despite the risk. Remembering a chat with the blue-haired girl, he asked for her help again. Even though he hesitated, he thought maybe he was asking too much, but she was like, sure thing. Determined she was all, I'll give you all my power, no worries. While they were having a moment, someone else was watching, feeling all left out and salty. For her, being ignored was a no-go, and she wanted her strength to be noticed. Back in the fight, the young dude thanked her and started channeling the power. With a slick move, he whipped up an ice spiral, making it super chilly. His eyes showed the coldness from his master, acting with precision. Every hit he made created ice spikes all over the arena, but the opponent stayed cool, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. Soon, he was ready to smash the icy attacks with a powerful hit. Behind the armor, his eyes were all murder mode, while the other guy zoomed around. Wielding the red dragon's sword, he channeled some serious energy. With eyes glowing red, he unleashed a massive blow. And so, the real showdown began, swords clashing in an epic duel. The young guy kept an eye on the knight's moves, gathering more icy power. Finally, he launched a killer attack, but the opponent blocked it with his shield. But the fight wasn't over, and the red sword came in for round 2. Then, ice and fire powers teamed up in a spinning strike, pushing the opponent back. Still, he held his ground, using the shield to block the force. Soon after, the young dude jumped into the air, holding his weapons tight. He got so fast, it was like trying to catch a shadow. Then, he set up a new combo with his swords, putting the pressure on. After the hit, he backed off to catch his breath and make some space. Once more, he channeled the flaming blade's energy and went all out. As a taunt, the opponent complemented the hit, eyes locked from inside the helmet. The energy hit the shield, making the clash even more intense. Still, he managed to fend off the attack while the rival hung in the air. Even hurt, the boy knew this fight wasn't going to be easy. Soon, he got hit hard by an impact that blew up in his face. With no time to react, he got dragged by the debris, badly hurt. Unable to move, he lay in the wreckage, all bruised up. Meanwhile, the other guy came closer, still wrapped in the attack's energy. Then, he revealed his strength came from the Joveu's sword, a kingdom of Emilia treasure, shining with all the colors. He was totally worthy of being the Knight of Steel, taking all the hits without falling, to the crowd's cheers. Even injured, the young guy was coughing a lot from the damage. Suddenly, someone called him pathetic, and their shadow loomed over him. With icy eyes, Minerva offered her power, saying she'd do anything to win. Reaching out, she said even a god would fall if it was for him. But he didn't answer, just watched silently, holding back his feelings. As he stood up, he announced that part of the fight was done, surprising her. With a sly smile, he pointed to the horizon, saying now it was really going to start. As she watched him leave, his partner called out, while he kept his usual cool look. Upset, she whispered, it was harsh to leave her after everything. After pulling himself together, he walked back to face the knight. Albert was waiting, eyes sharp, saying, it was time to wrap it up for now. Still coughing blood, the young guy gathered strength and called on the ice sword's power. Ready to wow the crowd, he started unleashing his energy. Even in pain, he grinned and declared he'd give it everything he had. With determination, he drove the sword into the ground, using all his remaining strength. Right away, a swirling ice mist started forming. Sensing danger, the knight stayed on guard, ready to react. He knew the plan was to mess with his moves, so he stayed focused, and the aura started glowing under his armor. While the other guy worked his strategy, he got his defense ready. On one side, he used the shield against the ice, and on the other, he smashed the crystals with his sword. But as he tried to dodge, he noticed something weird heading his way. Whoa, dude was totally caught off guard by that flaming sword attack. It hit the shield like a whip, no cap. For a sec, he was all impressed by the move, like something epic just clicked in his brain. Then, he figured out that Dragon Sword was way more OP than he thought. He got that the enemy's attack style was all about this strategy called Created Square. While checking out every move, he realized this tactic was a solid way to win. But the other guy had his own tricks, and his rainbow sword was no joke. That power made the other dude freeze. Like, how do you even escape that? The hit was so epic. A wave of energy just blasted across the field. Still, the knight stayed on his feet, even though he was totally wiped out. For the first time, he whispered that this duel was seriously tough. One of them was super beat up after all those crazy attacks. While the young dude tried to catch his breath, he got props for using the sword to make up for no mana. The opponent was like, maybe chill before you totally burn out. But he was like, nah, I'm not done yet. No way. All focused and ready, he said there was still something big to show. Then, he crouched down and got set for his next epic move. With insane speed, he dashed in a straight line, cracking the ground beneath him. He was so fast, even his enemy couldn't keep up with his moves. In response, the knight got ready to counter, sword aimed and all. But the boy just kept going, even if it meant risking it all. At first, it looked like he got nailed by the final attack. This made the opponent freak out, thinking he might have gone too far. But he popped up with a fierce look, wielding Soi like a boss. Seizing the moment, he landed a direct hit on the knight's armor. The impact was so wild, the helmet went flying. Without a word, the man just stared at the sword aimed at his neck. And the young dude's eyes had that same icy vibe as his old mentor. Meanwhile, the old guy realized he was caught in the trap on the ground. Too late to do anything, the ice was already creeping up his legs. The crystals grew, making the technique's goals super clear. Right then, his face was like, oh snap, too late to get it. Then, the young dude jumped and pulled off his last move of the plan. Even trying to fight back with the sword, the knight was already kinda stuck. Freaked out, he heard the others say it was all to show a memory of Sigmund. Seeing the young dude's chill smile, he saw his own kid's reflection. But it was all a setup to land a direct headbutt. The skull hit was brutal, sending the enemy flying. Meanwhile, the young dude backed off, tired, looking for a safe spot. Even with a partial win, he knew this opponent was no joke. Albert was still standing, but the other guy was down, totally spent. Silence took over after what just went down. Minerva and the princes were shook by how the fight ended, but the crowd was going wild, cheering like crazy. Even standing, the knight coughed, showing he was hurt. Suddenly, the king started clapping for the epic show. With a chill smile, he said both seemed to have lost, even while winning. Agreeing with the king's take, the knight admitted he almost got wrecked. Then, a messenger rushed in with some urgent news. A young dude went up to the king, telling him about another brutal murder victim. So, the case got added to the list of mysterious crimes. Soon after, the scene switched to a foggy part of the city. There, the young dude with a scar pounded his chest and called out. But the sword guy only noticed him after a bit, surprised to see him. Even feeling awkward, he nodded, confirming he was there. Both stood in front of a dark mansion, deciding to check it out. Inside, it was all quiet and empty, like a ghost town. As they went further, something caught their eye right away. In front of them, a lifeless body lay, blood splattered on the walls. Then, the younger one got closer, checking out the crime scene. He asked his partner about the weird fact that the body was clean, even with a sword used. No defensive wounds showed the victim was taken out without a fight. This clearly showed the killer was superior and known to the victim. Such a theory pointed to the perp having ties with noble circles. So, the investigator asked if there were any suspects. All right, buckle up, because this story is about to get a glow up. The other dude suggested the first prince but threw in some details that totally didn't add up. Among them were messages left for followers, like a threat to the warrior of destruction. Spooky, right? To the young guy with the scar, this was just someone trying to twist the rumors about him. As the crimes piled up, His rep as a royal vigilante blew up all over the city. This freaked him out, because someone was using his name to hide their shady plans. Soon, his buddy gave a sneaky grin and asked who he thought was the bad guy. Even though Prince Pius was on the list, there was a sketchier crew involved. This crew, made up of nobles who ditched the monarchy, hadn't taken any hits yet. They were called renegades and had totally ghosted the royalty. After checking out the spot, they rolled up to a nearby mansion. There, the dark-haired dude knocked on Jamie Alestro's door. Suspicious. The host showed up and thought the surprise visit was kinda sus. But he got all alert when he saw who else was tagging along in silence. Then, he hyped up the young guy for his epic battle against the Steel Knight. In response, the young dude just gave a respectful nod. The other visitor cut the chit-chat and said they should get to the juicy stuff. So, the guy with the scar on his eye invited them to his room. The three sat around the table, while the host chilled in his armchair. Curious, he asked what brought them over out of the blue. That's when he heard about the 2 murders tied to the princes. The news made the guys start piecing together the crime puzzle. Soon, it was mentioned that, since he was one of the renegades, this made him look shady. This accusation made him super tense, and he asked if they thought he was a suspect. Then, the investigator coldly asked if he didn't see himself as a suspect. But that question was enough to make him lose it, grabbing his sword in a rage. Yelling like crazy, he said the prince had changed and his followers were toast, telling everyone not to trust him. However, his partner scolded him, telling him to stop acting like a traitor. Faced with this, the two squared up with their swords, ready to rumble. Soon, the homeowner tried to attack, but the detective blocked him without breaking a sweat. However, the young guy found it all super annoying and decided to step in. With a solid move, he stopped the blow before it could land. Acting all mature, he told them to quit the ridiculous fight. Then, he straight up asked if he wanted to off the prince. After a pause, the older guy admitted he felt like he was on trial. Every word from the young guy seemed to tick him off more and more. So, he asked if he was just a puppet dancing to the prince's tune. When it all wrapped up, the main dude headed back to his crib. Carefully, he thought before grabbing the doorknob. With a soft voice, he announced his arrival to his squad. Inside, he was greeted by the girls and the tiger. Yep, a tiger. With a slight grin, he asked if they were waiting for him. But one of them said she sensed his vibe, which was kinda expected. On the flip side, the more hot-headed one wasn't happy and showed it big time. To make it worse, the blue buddy innocently said she was bummed for not helping. Blushing like crazy, she warned that if he didn't use her, she'd stay sad. Even without saying it, he got why she was bummed out. With a chuckle, he suggested they go out to chill after all the drama. The idea got his partner hyped, and she followed him eagerly. However, when they got there, it was a grimy spot full of rats, not what she pictured. Nearby, a hooded dude was leaning against the wall with a rat chilling on his head. The crew went through an opening that looked more like a cave entrance. Curious, one of the girls asked why they were back in that place. With a cheeky grin, he said they'd get to know the real city there. Without a second thought, he led the way while the two followed him. Further ahead, already in the kingdom's sewer, torches lit up the dark path. With each step, the sound of gross water splashed underfoot. This made his grumpy sword even more annoyed, hating the route. When the young guy turned to chat, a knife flew his way. Quickly, he caught it between 2 fingers, like he saw it coming. Sui looked worried, while Minerva stayed chill. Even so, the young guy thanked them for the warm welcome. Inside the place, there were a bunch of dudes and a lady. The supposed leader didn't even know who the famous visitor was. Keeping his cool, the young guy said he wanted to buy info and demanded to see the guild leader. However, they treated him like a threat and kicked him out. Even so, he raised his hand and said he wasn't here to throw hands, just chat. But the other dude wasn't having it and lunged at him with a knife, totally ticked off. That made our guy see red, so he shut his eyes to keep his cool. Losing patience, he slammed the dude to the ground, cracking everything like a boss. The cocky enemy was out cold before he even knew what hit him. Right after, the rest of the crew got mad and rushed him, yelling all sorts of stuff. But the girl was the first to get schooled by his lightning-fast moves. Then, another one tried to jump him from above, but he dodged like a ninja. And, without missing a beat, he clocked the guy hard, knocking him out too. After taking down the trio, he paused and dragged his boot on the ground like a cowboy. With a chill vibe, he looked at the rest and asked who was next. But a long-haired dude stepped in, asking to chill out the chaos. He also said it wasn't as easy as the warrior thought. Meanwhile, Minerva yawned, thinking it was all a snooze fest. The old guild leader, Arthas, spilled that he knew everything from the castle to the sewers. He was the big boss of the underground info network. After a bit, everyone got taken to a main room in that place. There, some grub was served, which got the sword all hyped, while the elder got ready to chat. Carefully, he asked how long it had been since they last met and heard it was since the Duke's mansion went boom. He said 5 years was enough to change anyone, but the young dude said he still didn't know how to do that, while his buddy kept munching. Minerva, with her mouth full, asked if she needed a hall pass to eat, because she wasn't stopping. Then, the warrior cut to the chase and fiddled with his clothes. From there, he pulled out papers and said he wanted to buy info on everyone in the news. Arthas then said lots of folks were buzzing about the vigilante taking on the corrupt. With his eyes shut, the young man said it was all nonsense and shouldn't be happening. The elder, with a bandaged hand, said maybe it was true, as many believed it. Knowing the visitor well, he sensed there was more than just info behind it all. Suddenly, he tossed the papers in the air, scattering them everywhere. He revealed everyone mentioned were dangerous criminals, making the young man uneasy. Plus, he explained the victims' complaints were ignored, making it all more serious, and only someone like Pias, the royal pain, could cover tracks so well. For ages, this prince tried to show the weak had no place around him. So, the warrior got that the guy he visited with Aigu wanted to warn him the royalty was shady. He also realized that by taking down Albert, he could start something bad. Faced with this, he asked Arthas who the real baddie was. The old man thought and said if the two princes denied it, only Freeze, who bailed from power, was left. With thanks, the young man thanked for the info and started to say goodbye. The elder was curious about the sudden rush but kept quiet. Soon, the hero headed for the exit, with his crew tagging along. Meanwhile, the sword kept munching happily like a little rat. Behind them, the old man watched silently but felt something was off. Nearby, a cloaked figure with intense green eyes appeared, saying the vigilante was a problem for the country. He also said he'd take him down that night. After that, night fell over Amelia's castle under a starry sky. In the room, the young man snoozed peacefully, clueless about what was coming. Quietly, someone slipped into the room without leaving a trace, and, just inches away, was the same guy who promised to take him out. Then, the attacker raised his sword to strike, thinking the target was still out cold, but the guard from PS showed up and stopped the attempt. Without a second thought, he attacked and blocked the enemy solidly. The detective said he saw the attack coming and decided to act early. However, the scarred young man was already awake and moved fast to counter. The hooded figure froze, realizing he'd been caught. With force, the swords clashed, and sparks flew everywhere. During the fight, every move of the enemy was watched closely. Even surrounded, the assassin tried to make a run for it, and Saxon told him to halt. Still, he jumped and bailed through the window. The guard was ticked off by the sudden escape, but something on the ground caught the warrior's eye. There were broken golden cords, which could be a big clue. The next day, a figure roamed the castle halls looking for someone. Yo, so there was this blonde lady rocking a cape, just like the one from last night. Her green eyes and fancy clothes screamed royal guard vibes. Chill as ever, she knocked on Princess Laurai's door, and boom, the princess was there. The young noble, all elegant and stuff, let her in. Curious, she was like, what's up with the surprise visit? Then, the guard dropped the bomb, apologizing and spilling the tea on who tried to off the warrior. The princess seemed to already know, asking if the ally was cool. Out of nowhere, the main dude popped up at the door, catching them off guard. The guard spun around, totally shook, realizing she got busted. With a cheeky grin, he thanked her for the help from last night. Trying to switch it up, the woman whipped out her sword, saying he shouldn't be there. Ignoring the threat, he was like, I'm here to chat about the murders. He claimed Lauraai was the real mastermind, and none of her bros were that savage. Even with the bold claim, the princess stayed chill and asked for proof. Calmly, he showed the golden threads left at the crime scene. He said they weren't solid proof, but had a cool way to confirm. He called his tiger, which could sniff out the real owner of the thread. This ticked off Reina, but even the princess told her to chill. Acting all polite, Lauraai invited him to sit and chat. Once inside, the guard put away her sword. No more drama. The warrior sat down and got back to the main topic. He asked why so many nobles were getting whacked on her orders. Lauraai said they were all bad news and deserved it, but her real actions didn't match her justice talk. Even if the targets were shady, he wanted to know what she was really getting from these hits. Then, Lauraai spilled that the dudes close to her bros didn't care about the bad stuff happening. They even tried to use her as a bargaining chip, which made her super salty. To them, she was just a pawn to boost the corrupt's power. Faced with this, it was questioned if the king had ignored the occurrence, and it was clear she felt abandoned even by her own family. Even Winston, who held the title of king, did not interfere, and the strongest did as they pleased in his reign. Only those with high power gained privileges, including her brothers. For this reason, she became a target of disdain for being considered weak and unwanted by all. Because of this, she decided to act on her own, hiding her pain with a seductive smile. However, her story still didn't convince the protagonist about her connection to the murders. As someone who lived among the nobles of Amelia, she claimed to have witnessed many deaths caused by injustices. These memories made her repeat what she heard from the warrior, that the only way out was to fight to the end. Thus, she claimed to have tried to create a space where she truly belonged, instead of being used as a political pawn. However, when she tried to present someone as a symbol of change, she faced great rejection from the aristocrats. Even with so many justifications, It was clear she was using this as an excuse to gain power. Despite the victim pose, her intentions hid the desire to implement her own tyranny. Soon after, she stood up and walked towards him, arousing suspicion. Without reacting immediately, the young man watched attentively to see what she intended to do. Surprising everyone, she knelt on the floor before him. Keeping his guard up, he wanted to understand what that gesture meant. With a calm voice, she said she did everything to survive and now wanted to think of the people. Reina couldn't accept seeing the princess bow and tried to stop her, but she insisted on declaring herself. Without hesitation, the warrior approached and firmly held her chin. Then, he asked her to repeat her promise to do anything. Aware of the act, he realized he had won that game. Suddenly, several guards entered the room without warning. Egu tried to intervene, asking them to cease the conflicts. Even so, the princess's guard initiated a confrontation with the warrior. Despite the offensive, he managed to dodge the attacks with agility. Chaos ensued, and everyone witnessed the confession of the princess, who didn't even have family support. The warrior stated that his ally had arrived late, but the latter assured he would take over from there. Wielding the sword, he pressed the two women with his presence. Thus, the guard was officially accused of the murders of the nobles. After that, the warrior went to visit Lauraai, now isolated. Upon arrival, he was stopped by one of the cell sentinels. The sentinel calmly questioned the reason for his visit. He then replied that he only wished for a quick conversation. With courtesy, the guard allowed him entry, warning about the limited time. Inside the courtyard, the princess just sat there, super quiet. He walked over, all chill, and she didn't even glance his way. No words, no drama, she just kept her cool. So, he just stood there, watching her, thinking about his life choices. Then she gave him a side eye, asking if he was there to roast her. But he was like, nah. He had a different plan and spilled the beans about his idea. He got closer and whispered his plan in her ear. Suddenly, bam, a bright green light, and it was game on with him and the Steel Knight. Even with a wooden sword, he was moving like a pro. Meanwhile, Albert was going all out, blasting magic with every swing. They kept trading blows, with the old dude trying to land a hit. But the young guy was dodging like a ninja, making the old man mad. Then he went for a counterattack, getting right up in his face. But the knight was ready, grabbing his wrist, saying he was trapped. While waiting for the old guy's next move, he got swept off his feet. He hit the ground hard, teeth clenched from the pain. After that, Albert explained their family's style was all about skill, not magic. With little magic, winning straight-up fights was tough. The young guy nodded, saying that's why he learned other ways to throw down. He made it clear he'd never ditch his chosen path. Even tired, the old man admitted the kid had the same fire as his son. Before wrapping up, the warrior wanted a serious chat, but the knight got all sad, thinking about his son's death. He suddenly remembered a duel where the kid headbutted him. They sparred a lot, and the son was a headache with his stubbornness. Despite the falls, he always grinned, saying winning mattered more than family ties. When he left the family, he got a major scolding, but he only cared about inheriting the sword that took down the hunting dogs, the legendary Shadow. These memories made the old man nostalgic, unable to forget his son's smile. He honestly admitted seeing the young guy carry on the legacy was awesome, because when he looked at him, he saw the real hero of the Jagger clan. So, he asked if he needed help or wanted to get closer to Pius. But the young guy said he'd decide when all the greedy folks gathered. Then he went to meet someone else, who was chilling with coffee. There was the second prince, grinning, thinking about teaming up with the Steel Knight. But the warrior wanted a reward before helping, which seemed fair. Even though he seemed to trust him, the prince never fully bought into his potential. So, he started asking if he wanted cash, power, or to rebuild his family. That's when he spoke up, making it clear his ask wasn't going to be easy. He made a bold request to the prince, with a serious look. Jagger wanted all weapon best shops gone from the kingdom of Amelia, shocking the noble. He explained the Argo family ran all the weapons and he'd survived an assassination attempt because of it. He also said, as his master, he'd repay kindness double and revenge 10 times worse. The prince stayed cool, wanting to know what he'd gained from this demand. Even so, Pia said he'd try to meet the request, but thought about taking him out if he became a problem. Calmly, the warrior assured that once his demand was met, the prince wouldn't have to worry about him. But the request for making the king's son more impatient and edgy. Then, he asked if there were more demands, as this one was already pretty wild. Straight up, it was said this was all part of the royal succession battle. This got the prince thinking he'd have to shake things up to win. At that moment, it was requested that the rich folks of New Temion gather for the princess's trial. With that, Pius's hunger for power grew, making him forget his earlier worries. He stood up, promising he'd do everything asked and that his choices were spot on. With a grin, he left, saying he'd do anything to be king. As he left the warrior of condemnation alone in the room. But he wasn't totally alone. His two buddies and the tiger were there. Minerva joked he'd already chatted too much with the prince. His partner was all, I totally know what that dude's up to, hiding his real goals and stuff. Sui was like, so, Is the master going to follow the prince's plan or do his own thing? But the master was all mysterious, saying, not spilling the beans yet, leaving them both super annoyed. Still, he was pumped to see the bad guys trip over their own schemes. With a serious vibe, he was like, everyone who dragged me into this mess is going to pay big time. Then boom, cut to one of the kingdom's top weapon best shops. One of the workers got yeeted to the ground, totally wiping out. Turns out, it was the same dude who sold the cursed sword and tried to off the main character. Aigu rolled in to handle business, telling the guy to zip it. Meanwhile, the shop was a total disaster zone, stuff everywhere, workers juggling packages. The owner's kid was yelling, what are we even accused of? Then the old owner showed up, all stressed about the chaos. He was like, was all our royal support for nothing? But when he realized Prince Pius was behind it, his disappointment hit max level. Trying to keep it cool, he asked why all the drama. With a smirk, he got told it wasn't just a tax check. Straight up, he heard all the shops were getting wrecked. The news hit him hard, fearing everything he built was toast. His son lost it, saying the kingdom would be weaponless, and they couldn't just do that. But Pius was all tax dodging, illegal trades, and bribery. Oh my. The merchant fired back, saying their funds even helped the prince, so it wasn't enough to wreck them. Then the prince accused him of backing his bro Todris, saying they couldn't be trusted in the throne race. He also called out using other races, like dwarves, for weapon making, raking in cash off their work. With a cheeky grin, he asked Danz and Argo what he thought about all this. Out of words, the merchant just said business had its survival tricks. Things got worse when a warrior assassination attempt came up. Cornered, the owner's son was stuck, while his dad watched coldly. The prince spilled that the Raven mercenaries, led by Mark, were hired to take out the warrior of Amelia. Still, he said he could have busted them, but let it slide. The old merchant then said their only shot was to get Todris's protection, but Pius didn't care, too busy dreaming of throne glory. This ticked off the shop owner, sensing something off in the prince's ambition. Danzin shouted, this is nuts. Pius always had the real power. His dad then ordered him out of there. But the kid resisted, begging his dad to hear him out. The merchant, trying to be nice, was bummed about his son's antics in front of the prince. The royal heir, still smiling, said he'd remember the old man's honesty. Meanwhile, his guard grabbed a chest, and they bounced from the wrecked shop. Before leaving, he told the elder he'd fix everything when he became king. After they left, the shop was dead silent. The old man turned to his son, saying he was done with all the letdowns. Even though Danzin didn't mean harm, ordering the warrior attack was a big oops. He admitted Sig's drama was over the top, but he messed up not checking the sword. In the end, he just sighed, feeling sorry for it all. He even thought maybe business wasn't their thing anymore. Feeling down, he left the shop, while the workers stayed quiet. At the stairs, the son cried, bummed he didn't get his dad's approval. Tears fell as he confessed all he wanted was his dad to notice him. With care, the servant tried to cheer him up, saying the old man just wanted to keep him safe. But the young guy's anger only grew, fueling his hate for the warrior of condemnation. Determined, he vowed not to let it end like this. Without a second thought, he looked at his servant, ready for orders. With teary eyes and a dark grin, he asked if there was still a demonic sword around. The weapon was locked up with chains and magic, holding back its true power. All right, buckle up, because this story's about to get wild. So even though the servant was all dude, this is a bad idea, the seller was like, nah, let's do it. The plan? Hand the sword to some mercenary tough enough to throw down with a warrior, even if it meant both of them biting the dust. With a grin that'd make a villain proud, the young dude thought he could still lock up the sword's powers later. Soon, the chains started to slip off, like a bad magic trick. The servant was all, yo, don't touch it, or you'll get corrupted. But the sword's glow was all up in the young guy's eyes, and he was low-key freaked by the energy, whispering desire. Like he was under a spell, he moved closer, totally ignoring the servant's warnings. The sword was whispering sweet nothings about burning everything and granting any secret wish. Nothing could stop the deal, not even the loyal guard trying to save him. As soon as he grabbed the sword, the energy went wild. The force was so intense, it wrapped around him, ready to gobble him up. Inside, a woman appeared, promising power to slay as long as he lived. The pressure was insane, and he realized he majorly goofed. The servant was already down for the count, just from the sword's aura. Through the red mist, he spotted some wine-colored kicks coming his way. He froze when he saw the woman in front of him. With fiery red hair and a wicked grin, she was all about authority and beauty. With a dark smile, she revealed herself as Artemis, the sword of desire, ready to grant any wish. In her eyes, Danzin's face was lit up with greed. He bowed down to her, totally submitting. Surrounded by red flames, they vowed to torch everything around them. Finally, Artemis's powers were out. She could boost her bearer's desires, and her flames were hotter than a dragon's breath. After all that, the princess's trial kicked off, with everyone watching in the streets. The royal guard announced they'd found the noble killer thanks to the warrior of condemnation. Reina got accused, and she was fuming, defending the princess. Even under pressure, she stayed quiet, holding her ground. Her eyes showed the weight of being rejected and punished for fighting the corrupt. Inside, she didn't regret using her guard or trusting the warrior. Despite the chains, she tried to keep her cool until something unexpected happened. A little red-haired girl showed up with purple flowers and a sweet smile. Tears filled the prisoner's eyes, feeling she'd done nothing wrong. The people saw her as a freedom fighter, even if her rep took a hit. With a smile, she thanked the crowd, admitting she was also a pawn in the power game. When she reached for the flowers, she got stopped. A guard knocked them down, leaving everyone shocked. Saxon told her it was judgment time. In her mind, she knew the kingdom's fate was in Signature Jagger's hands. Before the tribunal, she knelt before the king, surrounded by a crowd. Some wanted Todris as the new king. Others backed the second prince. Chaos broke out with all the shouting and debates. Rumors said Piaz got strong thanks to Sig and Albert. Winston, tired of the chaos, demanded everyone zip it. Then, the king looked at his daughter and said her actions were interesting. She replied she only got rid of the kingdom's parasites. Without a second thought, she said she acted for the people, suffering under corrupt aristocrats. Even in court, she stood firm, saying she'd do it all again. But someone cut her off, calling her just an assassin. Then the prince rolled in with a warrior, saying he'd sorted out the crimes in Emilia. In front of everyone, he asked the nobles if he did the right thing. Many clapped and called for the accused's punishment. His eyes showed his power, obsession, loving the spotlight. He remembered a childhood moment, back when he was a kid in the forest. His mom comforted him after a tough day, asking why he was upset. The little guy said he was treated like a nobody, not even allowed to eat with his fam. But his mom told him to forget about status and focus on the king's words. Still, he believed only the strong got everything, and the throne was his only goal. Despite the ambition, there was still loneliness in his eyes. But soon he flashed his usual grin and asked the warrior what he thought since he cracked the cases. Straight up, the young dude said he had something big to spill. The prince was all about loyalty, from him and the Steel Knight. But when he caught his eye, he knew something was up. A sneaky grin spread across the ally's face, like he'd been scheming all along. No chill. He started pointing at the princes before he spoke. With a solid voice, he said those guys shouldn't be around anymore. The court went dead silent at the sudden call-out. Right away, the nobles flipped out, demanding the warrior get punished, even after all he'd done. Still, the king called for quiet and told him to go on. Chill as ever, the warrior laid out the list of victims and the crimes of the shady nobles. One dude forced girls into sketchy stuff, another squeezed cash from people and sold them if they pushed back. The crowd stayed quiet as he dropped the bomb that all these guys had a dirty secret. Looking at the king, he explained they used the cash to cover up their nasty deeds. This left the two princes totally speechless, since the accusation hit them hard. Keeping his cool, he pinned them for backing the corruption the princess was fighting. The younger one shouted defamation and dishonor to the crown. Meanwhile, the other got all worked up, calling the sister disgraced, accused without proof. Then, out of nowhere, an unexpected guest showed up at the court. To everyone's shock, the Steel Knight rolled in as a witness. Calmly, he told everyone to listen to the noise from outside. The people were shouting for the princess, demanding justice for how unfairly she'd been treated. Cries of innocence echoed for her, making the crowd her biggest backup. Moved by the support, her eyes welled up with tears. Then, the warrior stepped up and asked if she remembered what he'd said, that the people would have her back. And so, her new path was revealed, with the mission to take the throne, which totally blew her mind. No hesitation, the scarred young man asked her to keep doing her thing and take charge. With a firm voice, he said becoming queen was the way to justice. Then, still teary-eyed, she realized this had been his plan all along. Looking ahead, she saw everyone bowing, nobles and witnesses. No more beef. Even the Steel Knight knelt, pledging loyalty to the new rule. Through tears, she wondered if she deserved it, since she'd only taken lives. But everyone there, including the people, stood up for her innocence and asked her to take the throne. But she was shocked when the warrior himself bowed and called her majesty. Touched by the move, she couldn't hold back her emotions and clutched her dress tight. Then, a smile lit up her face as her golden hair glowed in the light. The king, seeing the scene, stepped up and praised his daughter's bravery. Straight up, he said a ruler doesn't have to be the firstborn, the most talented, or even a dude. These words left the princes totally shook. With the crown in his hands, Winston said the key thing was to be strong. Joy filled the castle and outside too, like the mission was complete. At that moment, she was crowned as the first queen of Emilia, thinking the real hero was the warrior. After that day, a fancy room in the castle was shown. There, the queen strolled with her maids through the halls. Seated, she let them style her long hair with joy. In thought, she reflected that a king needs to be strong and guide in dark times, but more power means more loneliness. Just like her dad. That was the exact question she got at the coronation, if she could handle being strong. Elegantly, she said in her reign there'd be no more blood. In front of everyone, she declared that, as her father shone from above, she'd also rule the forgotten places. Curious, the former king wanted to know how she'd do that, and she said he'd have to wait and see. With the crown on her head, she heard someone calling, saying the moment had come. All dressed up, she checked herself out while her guard smiled softly behind her. Worried, she asked the guard if she looked right for the event. She got told to hurry, as the warrior was already heading out. Excited, she was moved to know this, as she really admired her savior. Meanwhile, he was asking if everything was set for them to bounce. When asked why the rush, he said he wanted to dodge more drama. Still bummed, Minerva stayed distant, hurt for being played and ready to play hard to get. Even so, everyone set off to follow their paths, with the mission already done. All right, so check this out. Something totally grabbed his attention and made him freeze. The queen was there, glowing like a star, asking if he was really gonna bounce without a goodbye. Chill as a cucumber, he shut his eyes, like he was gearing up for something epic. Out of nowhere, she took off her crown, maybe realizing who the real MVP was. Holding it, she mentioned she was off to some fancy ceremony and wondered if that crown was a bit too extra. With a kinda sad vibe, she admitted her biggest dream was to be free, just like him. But our warrior dude wasn't having it, pointed at her, saying her act was whack and she needed to own up. The advisor was fuming at his words, but the queen held him back, knowing that was just his no-nonsense style. Then, the new boss lady looked at him and asked him to step up too. That got him curious, because he had no clue what she was hinting at. Calmly, she spilled that she admired him for fighting the bad guys and he should keep at it. So, he agreed, which totally shocked her, because hearing a yes from him was like spotting a unicorn. With a cheeky grin, he said if she ever switched up, he'd be back to judge her. No cap. She took it in stride, turning away with a tiny smile, making him wonder what's up. Soon after, she handed him a paper full of notes, showing she'd taken on a mission from him. He made it clear he wanted no drama or IOUs, but it was obvious there were feels involved. Blushing, she tried to speak, but got cut off by the vibe of her crew. The clingiest one couldn't handle being ignored anymore, and her sis, scared of losing her, cranked up the tension. With a simple move, he tapped the queen's head, saying all this was a snooze fest. As he walked past her, he complimented her hairdo, making her blush even harder. Then, she plopped on the ground, and the advisor reminded her not to stoop low, though the real reason was her crush on him. With a soft gaze, she watched the kingdom's true hero stroll away, feeling all the feels. Already a bit away, he kept going with his squad and the big tiger carrying its cubs. Soon, they hit a fancier spot, though not as broke as where the story kicked off. The main dude was worried about the red-haired sword, who was always in a mood. In the morning, things got tense, because she felt ignored and griped about how she was treated. The younger sis popped up and asked him to be nicer to her on knee, trying to chill things out. She explained that when away from the master, the demon's swords felt forgotten and useless. Even though the older one was all proud, she was hurting inside and hated admitting it, because it messed with her ego. Yelling, she claimed it was all lies, and she was just bored. Sweetly, he said that little devil had a cute side too. Gently, he put his hand on her head and told her to speak up whenever she felt lonely. The younger one took the chance to say she was lonely too and would always stick with him, even hyping up the tiger. As they walked, the bossy one said she only hung around for the free grub, which everyone knew was just an excuse. Without realizing, the red-haired one bumped into his back, not expecting him to stop. Annoyed, she asked why he halted so suddenly. The other one noticed the quiet and wanted to know why the sudden hush. His finger pressed hard on the mission paper from the queen, while he blurted out an unexpected name. This request threw him off, because he didn't know how to handle someone claiming to have met him before. In his head, all he remembered of that dude was chaos and mayhem. He was part of some old crew tied to the main guy's past. This dude, with golden hair and a wicked grin, used a spear to take down anyone. He remembered the time he showed up covered in blood, grinning and talking about more justice, like a total nutcase. Whatever it was, both he and his gang were, to the hero, completely bonkers. As soon as he hit the mansion, the guy accused the Viscount of doing shady stuff with magic and human experiments. With the spear in hand, he claimed to be the Avenger who'd take down the one behind it all. The threat made the old man laugh, like it was all a big comedy show. Behind him, a beefy ally slapped some stuff on his chest, saying the kingdom would never back someone like the accuser. Soon after, his body went all Hulk, bulking up with muscles and a creepy energy. The power coming off him was so intense it could be felt through the windows. The monster charged for a showdown, but his opponent stood ready, no fear at all. In front of some seriously creepy eyes, the Avenger geared up for battle. The Viscount was all, yo, berserk. Go take him out, no mercy. During the clash, the monster got zapped by some epic energy blast. Then, the Avenger locked eyes with the noble dude who was totally freaking out. The old guy tried to make a run for it but got zapped again, like a bug to a zapper. The spear went all whoosh, wrecking everything in its way. The Viscount saw his last light show before biting the dust, thanks to his own twisted justice. Boom! The whole mansion went kaboom in a massive explosion. The warrior was all electric, surrounded by yellow lightning, with his weapon still smoking. No sign of the old criminal was left behind. Soon, people showed up and were like, whoa, this dude's a hero. But plot twist, he was actually a total nutcase. Without a second thought, he took out everyone cheering for him, even the innocent ones. One survivor was like, dude, we were victims too, but got taken out anyway. The assassin was all. Weakness is a sin, and the weak gotta go with the corrupt. He was totally into it, thinking no tragedy should have survivors. He just stood there, surrounded by the chaos he caused. Then, someone called out, making him turn around. It was this super hype redhead with a dwarf buddy. She asked if he was cool, and he was all, yeah, you good? Which made her smile. With fake sadness, he glanced at the scene of destruction. The trio chatted about how no one made it out alive. Pretending to be bummed, the fake hero was like, too late now. His buddy was visibly shook by the whole thing. Meanwhile, the fake Avenger talked about justice rising from the ashes. In a chill way, he suggested they bounce to the next mission. Their names and goals were scribbled on the task sheet. At the same time, the real hero was grumbling about the Queen's mission. But the mission boss was like, nope, no changes allowed. The older buddy showed up and was like, chill or you'll never get peace. He explained the mission was slapped together last minute, so no tweaks. But the warrior put his hands on the two girls, surprising one and annoying the other. Even though he saw them as little sisters, they had different vibes. But the elder was like, look at it differently, dude. He explained the place had been colonized forever but was now loaded with riches. Still, he made it clear the route was set, and they were heading to Toriazen. This bugged the hero, who wanted to dodge a certain enemy. His buddy was all, nope, nothing's working. Suddenly, a familiar voice announced the warrior of condemnation's arrival. The guy showed up with his crew, catching everyone's attention. The other was like, tried to dodge this meetup, but here we are. His partner gave him a nudge, trying to get his attention. Curious, he turned to see what she was up to. Amid the teasing, the redhead hinted he was jelly of the new guy. In a chill tone, the newcomer was like, long time no see. The warrior was all, you live far from my vibe, dude. The other's buddy was fuming and stepped up to confront him. Trying to chill things out, the guy was like, stay out of this. It's just old pals chatting. Meanwhile, the hero was deep in thought about why they were really meeting. Truth is, he just wanted to get the tigers to the madam's place. The animal was all happy, tagging along with the crew. Suddenly, the scarred guy dropped a mysterious question, leaving everyone puzzled. Apparently, the mission involved both of them, which got the elder hyped. He explained that thieves were causing chaos in his village, ticking off Sig, but he let slip that something weird was waiting for them. Soon, snowy mountains loomed, with strong winds and carts on the trails. In one of the carriages, the queen was all, this trip's gonna be smooth. As they moved on, the two groups walked near the carts. Minerva told her buddy that everything felt off. The other was like, huh, what's up? She explained the servant ignored her, even when she tried to chat. Worried, the blue-haired girl ran to him to see what was up. He smiled gently, saying he was just lost in thought, but his eyes told a different story, full of pain and distrust. In silence, he remembered a past full of suffering and violence, especially from the crazy warrior. It was him who left a gnarly scar on his face. The blow was cold and cruel, only matched by an empty stare. Even so, he decided it didn't matter anymore. On the trip, the snow went wild, covering the carts. Minerva wasn't vibing with the cold, felt chilly, and started coughing. Trying to warm up, she snuggled up to the tiger, but still got scolded. The warrior reminded her she should have changed clothes. He pointed to Sui, showing how to handle the cold like a pro. The girl said the cold was just part of her vibe. To help her out, he tossed her a coat and told her to chill with the complaints. The gesture hit her in the feels, and she admitted he was finally being cool, despite his annoying nicknames. Soon, they all rolled up to the carbon border, a chill spot with a big canal. Nearby, a bar was lit with people having a blast, medieval style. Meanwhile, the woman laid her head on the table, saying she might live there again. The young dude said it was just a chill spot near the border. That's where the city's story kicked off, founded by all sorts of races, making it a target for mean humans. Creatures like ogres, elves, dwarves, and werewolves got hunted and isolated for ages. This ticked off his buddy, who slammed humans for being cruel. But someone there said one day all species would roam the continent freely. He mentioned King Dimitri, who fought against prejudice and threats to his race. He also remembered a blonde leader who made alliances with other countries, but he got cut off by a buddy who talked about the lack of laws and taxes in the area. Fed up with the chatter, the main dude asked if they had another table to sit at. The other pretended all were taken and joined them right there. During the meal, the dishes were all about meats and seafood. The girl was hyped about the food and praised the dish. She said she'd enjoy everything, but suddenly, the food got yeeted by a slap on the table. Bummed out, she almost cried for missing out on the feast. Then, the warrior patted her head, telling her to hang tight. Out of nowhere, A redhead with a nose scar showed up, saying the confident always end up badly. The dude called him out, demanding he pay for the ruined food. The other refused, saying he didn't owe anyone anything. With that, he got decked and flew like a paper airplane. The redhead's crew was mad, but the one who punched stayed chill, especially seeing his buddy get dissed. Even after that, the punched guy yelled, demanding answers for the smackdown. In response, the hero dropped his sword on the ground, right between the troublemaker's legs. With a serious face, he stepped up and repeated the question about the payment. Scared, the guy handed over a bag of coins, begging for mercy. Sitting on the ground, he said that was all they had. Soon after, another warrior showed up, not cool with his friend's mercy. He said sparing a villain was the biggest mistake ever. The victim, freaked out, kept saying he already paid what he owed. But it didn't matter, as he got hit hard, showing the attacker's coldness. Hurt, he lay on the ground, getting help from his crew. Still, he wanted to know the name of the one who hit him. The cocky guy said he wouldn't share his name with baddies, but got outed by his buddy. Realizing the slip, he looked away, while the other watched him. Even hurt, the redhead called him the warrior of justice, promising not to forget the beatdown. The main dude, knowing that fake judge vibe, noticed how he'd been surprisingly chill lately. Then, the blonde called him out, saying he wouldn't dare attack him, but heard back that he was the one who butted in. Finally, the beef didn't blow up, and everyone kept rolling with their carts along the border. But suddenly, the barred troublemaker popped up again, yelling when he saw Carr with a threatening look. He said he was waiting for the coward who hurt him, declaring revenge with a crazy grin. Right behind, a mage held a massive fireball, a greeting from his leader. Then, the explosion hit everything, creating smoke and dust everywhere. As the chaos closed in, the hero feared for his life as a water reserve got hit too. The current rushed in, threatening to wash everything away. The cart drivers freaked out about what was coming from above. So, it was ordered that everyone bounce quickly to cut losses. Plus, Carr told them to grab only the essentials and leave the rest behind. So, this old dude from the mission totally ignored all the warnings, just because he was greedy and wanted to keep his stuff. Seeing this, the Warrior of Doom was like, nope, not losing my reward, and decided to step up. When the Elder found out there was a way to stop the disaster, he was all ears, wanting to know the deets. Then, Isnable showed up, acting all cool and dismissive about the young guy's wild moves. Even with everyone doubting, he stood right in front of the flood, ready to take it on. Without a second thought, he whipped out his second sword, and bam, ice magic started swirling around him. Carr was shook, feeling uneasy as he realized the power of his old buddy. With Sui's help, ice crystals shot out in all directions. The water froze before it could reach the squad, turning into this shiny, solid wall. As the flow got closer, the magic kept everything in check, stopping any chaos. The crowd on the ground was totally wowed by the whole scene. Down below, the drivers saw the ice blocks coming but knew they were safe. Feeling relieved, the main dude sighed, giving props to his demon sword once more. Back with the crew, someone asked about his ice magic. Not wanting to spill the beans, he said it wasn't the right time and thought about keeping the girls a secret. But Isnable got even more obsessed, swearing to take him down if he got those powers the wrong way. The Elder, pumped by the discovery, showered him with thanks and praise for his magic skills. Still, the danger wasn't over, and he was told to bounce with his stuff. Confused, the old man asked why and got his answer by looking up. Dudes were coming down the ice, ready to take out everyone below. While others freaked out, the young guy stayed chill, used to these kinds of attacks. Carr came over, wanting to chat later, but was told to handle his own mess first. From above, the leader spotted something odd and leaned in for a better look. A lone carriage caught his eye, standing out from the rest. He quickly slid down the ice to meet his sidekick, who was gearing up another spell. With a cold vibe, the mage launched a fireball at the carriage. Seeing the danger, the main guy freaked, sprinting to stop the worst from happening. He made it just in time, slicing the fire spell, splitting it away from the carriage. With effort, he made the flames fly over, keeping the ride safe. Soon after, the carriage door swung open, and someone started to fall. This made him tense, recognizing it was someone important. Quickly, he caught the person, preventing any harm. Gently, he asked if she was okay. The woman was an elf with noble vibes, pale skin, light green hair, and fancy perfume and bling. Surprised, she looked at him with admiration, cheeks all rosy. Awkwardly, she thanked him for saving her, while he guessed she was local royalty. Calmly, he said he was just doing his thing and figured she expected his protection. Right then, enemy goons rolled up, saying the elf would fetch big bucks in the city. He hesitated, holding the girl and out of mana to summon his demon sword. In this tight spot, he decided to use his regular sword to fight. With one hand, he swung the weapon, and with the other, held the elf, trying to dodge danger. The bad guy ordered his crew to chase them down. Then, he took off running, with her clinging on, scared of falling. Out of nowhere, Carr showed up, teasing that he couldn't handle it. Taking the chance, he bragged about taking out all the baddies solo. With a cold tone, he said he had overestimated him. The old mission guy asked the elf to get back in the carriage, but she still looked at her savior. With a classy smile, she thanked him again, calling him a hero. But he wasn't into it and asked her not to say that again. He was soon cut off by his buddies arriving, grinning with the tiger. He was relieved they were okay and heard Kitty had their backs. Minerva praised the tiger, saying it got rid of anything useless, even humans. With that, the crew got back on track with the main mission. Pumped from dodging danger, they headed back to the city of Toriazan. This city was the capital of the Carbon Kingdom, home to creatures once hunted by humans. Even after dragon attacks and the sacred tree's destruction, it stood strong. To get in, you had to pass through the main gates. As they entered, the hero stayed quiet and deep in thought. But crossing the gates, he was blown away by the mix of creatures. His crew was hyped, amazed by everything they saw. All right, buckle up, because this story's about to get a glow up. So, heads up. He gave a heads up that the rules here were kinda whack and told them to chill. But Minerva? Nah. She zoomed off, totally vibing with all the cool stuff around. She was all eyes on this ogre-looking dude, not even fazed by his confused face. Then, she spotted this cat-like creature and was like, whoa, that's one chunky kitty. Next thing you know, she's hyped up, sees some fluffy fur, and goes in for a hug. But the wolf was not having it. Snapped back, who do you think you are? Touching me. She shot back, all sassy. I'm the sidekick of the Doom Warrior, duh. The wolf was like, never heard of him, and just shrugged it off. She was shook, like, how does he not know my guy? Chill vibes, the other one explained. That title's only a thing in the kingdom of Emilia. The wolf bounced, saying, fancy names mean squat to we humans. Still acting all high and mighty, she told them to move and threw some serious shade. No chill, she elbowed Sui, making her wobble. But her buddy was right there, all worried, helping her out. The tiger was not cool with how things went down. This got the scar-faced dude all fired up, calling out the wolf. With a serious look, he was like, you can be mad at humans, but you crossed the line. Then, bam, he kicked the wolf back. No holding back, he made it clear. No one's messing with my crew. The wolf, all salty, started whining about humans always causing drama. He threw in, and you guys took our kids too. The swordsman was like, wait, what? And whipped out his sword, ready to throw down. Seeing the sword glow red, the enemy was like, whoa, that's some serious power. The creature got ready, glowing gold, and charged in. Quick as a flash, he had his sword up, ready for the clash. Boom. Red and gold powers smashed together. But then, surprise, a green force popped up, splitting them apart with a bright flash. The ground got wrecked, leaving a crater where they tried to brawl. That's when the dwarf jumped in, yelling, chill, it's all a big mix-up. The swordsman remembered the dwarf's link to his old rival, getting curious. But the wolf was still salty, like, why is a dwarf sticking up for humans? Jenin, all calm, was like, these guys are legit guests. The wolf, still grumpy, backed off, leaving them alone for now. Then, they called the swordsman a human, warning him he'd get eaten if he let his guard down. He was like, not exactly a warm welcome, huh? With a grin, the dwarf introduced himself as the Yuan Sok Guild boss and Car's buddy. He explained the kingdom's on edge cause of creature trafficking. Laughing, he said they'd need a guide around the city. The swordsman remembered the mission and the dwarf's plans with the psycho warrior. The goal, keep tabs on the demon sword carrier during the trip. Their buddy agreed, saying those swords could make anyone lose it. Finally, the blonde dude thought maybe he misjudged the young guy. Even with the ice sword, he kept his cool. Quietly, he watched the sword guy, seeing no signs of going nuts. Then, Jenin snapped him back, reminding him that even if they caught one, others would use similar swords. Car was like, if my old buddy gets taken over, I'll take him out myself. His grin showed the violence he called justice. Soon after, the hybrid chick waved and left, while the blonde said he'd dig into those swords more. While they chatted, the dwarf tried to get the swordsman to chill in the city. The two buddies were hyped about the welcome and seemed stoked to be there. But Minerva was bummed he turned down kindness with a hidden agenda. Getting the vibe, the blue-haired girl thought of suggesting something to her master. The cats needed a bath after their long trip. With a sigh, he agreed to crash for one night where the dwarf suggested. Jenin was pumped, saying it was time to kick back. Soon after, the young guy checked if his buddy was hurt and needed a lift. She smiled, all chill, saying she was good, while the other one just watched, full of ideas. She got all excited, dreaming up what she could do while the cats got their spa day. Super hyped, he asked the dwarf if they had a water system at home, and guess what? They even had foam. Out of nowhere, they both turned around and saw the queen putting on a dramatic show. Pretending to be all tired, she asked her servant to carry her, but he just ignored her, totally used to her drama queen antics. They kept moving, and she was bummed, as usual, for being ignored. Still, she kept trying to grab attention any way she could. Inside, the dwarf was shaking in his boots, thinking the MC might be more dangerous than he seemed, since he could wield 2 cursed swords without losing it, and only a demon could pull that off. Inside, the 2 girls were totally mesmerized by what they saw. Meanwhile, the young dude asked the dwarf if he was the boss, but the buff dwarf said he was just a regular dwarf with a fancy title. Then, when they opened the doors to the dwarf kingdom, the visitors' eyes lit up, because, seriously, that place was epic. Curious, he asked if all dwarves lived underground and learned it was an ancient tradition, and even that dwarf had no clue how many caves were around. After that, they walked a bit more and headed to the host's house, where he called out for his wife and daughter. Soon, a young-looking woman joked that he must be working a ton. Meanwhile, the hero complimented, saying his daughter was super pretty, but then he found out she was actually his wife. Still, the old dude explained that to humans, she might look like a kid, but to dwarves, she was totally an adult. At least the real kid popped out from behind the mom, asking who those people were that he brought. Then, the proud dad shouted his daughter's name, Alice, asking who the cutest daughter in the world was. Turning to the hero, the buff dwarf said that was his adorable daughter, who waved back. Next, Minerva and Sui were the first to say hi, hitting it off right away. But then, the dwarf started eyeing an alarm seriously. Quickly switching topics, he invited the visitor to check out the room. They went to a free room in the house, saying he could crash there. Minerva, without missing a beat, was the first to dive onto the bed. Meanwhile, the young dude thanked the dwarf, who just told him to chill. Soon after, the girl mentioned the old man had no clue, but it was still the capital of a country, wondering if that'd be a problem. But the other said since it was just one night, she shouldn't get too comfy and should watch her stuff. But, looking ahead, he saw the demon's sword and the cats totally wrecking the room. Still, like a good dad, he went for some discipline with a punch. She got mad at the hit and ordered her crew to attack the young dude. Without a second thought, the 3 launched a killer blow at the hero. Right after, Minerva shouted, celebrating her win. Meanwhile, he wondered how those cats got so buff. Plus, he was annoyed about the pets' names, since Diablo and Mammon are demons and Isthar is a goddess. But when asked, the girl said that's exactly what she wanted. At the same time, he asked if it was cool to name them, since they'd eventually part ways. Sui admitted she'd be lying if she said they wouldn't be bummed about it. Meanwhile, Minerva declared that the body was just a shell. Soon after, she was told to be more real. Even so, the demon's sword stood its ground and claimed the body wasn't weak. Seeing the whole scene, the hero just told everyone to chill for a bit. Downstairs, the family gathered in the living room. The dwarf mom commented that everything was finally peaceful. Meanwhile, her daughter noted that humans are a noisy bunch. At that moment, the host asked if the demon detector hanging in the house was busted, but it seemed fine, as he had fixed it before leaving. With that, he realized the Gegel's signature wasn't demonic. Then, his wife asked what was up and why he was doubting. He explained that, besides work, he'd seen a lot of brutal stuff. That's why he felt he couldn't trust humans. Even so, the woman said that since forever, dwarves had mingled with humans and it was needed for the community. However, the husband said family was more important than work and told her to keep an eye on their daughter from now on. Soon after, he asked Alice to go rest, and the girl listened. But before hitting the hay, she said she wanted to chat with the visitors, taking a sneaky peek around, as she wasn't sure how to start. Then, she thought about grabbing some late-night snacks to chill with the chat. She checked some boxes but found nothing cool in there. Looking around, she tried to spot something better. But, without realizing, a dude was right behind her. And when she finally decided to head back to the room, since she found Nada useful, the dude nabbed her, stopping her from calling for help. Meanwhile, Jenon was yelling for his daughter, wondering where she vanished to. Just then, the young girl popped up behind the dwarf, leaving the old man chill since he was stressing about the girl, saying she's his precious one, so she shouldn't wander off solo again. But right then, someone taps his shoulder, and then we see the main character asking if he had the daughter keeping an eye on him. This left the dwarf totally shook and freaked out, while remembering the stuff he did to get there. And in shock, he says he did all this for his fam. But right then, he wakes up with someone calling his name. And when he looks up, he sees our hero staring. Seems it's been a week since Alice went poof, and he and his wife searched everywhere. Even with everyone pitching in to find the girl, they couldn't find a single clue. It's like she just vanished into thin air. The old man soon takes another swig of cachaça and slams the glass hard on the table. Seeing that, the protagonist just tells him to quit the booze. But the old man says with things like this, the only way is to ask for his help. By him, the dwarf means the former king Dimitri, who with his smarts and wisdom beat tons of challenges. The hero says the elven king opened the gates of Carbon, wondering who this king is and how he's so different from the others. The dwarf thanks him for helping to find his daughter, while just saying losing someone dear is a bummer. But the dwarf adds he probably already figured out he invited him just to keep tabs on him. But our protagonist already knew as soon as he stepped in the house and had felt an alarm like that before. The dwarf, feeling low, said he was ashamed of himself, and that there was actually a rumor he was a user of a demonic sword or even a demon, since there was a testimony from the warrior of justice, and as he had been watching him since they got to Carbon, this black sword is the only proof. Besides that, the sword he's using belonged to the dragon slayer. And there's also that tiger, which is a forest spirit, and a spirit never follows someone shady. The protagonist asks if the misunderstandings about him were cleared up, but the old man just nods and says his worry was for the fam's safety. So he hands over a letter authorizing participation in the Supreme Council meeting of Carbon. Seeing that, the hero questions if he wasn't just an ordinary dwarf, but with a gentle smile, he says he's just a regular dad wishing for his daughter's safety, and that he is counting on our hero. As Sig is leaving, the old man tells him to always keep it classy in front of the majesty. It's at this moment that we head to the royal palace. There, the protagonist and his crew are walking to the king's room, and upon arriving, they find several half-beasts waiting for them. We find out other kids were kidnapped, besides the old man's daughter, and they can't send soldiers now, as it would cause public panic. So, they need to form a small team and investigate, as soon as possible. While everyone is chatting, someone finishes jotting down some stuff in their diary and closes the book, saying that before sorting the incident, there's something to tackle. First, listening to the human warrior who brought up this issue, the hero steps forward, asking for an investigation into Alice's disappearance. But Dimitri just warns he's not talking about Jennan's matters, but about the matter of the warrior of destruction. Our protagonist says he really needs him to open the entrance to Sigmir to return this tiger to its homeland. Checking out the beast, the king says it was in human hands, and he won't allow its entry, leaving the two little swords ticked off with his cheeky elf. Then he says Sigmir is the sacred land of their ancestors, so it's not a place open to pets. This last sentence leaves Sig annoyed, wondering who he's calling pets, so he steps forward and asks what they'll do now, continuing that he has no clue what the future holds, not even if this will happen, and that, even though he's the king, no one has the right to stop someone from going back to their homeland. Everyone's on the edge of their seats, waiting for the next bombshell. He asks if the sacred nation of Carbon still has slavery going on. The king's like, dude, you just said the forbidden words in Carbon. And then bam, the lights dim, and a giant steps up, ready to squash our hero. He swings with all his might, but oops, his sword's stuck in the ground. His buddy's like, yo, look up. And there's the hero, ready to land the final hit. He's so fast, the giant's got no chance. Plus, he's super ticked about the new nose scar. But our OP hero just chills, staring down the beast. The real showdown's about to kick off. But, of course, there's always that one person who yells, timeout. And this person's got mad respect. Everyone salutes. Even our hero knows her. Turns out, it's that elf from earlier who hasn't had a chance to say hi yet. Her entrance hushes the crowd, but she breaks the silence, telling her dad she's here. Her dad, the king, asks if the trip was chill. She's like, yeah, but can I say something? She explains the hero's story checks out. The tiger just wants to go home. Now that it's not some greasy human saying it, the king's actually considering it. She suggests he could listen to the tiger's thoughts if he's still worried. She gets that the kids' disappearances are sneaky and hard to crack, and mentions Sig's a warrior who's solved tough stuff like this in the human world. So she suggests letting him handle it, and if he nails it, he should get his wish granted. Even though he's a softy dad, he's not sure about this, but he'll let our hero take a crack at it, just this once. Sig's visibly relieved, and she steps up, saying she's returning the favor from before. The hero figured she was important, just not the actual princess. She apologizes for the secret identity, but he gets how elves are treated by humans, and being a princess ain't easy. She hopes one day Carbon's folks will be as free as humans, and that it'd happen faster if there were more humans like him. Our hero's a bit flustered by the compliment. Then she clears her throat and says, no matter what her dad said, she's got this. She swears by her real name to keep Warrior Sig safe in both the Divine Kingdom and Carbon. The half-bird's like, isn't that a bit much for a human? But she says it's fair for the guy who saved her life, telling everyone to check out his sword. It's all shiny and strong, but really, it's because it belonged to a legendary hero, and since he's got it now, he deserves the royal treatment. When they realize it's the hero's sword, the vibe shifts instantly. She says it's wild how everyone reacts to Arene's name, and that for humans, Arene's is just a dragon slayer. But for them, she's a total legend. She risked it all and took down tons of dragons for Carbon's people. Even though the wood the dragons wanted is gone, her legacy lives on. This sword is part of that legacy. So if he takes down the bad guys threatening the citizens, she'll ask her dad to open the gates for him. Then our hero, who's been quiet, tells the princess he didn't come to solve the case, just to ask for help. But the princess says he was the only one who stood up to the nobles and cracked a murder case before. And when he secretly visited his friend, he saw happy people because someone fixed the corruption. She was there too, in that epic moment. Just like he changed Emilia, Carbon needs his power. Our hero remembers the old man, sighing that he's got work to do. He asks the princess for a double favor and says he's in for the mission. She grabs his hands, thanking him big time for this. All right, buckle up, because this story is about to get a glow up. But soon, the two little swords start feeling a bit jelly, because not even Sui can sway the MC like that. But when the princess peeps at them, they totally jump like they've seen a ghost. She also tells the MC not to sweat it about her dad, because he's a total softie and grants all her wishes. Our MC knows it's going to be tough if she expects too much, so he quickly drops the "I'm no Sherlock Holmes" bomb. But she just shrugs and says she trusts him, and that Sig's the only one who can keep the peace around here. Now, we zoom to the record room, where Chief Fiona is chatting about the investigation deets. The crew behind the chaos is called Ensemble, with a central command, but the rest are just human network squads. Turns out, they're all about kidnapping and human trafficking. Even after the lowdown, the MC's like, "Is that it?" Feeling awkward, the woman admits that's all they've got. Our hero ain't buying it and wonders if that's really all he should know about this long-running kidnapping drama. When asked about the investigation's progress, the woman says they only nabbed the ones who showed up, because most victims were low-key folks. Sig warns that until the main squad's caught, the kidnappings will keep rolling, and it's worse than he thought. He figures out that since this kingdom's been in its own bubble, they've been wasting time on old-school issues. That's why they got caught up in this mess. And they probably worn themselves out chasing just the small fry. Right then, the MC facepalms and tells the two to bounce, while we see them all snug under the woman's wings. She just tells them not to wander too deep, while the MC hints there's a slick way to wipe out these baddies. Placing his hand on his two swords' heads and flashing a cheeky grin, you can probably guess what's next. Elsewhere, a hooded figure's chilling at a bar table. Another dude rolls up, asking if he can join him. Getting the nod, the dude smirks while checking him out, saying he's smaller than the rumors made him out to be, calling him Hitman Mark. The bald guy says once his resolve's shattered, his body follows, and he's there after losing his crew. But while pouring a drink, he mentions most folks in this neutral zone are in the same boat, showing him a glass and a letter, asking if he's down to team up. Later, we see the bald guy on a street packed with half-humans or other species. His buddy points out a girl with cat ears, saying his gig is to nab her, warning him to be careful, because she's a special catch and the boss has his eye on her. And, since she's non-human, she's got a high price tag, and her sudden appearance caught eyes. As he leaves, the shady dude just trusts the bald guy to handle her, no scratches. Looks like the dude who's lost it all is ready to do whatever it takes. Meanwhile, the young girl strolls through the city. Then, she trips and faceplants, getting pretty banged up, and when she looks up, she spots the hooded figure, with a bag ready to snatch her. With the kid in the bag, the other guy says he's got mad skills in kidnapping, warning that, since she's top tier, the boss might pick him personally, suggesting it's his shot to make a killer impression. Confused, the bald guy asks why he should bother, while the sassy dude teases if he's scared, saying someone like him shouldn't sweat the small stuff, because he's about to see even crazier things. When the guy opens the door, we see a bunch of two-legged dogs as guards, while the bald guy's blown away by the place. It's a secret hideout in an old dwarf cave. Even the guard clans, who seem loyal, flip when they smell cash. The two then meet what seems to be the boss. He says the bald guy's a gem in the crew, and it's rare to find such a high-quality catch like he did this time. Mark's all, is this dude really the boss of the squad? But the old dude's just like, hold up, let me check out what you brought me. He opens the bag, and boom, there's a little girl. And the weirdo's already huffing, eyeing the girl, saying it'd be a waste to sell her. He wants to make her his pet, whatever that means, right? Then the old dude's like, whoa. He realizes her cat ears are just a tiara, and the little rascal's still meowing, trying to trick the old dude. He's annoyed, realizing she's not some fierce girl. She's just a regular human with animal ears, but he doesn't see who's sneaking up. The old dude's sent to meet the big guy upstairs, while his sidekick's running like he's in a marathon. But for some reason, the guy calls Sui and uses her, freezing the sidekick mid-sprint. In shock, he asks who that person is, making our hero wonder if he's still clueless, tossing the fake mask aside, showing off his hero vibes. Oops, the old dude with green hair is still kicking. Meanwhile, the MC's all, nice acting, kid, making her blush. But he says she should probably bounce now, which just annoys her more. Sui's like, why'd you pretend to be Mark? And it's just, 'cause he's bald. He strolls around, then heads to the two captives, telling them to spill the beans. Pronto, he yanks the cloth from the old dude's mouth, warning if he tries anything, he's toast. The old dude's like, oh, it's you, the hero who took down our scene. Annoyed, he asks if he really thinks he'll talk. He knows his rights and wants a fair trial. But justice comes with a swift kick to the face. In midair, he's caught by the MC, demanding answers with a spooky vibe. For someone who didn't want to talk, the old dude's suddenly chatty. The MC lets him go, telling him to zip it, he'll be back soon. Sui's like, how without the red dragon? Then they hear the girl's happy voice, ready to help. But she gets all shy when the MC tells her to stay put, saying his bare hands are enough. In a dungeon, folks are groaning. The guard's annoyed with these bratty beasts. Little Alice is there, crying. The guard bangs on the bars, telling her to zip it, but it just makes her cry more. Then the little girl peeks over and spots a massive ogre. He tells her, even if she's small and teary, dwarves are warrior legends, and patience is a warrior's virtue. This chills her out a bit, but the guards are just laughing at their pets, waiting for the next shift. Then someone rushes in, yelling they're in trouble. The hooded guy warns humans are invading. The blonde dude orders him to guide, saying he'll handle it. And surprise, the masked person is, the MC, explaining he's already there. Seeing it's the hero of condemnation, the guy's ticked off. Meanwhile, the MC's just shocked he's still around. 'Cause of Sig, the blonde dude lost his rep and crew, and now it's payback time. Our hero spots that fighting stance, classic boxer style. The guy yells, real men fight with bare hands. But our hero's like, nah, bare hands are for fools. Making the guy even more impatient, charging in. But with a slick Japanese sword move, he takes him down, making him spit everywhere. Grabbing the guy's key, he plans to put it to good use. Heading to the room with an ogre and some other non-humans. He checks out the cell, finds the dwarf's daughter. As he frees her, someone warns about intruders, and he's annoyed he's been found out, seeing two more dudes running his way. But before they get close, the ogre shows he's the real deal, looking at the MC, saying he'll lend his strength. This piques our hero's interest, asking the big red guy's name. Finding out it's Halcyon, the crew's all hyped, telling him to join the jailbreak squad. Now, here's the 411 for anyone who caught the vid on how to take down a crime gang. Step 1. Nab the big boss, the head honcho, and lock him up. While they're all confused, take out the minions. Then, sweep the leftovers out like yesterday's trash. Right then, one of those trashy dudes tries to make a run for it. He's all smug, thinking he's in the clear, but bam, a hammer drops right in front of him. The dwarf's grilling the kidnapper about his daughter. He's ready to smash anyone who messed with her. But all that rage melts away when he hears Alice's voice. She's being carried by the main dude, and the old man's eyes get all teary. He rushes to hug his daughter, promising never to leave her again. The two little swords watching from afar are all, that's sweet. Even the main guy feels a bit of relief. The human trafficking gang's toast, mission complete. Now he's off to the king to claim his props. He drags in the gang leader, saying his name's a mystery. The king, all serious, says they'll follow Carbon's law for the trial. The aristocrats are side-eyeing the hero's reward, not trusting humans. But the bird girl vouches for him, saying he's solid. The dwarf's like, he found my daughter, I'll do anything to pay him back. The king, with a booming voice, calls out the bandit leader, saying he's the mastermind. But this dude's a total wimp, begging for forgiveness for messing with Carbon. He hints at how he ran such a big gang without getting caught. The king's like, spill it. The guy reveals some Carbon nobles had his back. Everyone's jaws drop, traitors in the house. The criminal pitches a deal to the king. Should he spill the beans or not? The main dude, already suspicious, watches the king, curious about his next move. The king stands, saying Carbon folks are one big fam. Their ancestors fled humans to build this city where the tree fell. They gotta root out the traitors and send them packing. But, drawing his sword, he asks the guy if he wanted a test. The madman yells about a Carbon traitor making a deal with him, but the king shuts him up, taking him out on the spot. With a swift strike, the guy's down, and the king's like, traitors gotta go, that's Carbon's law. The main dude's blown away by the king's long-distance mana blade skills. The elf king's no joke, turning. The king admits he underestimated the hero, but the hero's all just lucky, and the king's like, nah, if it was luck, those bandits would still be around. Now he gets why his daughter picked this human warrior. The main dude asks if he can finally enter Sigmare. The king says it's his daughter's call, so go ask her. And with that, the missing person's case is wrapped up. Our socially awkward hero bounces out of there. He heads to a massive door, giving it a gentle knock, asking to come in. Hearing a yes, he swings it open, and there's Nias, waiting for him like she knew he'd show. She tells him he crushed it this time, offering him a coffee break. Our hero, not used to the fancy stuff, just says thanks. The princess praises his plan to topple the leadership from the inside. She even heard he went undercover in disguise. Our MC shrugs, saying his theater days made it easy to play the part. But she insists only he could have pulled off such a genius move. Humans, man, they're full of surprises, right? So, she's all curious now, wanting to know more. She hands over the reward, but when he reaches for it, she yanks it back. Our hero's like, wait, what? But she's got one more thing to throw at him. She asks if he wants to be the first human noble in Carbon. Our hero's brain is doing cartwheels. She explains they need to understand humans for the kingdom's future. Why are humans so greedy and mean? Yet, they help strangers for no reason. Weird, huh? The princess gets all up close and asks if they can coexist with humans. She says she sees he's been wandering forever. But this isn't the life he wanted, right? If he becomes a noble, no more fighting. Seeing his face, she asks if she was rude. He just nods, impressed by her insight. She's thrilled, saying he can stay in carbon and do great things. But there's a twist. Our hero says, nah, and the princess is shook. She can't believe he's turning it down. She says people need him, even if they're a handful. This reward is enough for him. Outside, he's a hero, but inside, he's dodging human politics. He mentions the Sigmar issue, saying he'll handle it solo. Before he leaves, the princess stops him, grabs his arm, says if that's what he wants, she won't stop him, but gives him a big hug first, leaving him all flustered. With a shy smile, she hopes he accepts this. She steps back, leaving a small emblem on his chest. It's a brooch from golden wood. The golden tree is Carbon's royal symbol, with deep roots. Dragons used it for mana back in the day. She just gave him something super rare. He thinks he'll get attacked for it, but he only did the mission out of need. She ignores him, saying it's Carbon's blessing, hopes he takes it. In the end, he just accepts it. She thanks him, saying she'll be waiting for him, hinting she wants to get closer. Wink, wink. Then, someone says the hero plan was solid. Turns out, it's her dad, chilling there unnoticed. He says bringing a big name to Carbon helps with human relations. It was about the hero of justice, but now he wants the hero of condemnation. Since he said no, they need a backup plan. But his daughter, all serious, says it's not over. She'll make him return the gift. Wink, wink. Later, our hero and his cat crew are trekking through the snow. The little ones are stoked they made it. They're finally at Sigmar's entrance. The gates open, light hits the cat's face. He's loving it. The hero asks if it feels like home. And yeah, it does, because mom and kittens are over the moon. They're finally in Sigmar, their hometown. For the first time, he sees where he lived. He pets the kitten, says it took a while, but hopes he'll be okay here. Sui says the day's beautiful and chill. Goodbyes are always tough. No matter how many times, our hero just nods. But someone there isn't feeling the goodbye vibes. She says these animals should be honored she showed up, but her sister and the kitten get it, and clearly, she's not buying it. So, thinking about all the epic adventures, she starts bawling like a toddler. She rushes to her kitten, giving it a massive hug, because she's gonna miss it big time. She asks Sig if she can keep tagging along with them. She's worried they won't fit in and might end up as someone's lunch. But the main dude just pats her head, saying they'll grow up strong with all the good grub. But if she keeps crying like this, they're gonna be super worried. Right then, she stops the waterworks and points to the door, telling her crew she's giving the final order. She's all about conquering Sigmar now. Watching the kittens leave, even the narrator's feeling the feels. They've been squad goals for almost the whole story. Minerva's like, when she wrecks the world, she'll at least spare their crib. So, she'll catch up with them later. Then, the kitten rolls up to others like her. And boom, instant squad goals with her new crew. Just chilling, waiting for the day they can hang again. Yeah, you can totally tell the girl's bummed, right? That's why the main dude says she handled it like a champ, but she grabs his shirt and calls his name, asking him to lift her up and give her back a good pat. Sig's like, is she using him as a pet stand-in? But, like a total dad, he's all about making his kid happy, asking if she's feeling better now. Sui cracks a tiny smile, saying the main dude's changed a ton. At first, he was all about keeping his distance, but now he's even helping her big sis. This makes the main dude wonder why he's got this little one on his back. While Sui keeps going, saying her sis even stopped trying to boss him around. The little one, with just a few words, brings the mood down. The main dude's like, he changed because he spent so much time with them. Thinking that, whether human or demon sword, everyone's gotta change. Later on, he's chatting with the dwarf, explaining that, even though the journey was long, they got the kitten home safe. The dwarf's all apologetic for snooping on him. But the main dude's like, he didn't trust him at first either, so no hard feelings. The MC's life is way different from what the dwarf's used to, but he's cool with it and hands him a book, saying it's for his majesty and it's got all the ensemble's deets, saying he got this scoop from Minerva. Hearing this, the MC's all surprised and calls for the dwarf, saying this drama isn't over yet. So, he rushes to the king and spills the tea, but the king's not really buying it. The main dude's like, the real traitor who sold out the people is the ex-king. Yeah, peeps, things are about to get wild. Everyone's in shock, trying to wrap their heads around what the main dude's saying. Even the king's ticked off, saying this joke's gone too far, asking if he's really saying the king teamed up with his shady crew and sold people and kids. Even if he sorted this mess, these claims can't just be brushed off. But the MC slaps the paper on the table, saying the king's signature was the only one he remembered. That's why he spotted it right away on the dock he got. The king's crew is shook, saying this doesn't add up. Then the king's like, signatures can be faked, asking if they're trying to frame him. He's got a point, so they nabbed the runaway exec of the ensemble. Turns out it was that wild dude who hired the main dude in disguise. With a creepy grin, he asks if the wild dude's ready to spill the beans. Being the coward he is, he says he saw a male elf arguing with the boss, and they definitely logged all the deets. The main dude's like, this is gold. The guy's hoping for a break. But nope, not happening. He says taking out the leader wasn't about justice or anything. It was just cause he was gonna rat him out. He just cut his losses, saying even the book he's holding is just like the one the exec had, and the proof he didn't sell out his own people for cash has to come from him. Alright, picture this. The king's just standing there, totally speechless for once. He's trying to say it's all for Carbon's good, but everyone's just losing it. Our hero, he's tossing diaries around, spilling the tea on how he faked negotiations while playing with prices. But the king's all. Resources are low, the treasury's empty. And even though we're open, we're way behind other countries because of all the past drama. So if things keep going like this, Carbon's toast. Then he asks the young dude if he really thinks he did it for himself, saying it was all for the greater good. No other choice. Sounds like something a guy with a tiny mustache would say. Even if it had to be done, Carbon needed saving. But the young dude's like, nah, you're just talking nonsense and falling for a trap. Among the captured folks, surprise, surprise, no elves. They're the only ones the bandits didn't nab. Sword out, he's like, there's your answer, saying, sure, call it a sacrifice. But he didn't give up anything. He just made bank selling people for this so-called greater good. The king, looking all shady, tells his henchmen to take out the young dude. And when he turns, the big guy's all, I'll handle this, and goes for a clean hit. But, plot twist, our hero's doing great, freaking out because he just hit the king. Fuming, he's like, I'm done with the Carbon tribe. And the king, all chill, gets it. He dodges the ogre's swing, pops up on the ceiling, saying he'll never change, and keeps showing his foolishness till the end, turning the ogre into a heap of meat. Seeing this, our hero charges at the king. While the king's all, if you just listened, none of this would have happened. But the MC's like, you're just annoying. End of story. Now realizing he can't beat the MC easily, he starts blasting mana everywhere, leaving our MC a bit shook, because now he's a big threat to Carbon. To put it in perspective, elves have mana like 100 times more than usual. Their skills are off the charts. So, a human versus an elf? Not looking good. And that's what's happening. The king's even taunting him mid-fight, but while charging up, he knows he's got to end this fast, going for a quick strike on the king. Surprised, he's like, where'd he go? And, getting hit from behind, the king's like, heard you've got combat skills. Seeing the mana blade, our hero's suspicious. Then the elf's like, bet you've never fought an elf, and asks if he's lived over 500 years. Our hero realizes he's pulling a Naruto, sticking to the ceiling with mana, while the madman's launching attacks his way, saying he'll show him a style humans can't copy. Seeing the attack storm, our hero tells everyone to bail, trying to block as much as he can, but most hits are wrecking the place. The other non-humans are running like crazy, cause staying means going from bad to worse. While our hero's almost in the same boat, our MC wonders if sneak attacks are the elves' thing. While the king sneaks up, saying if he wanted him dead, he'd be gone. He's alive cause he needs to break him slowly, so no one doubts him. To prove Carbon's sacred will, this attack storm is super wasteful, burning through mana. But this guy's been hoarding mana for centuries. But our hero's mad because he sold people to fix the city's problems. Wondering if this is Carbon's will, he charges at the elf, looking like he's gonna slice him in two. But, bummer, he just hits the ground. The pompous king claims he tried a desperate move but ran out of mana. Inside, he's totally freaking out from that last attack. The king keeps going on with that savior of the nation speech. But the protagonist interrupts and says if he loves the continent so much, he should have sold himself first. Sold his crown, his sword, and even his own daughter. Hearing about his daughter, the king gets super mad and charges at the young dude, who barely manages to put his sword up to block the attack. But it doesn't help much, as he gets yeeted far away. And with that hit, he probably broke like 3 ribs. Still, he doesn't want to quit, and remembers a time when Mr. Albert wanted to teach him a technique. He's surprised by this. But the man says since he inherited his son's will, he should inherit the techniques too. At another time, he was told to stop his mana and use his strength instead, pushing his body's limits, activating his true physical power. As he starts to transform into a Super Saiyan, the king stands there looking totally shocked, just watching the protagonist buried. But his little hand is already sparking with lightning. Soon his hair will go blonde. And when the king turns to leave, he gets a solid punch to the face, sending him flying. All bruised against the wall, he wonders how that happened, while the young dude just wants to pick up where he left off. Seeing that now things are about to get real. The elf says releasing the body's mana like that should be exhausting, but soon realizes something, since, to refill his mana, he took that hit with his own body and absorbed everything. Our hero just gives that little grin of someone who's gonna crush a king today, but apparently there's a side effect as he spits blood. He says this mana, being dormant for 500 years, is pretty powerful, But the king explains everyone is born with a mana attribute, and forcing someone else's mana must cause chaos inside, saying now he must be feeling unbearable pain. But our hero just gives that sly grin and says he's not feeling any pain at all, leaving the king confused. But soon he charges forward, while we remember his motto that revenge is multiplied by 10, and that he just needs to be strong enough to handle this pain. The elf manages to block the attack, but soon starts getting pushed back by our hero's sword, wondering how he can have so much power. He's counting on this technique of the protagonist wrecking his own body, so he just has to hold on until he reaches his limit. But when he least expects it, our elf slayer is already there with the big sword behind him, delivering just one blow that sends the king back to the ground. He gets up super fast, while realizing he can't keep up with either strength or speed. Our hero just starts prepping the big sword there, wanting to end this fight as soon as possible. The elf once again manages to defend himself, but the protagonist takes the chance to annoy his enemy a bit, and it works like a charm. As the elf loses his cool and starts attacking back, he yells, telling puny humans not to mess with his country, unleashing a rain of blows towards the young dude. When the sword is close to hitting him, he dodges all the attacks and says now he can see the attacks that seemed impossible before. But the king doesn't give up and starts prepping even more magic, saying he fights in the name of Carbon, and telling him to take all the power. But our protagonist doesn't back down, keeping his sword ready to defend. Even though holding the hilt is painful, there's nothing he can do but keep going, since this rush is what makes him feel he can conquer anything, releasing a barrage of attacks in the air, which starts slicing the king entirely. He remembers someone telling him to love everything on this continent, asking him to protect Carbon, so this landscape stays intact, and that one day everyone will see the value of this continent. Fallen on the ground, all wrecked, the king spits blood, but looks furiously at our hero, while he stands with his sword pointed, asking for his last words. Laughing, the king says Carbon can't survive unless it's managed Dimitri's way, and that if he wants the country to perish, he should kill him there. But questions if Sig really has the guts to do it. He preps his sword and repeats if it's a country that can only survive by selling its citizens, then it should be wiped out right there. Right then, our hero hears someone calling out to him. He turns around and spots the princess, her dad's crown just chilling on the ground, and our main dude just standing there. She flashes back to when they first met. He'd lifted her up, all princess style, asking if she was hurt or good, but all she saw were his gray, all-knowing eyes. She thought, man, I want to splash some color on his blank canvas of a soul. Flashback to the guard saying the hero's back with big news. She hoped he was sticking around for her, but, plot twist, she was way off. All she wanted was for him to stay by her side. But when she found him, her dad was there, minus a head. The princess, looking all glam, pulls a face like she just smelled something rank. She collapses, calling out for the MC. She yells, asking why he did it, but he just says he had to clean house. Mission accomplished, he says. She screams, asking if the mission was really worth it, and if her dad really did something so bad he deserved this. But Sig just asks if she can tell that to the victims. Tell it to those who will carry the scars forever. And no matter how much she whines, her dad had to go. The princess turns on him, furious. She reaches for his sword, but he stops her, asking what she's doing. She just wants him to use it on her too, saying her dad sinned to save Carbon, so everyone who benefited is guilty too. She tells him to wipe out everyone in Carbon, since he's the only innocent one. Sig, with a creepy grin, asks if she thinks he can't do it. He grabs her neck, looking like he's enjoying it. She repeats his own principles back at him. He lets her go, dropping her to the ground. As he walks away, he says her argument's pointless. She says she knew he couldn't kill her, and if he won't kill everyone, he should stay and join her. After all, selling your own people is a human thing. Then, something drops next to her. Turns out it's that golden tree brooch. He says if the country's broke, sell that junk, not people, and leaves her there. Some guards finally show up. They see her crying. She orders them to prep her dad's funeral, holding his head, saying after the funeral, it's coronation time, and she's the only one who can take the crown now. And I'm thinking, things are going to get wild with this psycho in charge. Elsewhere, our hero's saying someone died fighting castle invaders, and for a criminal king, he's going out with style. But our fave dwarf says it's needed, because if folks knew, Carbon would flip, and it might even mess with Sigmar, where the cats are chillin' now. The dwarf's super thankful, but our hero's like, no need for all this fuss, feeling awkward with all the escorting. The dwarf chuckles, saying it's just a goodbye. Since everyone owes the hero big time, the bird girl says the queen didn't send anyone after him. But he knew that, because even though she knows her dad's crimes, she won't admit it. And not sending anyone shows she's got a bit of a conscience. The dwarf's worried about Carbon's future, since the first thing she did was build an army. But the hero says it's obvious. And soon, war's gonna pop off. Night falls, and the BBQ's sizzling. Minerva's loving it. Even I'm drooling watching this scene. Right now, Sui's looking a bit down in the dumps. When the main dude asks what's up, she spills that she's worried about him. She mentions some sketchy situation, and he didn't even give her a heads up, but he promised he wouldn't pull that stunt again. He tries to say sorry, but she brings up what he told the dwarf last time, about the war that's about to pop off, and if it's as wild as the last fight, he should totally use her to stay safe. Plus, she's cool with being a sword for a good cause. Then her sis cracks up, saying Sui's stressing too much, and if Sig's in trouble, she'll swoop in to save him first. But our hero just turns and asks what she can even do. Minerva then kicks off a kinda weird convo, and the main dude says she's just trying to play him. Sui, seeing them bicker, jumps in asking where they're headed next. But our hero's still mulling it over, since he's still feeling the last battle's burn. That last move he pulled is like a double-edged sword. More pain, more gain. But the cost? Super steep. Then he asks if they want to hit up a resort. Enter Evergreen, a country that thrived on trade, even with big shot neighbors. And since it's never been invaded, folks say it's the ultimate place to live. If it's a resort like that, no need to sweat the small stuff. But duh, since it's our main dude, drama's gonna find him. Cause as soon as he rolls into town, chaos is going down. He peeps the scene and wonders how he got so unlucky. Then bam, a blonde's sprinting at him, yelling it's dangerous, telling him to bounce as soon as possible. While grilling the guy about the sitch, he just says it's a long story and they gotta bail first. But when the main dude looks back, there's a dragon torching the place. Turns out, the country's never been invaded cause it's dragon turf, and 500 years ago, a dragon slayer nearly wiped them out. But the country was supposed to have a deal with the leftover dragons. The blonde just shrugs, saying there might be a contract glitch, cause they started invading a while back. Still, the bigwigs haven't done squat about it. That's why, as a knight, he couldn't just chill and is helping folks get out. He introduces himself as Carl Alexander, leader of the Dark Knights. But when he hears the main dude's name, he immediately asks if he's here to off someone. Our hero warns him to chill with the assumptions and worry about his own skin first. The dragon then gears up for an attack, and it looks like the blonde's gonna take this hit solo, cause when he looks back, the main dude's just vanished. The dragon then unleashes a fiery hurricane, and the blonde seems ready to take it head on. But before the fireball hits him, the main dude summons Sui and whips up an ice wall, which totally blocks the dragon's attack. The dragon thinks this human's got some cool tricks, but since he's done here, he bounces. The blonde, who barely dodged, probably needs a change of pants now, while the main dude just asks if he's okay. Annoyed, Alex questions if he just dodged, and our main dude says he should focus on his own survival. But, rubbing his head, he says it's what you'd expect from someone with his rep. Slowly, the townsfolk start showing up, wondering what happened to the dragon. But the blonde's giving the superhero speech that as long as he can protect the city, it's all good. But then, splat, an egg hits his face, and everyone tells him to scram, calling him a tax thief and scammer. Looks like he's not exactly Mr. Popular. Huh. An old dude yells, saying he promised the villagers would be safe if they went to the shelter he mentioned, and all the blonde can do is say sorry to the old guy. Sui's there too and asks her big sis why everyone's acting like this, and she, being the wise one, says now that the danger's gone, they need someone to blame. Our main dude adds that he saved their butts and now they're asking for payback. They'll probably even ask for a fund to rebuild the village. And then, boom, the crowd's already yelling, demanding he coughs up cash and takes responsibility. To back up the boss, someone jumps in, shouting, asking what these folks are doing to their leader, and saying they should be grateful he saved their lives. Then, bam, the whole Shadow Soldiers squad rolls up, leaving Alexander all touched, cause they're backing him up. But the old dude steps up and says all the tax dodgers are here, so they should at least team up to fix the village. But right then, the old guy realizes he's in hot water, cause two big dudes roll up and say if he's got beef with the Shadow Knights relief efforts, he should just file a complaint. And some folks in the back notice this, saying they just threatened the citizens, and they barely made it through the last attack. But this whispering just ticks off the vice leader even more, yelling that it was only thanks to their leader who planned the route and timing of the dragon's attack. Thanks to his genius plan, they made it out alive. But the crowd's not chillin', cause they lost their homes, animals, crops, and everything else. However, this last bit from the vice leader grabs the main dude's attention, wondering if he really predicted the attack and the dragon's path all by himself. Seeing his vice all riled up with the crowd, the blonde tells him to chill, cause the knight's job is all about saving people, while imagining himself getting mad props as a hero from the people. Eventually, everyone will know the Shadow Knights were a thing in this world, leaving the main dude super freaked, cause he trusts and believes in these people even after all that went down. The blonde explains he doesn't trust just anyone, but these guys are worth it, leaving all the Shadow Knights members totally charmed by their leader. And even though it didn't go as planned, they scored some clear wins this time, so they'll at least get some props. But then, next thing you know, the knight's got his arms cuffed. And wondering why this happened, sitting in the Palace of Death's disciplinary committee. From the corner, our hero's like, duh, this was bound to happen. And that evergreen's been chill for ages. So hiding the problem's way easier than fixing it. Bearded Drake says a bunch of complaints were filed against Alex, and if the hero hadn't been there, they'd have taken a serious hit. He asks if the blondes got any comeback for these accusations, and that, from the start, the Shadow Knights have been a bunch of troublemakers. The plans to boot them out for good. Some even want to get help from neighboring countries, but who knows what they'll want in return, and that it's better to ask for help from one of the 5 strongest extremes. But the bearded one asks if he's nuts calling a tiger to catch a fox. It's right then the bearded old man pauses the chat, wanting to hear His Majesty's take first. The chubby one's kinda iffy about bringing foreign troops into the country, leaving the old man ticked off, telling him to quit being so wishy-washy and to get into politics with a bigger picture. As long as they leave this guy unsupervised, the people will suffer forever, and now's the time to pick which power to use. Hearing that, the main dude realizes they're trying to lean on someone else's power without lifting a finger. And that once foreign troops from another country roll in, Evergreen won't be the best place to live anymore. It'll be a battlefield. This weak king's just a scarecrow, and this bearded guy's the one who wants to sell out and betray the country. The main dude starts to turn around, saying nothing good's gonna come from this. But before he bails, he hears someone suggesting forming a dragon-busting squad, cause if they pull it off, they can protect Evergreen's sovereignty and save cash. The little ones notice the young dude suddenly stopped, while the bearded guy questions the prince about what he just said. Soon, everyone there starts cracking up at what the kid said. The old man says Evergreen's not a powerhouse and doesn't have the muscle to take on the dragon, saying if he wants to try this, he should go solo. The king's bummed to see his son in that spot and says it's all coals of his own incompetence, and instead of getting roasted by the dragon, the people thought it'd be better to just chill as vassals of another country. But then, boom, the hero shows up, saying it's way too early to throw in the towel, and if the dragon's causing drama, he's down to throw hands and take it down. Grabbing the blonde kid, he asks if they can lend him that thing in return, leaving the kid totally freaked out because he's being dragged away. Later, in Drake's office, the old dude realizes his plans are totally off the rails, because if those guys actually slay the dragon, bribing it to attack Evergreen is pointless. Plus, we find out that even though they've got tons of resources and are in a prime spot, the weak royal fam never tried to expand. And all this talk about being the best place to live is just hot air to make people lazy. So, what they really need now is a revolution. While wondering if that's why they brought the dragon, someone in front of him says he's super worried, and if he's really scared now. But the old guy's only worry is about Evergreen, nothing else. Soon, we find out the woman in front of him is Artemis. She says she only fears that unnecessary precautions might slow down evolution. And as she stands up, the old man says that's why they need to ditch useless variables and speed up this revolution. Instead of relying on foreign armies, they should rally their own troops. She agrees, saying that sounds lit, and she'll send the S-class mercenaries she hired. Then, turning around, the man promises to pay her back when he's king, but first, he's got a question. Why is that woman backing an old dude? The redhead says his hypocrisy and greed caught her eye, just like the contradictions of sacrificing now for the future. He yells he's doing this just to boost Evergreen, but with a creepy look, the woman says that's just a big excuse, and he knows it. And she still tells him to be real with his feelings. Making Evergreen strong might be one of his dreams, but to do that, he's got to become king first. At this point, the woman does some kind of mind trick on the old guy, and, getting closer, she says she can make him king. But, since nothing's free, the old man asks what she wants. However, turning around, she says when he's king, he must start a war as soon as possible and dive into it like a moth to a flame, letting his kingdom burn with him. So his desire becomes an offering and a sacrifice for her master's growth. Soon, the scene shifts to the mountains of Duradum. The young blonde says he's always admired the knights and wants to be like the Steel Knight. But Minerva claps back, saying for someone who can't even become a knight, he's dreaming big. Of course, these sharp words tick off the guys, while his sister comes over to tell him something. The boy gets that she's right, and it's a big dream. That's why he started the Black Knights, a squad to back up the other knights. And he explains the girl can also be a hero, not just a sidekick. Getting closer to the hero, the leader says the rumors he's heard are true, that he hangs with lots of young girls, takes out anyone in his way, and even has ties with Queen Emilia. Laughing, Minerva says there's not a single lie in what he just said, annoying Sig so much he buries her about 7 feet into the ground. But, turning around, he asks if the blonde knows why he's there. The boy thinks, no way, the hero needs help from the Shadow Knights to beat the dragon. However, he shuts down all that hype and says he doesn't need help, just info. So, his plan is to gather the data fast and ditch them. Then the young guy explains he memorized a ton of books to know the dragon's attack route, and adds that since forever, in places packed with magic, there's a portal to another dimension monsters used to cross, As the energy dragons breathe helps in the crossing, where there are lots of monsters, there's also a dragon. In other words, just follow the map that shows where all the monsters near Evergreen are. So, they can go to and from dragon lairs like they're just heading to the mountains behind the palace. With a cheeky grin, the hero gives Minerva a look like she's already in on the secret plan. Then he strolls up to the blonde dude, saying the dragon map is totally epic, and it's packed with some seriously valuable deets. Looks like they might actually snag those dragons. But then, the hero just snatches the map from the guy's hand, asking for a quick peek. The guy's all, dude, there's only one copy, so don't mess it up. But then he spots Minerva holding Sui and the hero, and with one epic leap, the adventurer's airborne, leaving everyone in the dust. The guys are just standing there, jaws on the floor. They're all, are they coming back or what? Finally, Sig's like, did we go far enough? Sui's all, how could you swipe something people worked so hard on? Minerva's like, he ditched the hero gig for the bandit life. But then she gets a playful bop on the head to snap out of it. He tells Sui he left them behind to keep them safe, cause that map could totally wreck Evergreen. The two are like, can a map really mess up a whole continent? The girls are all, can this map really doom Evergreen? The issue is, it doesn't show where the dragon that attacked him is, and attacking random creatures is a no-go. This isn't something you can fix with just hype, and the knights will be stoked for the MC's help. Luckily, MO figures out exactly where his enemy struck and where he's chilling. The plan is to scope out the trees to find what's really hidden in the forest. Dragon tracks are easy to spot, cause it trashed trees while flying. Plus, there are fresh burn marks on the ground from the dragon's fire. Only one creature could leave those marks, and the dragon's gotta be close. The plan now is to camp out and, tomorrow, hunt down the enemy's exact spot. In the middle of the night, the little girl's got a question for her buddy, too wired to sleep. She's puzzled why Emo doesn't trust her like he trusts her friend. Sig's like, hard to trust someone who tried to take me out before. Minerva's all, I didn't try to take you out directly, cause the sword's dark magic boosts her powers and her wildest emotions. In that state, she met the MC and admits it wasn't the best first impression. Next to her friend, she thanks him for being immune to the sword's dark magic. Her heart's chill now, so Sui doesn't have to be lonely or bummed about the world. She says she's done trying to take anyone out and asks them to trust her from now on. Seeing Sig still not fully trusting her, the girl gets ticked and goes for a swing. The two start bickering about taking things seriously. Luckily, the white-haired girl wakes up, saying her friend's awesome. The weird thing is she digs Emo's touch. Even if it's chilly, it's kinda nice. Still, Minerva's fuming, warning she'll make them use something. Suddenly, she morphs into the sword, wanting to be accepted no matter what. This ticks off the boy, who starts running, telling them to chill. The sword's flying around, then drops, turning back into the little black-haired girl. Apparently, this is some ancient illusion magic that vanished ages ago, which means they've been camping right in front of the dragon's lair the whole time. Then Minerva pops up, feeling all proud for finding the cave entrance. Seems like magic formed right where Minerva was, making it hard to spot everyone. Siggy didn't think they'd find the dragon's magic this easily. He starts thinking maybe the girl's way more capable than he thought. He walks up to her, giving props for her awesome move. Inside the cave, it's clear the last owner was super greedy with their stuff, and the dragon's gonna notice its magic got busted real quick. The funny part is Minerva's leading the team, since she found the entrance. To make it crazier, she bolts off, ticking off her team buddy. Next to Sui, the MC asks if she's bummed about not being used as a sword. So, these combat swords, right? They're all about action, and not using them is like torture. They crave that recognition. Then, she's all about loyalty to Lord Sig, wanting to stick by his side through thick and thin. All the knight wants is for his squad to stay safe and steer clear of danger. Mid-chat, Minerva pops back, looking like she's seen some wild stuff. She's all, I've seen things I never thought possible. Deep in the cave, she stumbled upon a mountain of gold, like, endless. But, plot twist, she accidentally brought a dragon along for the ride. This totally ticks off the main dude, who's like, why'd you bring the enemy here? Turns out, she got spotted while uncovering the treasure stash. And, surprise, the dragon's smart, asking where the rest of the crew is hiding. As a lesson, the main guy gives her a slap for being so reckless. Legends say this dragon's got a thing for eliminating anyone who messes with his treasure. Minerva's all, I didn't take anything, but her pockets are bulging with bling. The only way out? Beg the dragon to spare them. Shockingly, Sui's plan works, and the dragon's like, alright, I'll let you live. This is epic for Minerva, who's itching to get back to her city. But, plot twist, the dragon's got a plan, wanting the humans to come back for more. Still, escaping is top priority for the main dude, who's got to find a way out. As they're walking, Minerva trips, spilling all her loot. This seriously ticks off the dragon, who's got zero tolerance for thieves. Now's the time to see what Minerva's really made of. He grabs her and tosses her into the fray, blaming her for the mess. In a hilarious twist, she's launched like a cannonball at the raging dragon. Mid-air, she morphs into a sword, but it's not enough to phase the beast. The dragon, super annoyed with these pesky humans, starts charging a fire attack. The fireball's unleashed, and the heroes have to bolt at top speed to dodge it. Meanwhile, in the Valley of the Mountains, folks are chilling in a camp. A soldier's like, how long till the hero's back from the mission? The blonde dude thinks the hero's disappearance means something big, but deep down, he's banking on the hero, clueless about what to do if it all goes south. Everyone's on edge, and one night storms over, fuming. He's yelling at the leader about the whole mess they're in, saying he can't chill because the hero vanished, taking their shot at restoring the guild's honor. To make it worse, he's embarrassed, standing there speechless in front of his troops. One mercenary's like, chill. He's just worried because everyone's busting their butts. With that, the commander breaks down, apologizing for all his blunders. His right-hand guy's like, maybe it's time to live for something other than honor, even if we're not knights anymore. From that day, he decides to disband the Shadow Knights Guild. Meanwhile, the dragon gives away its spot by blasting fire through the mountain. Perfect chance to track down the hero who snagged the map earlier. The soldiers get hyped, plotting to rush in and land the final blow, snagging all the glory. In a funny twist, she gets props for supposedly masterminding this whole thing. In reality, it's all a big fluke, but she rolls with it, ordering her troops to charge. Now, the dragon hunt kicks off with full force. Inside the cave, the heroes need a breather before the dragon finds them again. Sui's already lost hope, thinking it's game over for everyone. The escape was intense, and that fire blast could have wiped them out. Mid-convo, Minerva storms back, super annoyed with her pals. She starts playfully biting her buddy, saying he shouldn't have bailed. Then, they start bickering about everything that went down. The problem is that, right in the middle of this chaos, the enemy sniffs them out in seconds. Turns out, human scent is like a neon sign in the cave, super easy to track. Quick thinking, the trio ducks behind a big rock, staying as quiet as a ninja. The beast is on a mission, checking every nook and cranny for its arch-nemesis. The squad's jaws drop when the dragon just bails, leaving them in the dust. But no chill time yet, they gotta bolt to the exit as soon as possible. Just when things couldn't get crazier, knights roll in, yelling for the dragon to show up mid-battle. Armored dudes pop up, shouting their leader wants the enemy's blood. Like, yesterday. The boys are totally peeved, didn't think these clowns would find their secret hideout. Then, boom, the epic dragon shows up, ready to throw down in a rage. This time, the trio's like, nah, we're just here for the show. No danger for us. They're overhelping people who can't tell bravery from plain dumbness. The beast goes full savage, threatening to roast everyone with its fiery breath. As the flames fly, the heroes chill, thinking everyone's toast. But plot twist, the leader's got a plan, tells his crew to shield up. Perfect chance to bounce out of there, no scratches, no worries. Shockingly, the squad survives with a mana shield, tanking the dragon's fiery blast. It's wild, even the dragons shook they didn't get BBQ'd. The teams scatter, hitting from all sides with some next-level tactics. Spotting a big old cut on the dragon's eye, the soldiers get a genius idea. They go for the weak spot, landing a hit, and the soldiers pumped, asking if he nailed it. 500 years back, humans were like bugs. Now they're squaring up to an ancient dragon. The knight leaders all, humans leveled up, were ready to take on anyone. Watching from a distance, Sig's mind blown by his allies, way more epic than he thought. These knights are beasts, thanks to their brainy commander. Still, there's a big problem in this mission that's not solved yet. Sig's like, I'm out, but promises to be back to finish his real mission. The dragon's back in action, entering a super intense battle mode. It's planning to rule the skies, dropping attacks that could wreck whole cities. But, plot twist, the hero grabs its attention, saving the day. He's on a rock, waving his red sword like a boss. Seizing the moment, he jumps and nails a perfect strike on the enemy. He unleashes his epic power, slicing deep into the dragon's chest. Sig's done with this, can't stand being cursed by this arrogant foe. Rocks start flying, blocking the hero's view in the dusty chaos. The dragon's still kicking, going all out, while the MC dodges like a pro. He's ticked off, stabbed with some cursed junk. Once more, the MC fires up his epic vision for another killer attack. He zooms past the enemy, slicing everything, blood flying everywhere. The hit's so strong, the dragon crashes down for a sec, sword shining for all to see. Sig's fearless, asking if they still want to keep this up. The dragon, all beat up, decides to talk it out instead of fighting. Turns out, the dragon was just a pawn, not the real villain. For treasure, it was told to attack Evergreen without mercy. Even after doing all that, they still wanted it gone. Carl's like, Drake's been trying to fix the city, but he's selling out his own country. Finally, everyone gets the villain's scheme. Become king of the continent using the dragon as bait. The plan to shake up Evergreen is to kick off a war, wrecking the city's peace. Sitting on his throne, the bearded dude's sure he's gonna be king. The dragon's idea is to nab Drake together, as payback. But the hero's not having it, says he's taking them both down to wrap this up. Then he unleashes a massive explosive attack, ready to end it all for good. Whoa, plot twist. Turns out it was just an illusion spell, and his epic strike only sliced through air. While they're chatting, the dragon's magic reboots, letting it vanish right in the middle of the attack. Dust clouds everywhere, and the squad's gotta stay sharp for any sneaky enemy moves. The dragon's back with its fiery breath, claiming there's no escape, only doom. Minerva's got a wild idea, using a body to break the big lizard's magic spell. Legends say no dragon has ever bowed to a mere human, like, ever. The MC's caught off guard, the enemy's right there, and bam, he gets hit. The dragon's feeling all smug, thinking it's won with that hit. But surprise, the trio's still kicking, thanks to a magical shield. The MC's baffled, they were so close to biting the dust. Turns out, dragon blood touched the sword, making it super OP. The two fighters lock eyes, ready to end this showdown as soon as possible. Sig's pumped, realizing he can power up by smacking the dragon. With eyes blazing, he hurls the sword, aiming for massive damage. Even with a protection spell, the blade's tip starts cracking the magic shield. But the dragon's tough, shrugging off the attack like it's nothing. Weirdly, the sword starts spinning on its own, like it's got a mind of its own. From afar, soldiers wonder if the heroes are okay after the brawl. They're amazed, thinking the hero soloed the enemy, no backup needed. The boys keeping the sword's power on the down low, so no one tries to snag it. Problem is, they gotta bounce. The cave ceiling's about to crash down. Everyone's sprinting like crazy to dodge falling rocks and stay alive. Still, the hero's determined to grab his sword, even with danger all around. He knows the dragon's blood will boost his power even more. When he gets there, he's baffled by the intense red energy aura. In front of him, his red blade's even more epic than before. Now, the dragon's sword soaked up all the dragon's blood, like centuries of war. From the outside, this duo looks legendary, though the sword seems ordinary. Actually, it's a cursed magical sword, no doubt about it. Apparently, it was sealed for 500 years to stop it from drinking blood, so it's got to be kept in check before it goes wild. Just one sacrifice crowned the demon sealed in the blade. Now, after 500 years, this power's back on Earth. Once more, this force shows its true form, and it's a big deal. Clearly, the hero's fate is obvious. He's seen this kind of thing before. In this case, he's got one plan, and he's going for it. But some weird energy forms, giving the attacker an opening. Problem is, everything's crumbling and falling apart. Luckily, the soldiers barely escape in time. With that, the mission's a wrap, and the knights start celebrating. Still, the commander's not feeling great about it all. After all, without the hero, none of this would have happened. And, apparently, he's the one who stayed in the cave that collapsed after saving them. The rock's got magic in it, and the strength to lift it is unreal. It's a heroic end, but the girls don't buy that the boy's really gone. This bugs the knights, who can't get why the girls aren't upset. To the girls, the knights are kind of funny, not taking them seriously. After all, they're sure the hero wouldn't go down that easy. Activating all his main powers, he charges up to escape. By sheer luck, he thinks he was stuck, no way to move. Still, he makes it back, only to hear complaints for taking too long. This leaves the boss scratching his head. How the boy escaped with just his fists. Then it's revealed the sword's left in the cave forever, not something good to keep. This attitude totally wows the blonde, seeing it as a move of pure epic honor. He admits he had doubts about the kid's vibe until now, but after this, he's got zero. After all, those warriors took the favor with mad respect and gratitude. They all kneel and swear to have his back forever. Honestly, they can't trust this hero 100%, but they know they need him right now. After all, the chaos from Drake's rebellion is going to need some serious backup. And, no doubt, the main dude's strong enough to wreck dragons and stop this rebellion without any casualties. This fires up the commander, who dreams of saving Evergreen together. Sadly, the MC's not down to dive into other people's drama again. He knows innocents will get caught up and suffer in the coming war. And it seems it's the dude in front of him who's got to step up. This ticks off Minerva, who threatens him with pure rage. She says no one really knows him, and no one will remember him if an accident happens. This totally shifts the vibe around the warrior. It's a must that can't be ignored by anyone on Earth. After all, in the end, loneliness is all that's left for someone like him. This hits the blonde hard, making him think his friend might be onto something. Even so, he decides to give it a shot and see if he can be known for something bigger. The little princess says the knight can fight all he wants, no matter how the story ends, and she asks if dedication and a good heart aren't worth having. Suspiciously, the main dude says if he's betrayed, he'll take out all the knights. In a serious tone, he reminds them they swore to serve him for life and gotta follow his lead. Like a boss, he plans to keep them in check until his own end. Back at the castle, chaos is already kicking off with a brutal rebellion. The soldiers get orders to guard the throne room and protect the majesty. Fueled by rage, Rick Grimes charges into battle against the mercenaries. His power's insane, smashing the ground with just a burst of blue energy. The henchmen freak out seeing that energy coming at them, ready to destroy. The White Knight takes them down one by one, while backup rushes in. Even being strong, he sees he's gonna get swamped by the enemy numbers. Drake shows up and says Rick's living up to the hype as the castle's strongest knight. With his powerful crew, the strategist hits the rebellion's center. He admits, kinda bummed, he should have moved that knight to a lower rank before. The orders now are to wipe out all the rebellion's wild cards, and the blonde's one of them. Loads of warriors get mentioned, most from the Dark Knight squad. After all, folks like Lieutenant Walsh aren't needed in Evergreen anymore, says the new bosses. These soldiers were under the dreamer Carl Alexander's command. Ticked off learning all this, the paladin says the rebellion ends here. But Drake crushes his hopes, saying the reinforcements were wiped out ages ago. A powerful mage cast a spell that aged them to their last days. The knight's oath means they never run from a fight, so the man made them swear this time they should have bailed. The man in the suit says risking your life for a belief is, honestly, kinda nuts. Facing the mercenary in front of him, the knight feels fear for the first time ever. That person's dangerous in a way that's never hit him like this before. Even so, he tries to swallow his pride and fight, wanting to prove he's still the strongest in Evergreen. But for just a moment, he stumbles and sees he's just a drop in the ocean against that power. After getting hit, the enemy creeps closer, making it clear the loss is already sealed. Even struggling and almost down, he refuses to give in to the villain. The orders are clear. Take out the soldier, however needed for the mission's success. Without a second thought, the aging magic kicks in, starting to drain the man from the inside, drying his life bit by bit. The person before him is Glenn Ibis, the leader of the continent's most powerful mercenary guild. Someone who, back in the day, was one of the 5 warlords of Cade. Inside the castle, they find a secret passage just for the royal family. All right, buckle up, because this story's about to get wild. So, there's this secret passage, right? Perfect for a sneaky escape to find someone who can help out. But, plot twist, the king's too chunky to squeeze through. Talk about a royal problem. He figures the rebellion's is bad, so he's gotta own up to it. The door's locked tight, no matter how hard they pound, thanks to some magic mumbo-jumbo. A kid's bawling, begging the captain not to ditch his dad. The king's last words to his son, Cain, stay strong and keep on keeping on. He hugs Cain, telling him to be a better dude than he ever was. Just as he shoves Cain into the secret passage, bam, the mercenaries bust in. Drake and his crew crash the party. The king's chilling on his throne, totally unfazed by Drake's entrance. Old dude's got a hunch the kid's hiding somewhere. Drake's gotta find Cain to snag the crown, thinking the kid can't be far. The king gets taken out in a brutal showdown. Glenn's orders, tear the place apart until they find the kid. It's kinda messed up, dying just cause of who your dad is. The soldiers are clueless why the prime minister went all rebel mode with mercenaries. Drake's gunning for the throne, but not if the prince is still kicking. Loads of mercenaries are on the hunt for this one sneaky kid. The commander's stressed, knowing Evergreen's glory days are toast. Our hero steps up, ready to protect the kid before the mercs nab him. Now, it's all about finding the hidden kid. Soldiers are sprinting through the city, thinking the kid slipped by. Even with all those dudes searching, they totally lose the kid's trail. Luckily, the kid's got mad hiding skills. He's crying over his dad. Can't believe he's been on the run forever. If this keeps up, it's only a matter of time before he's caught. Desperate, he's hoping for a hero to save the day. In the shadows, someone grabs him to stop his screams. Good news, it's the hero, promising the kid safe. From now on, the knights are on prince protection duty. In a secret spot, they start piecing together the rebellion puzzle. Turns out, even the dragon attack was part of the scheme. This story's got connections everywhere. Thankfully, the hero's not being hunted, but mercs are all over. The blonde's plan? Hide underground with the prince. There's a bunker ready for invasions, but they can only chill there for a week. The kid's torn, tired of running, not sure what to do. After ditching the castle, he feels like a total failure. His dad said to survive, but he's clueless on how to do that. Feeling down, he tells them to save everyone else and leave him. This ticks off the little girl, who won't let him give up so easily. If he's got the energy to quit, he can use it to help her and choose life. She remembers the curse that took Sui's old owners, making her sensitive to this stuff. Minerva's had enough, ready to handle things her way. She clocks the kid, knocking him out cold. Everyone's stunned, jaws on the floor. Minerva jokes it's a trick to put a weak horse to sleep. The kid wakes up, never been slapped like that before. It's a wake-up call that life's worth fighting for. This sparks a fire in Cain Evergreen, shaking off his despair. First time a girl's treated him like this, and he's smitten. He swears to follow Minerva's lead, ready to live with purpose. From then on, he pledges to serve Minerva, becoming her first sidekick. At the table, the kid admits he showed a pretty lame side of himself. Even so, the hero's stoked to see the prince bounce back with some serious inner strength. Minerva's all smug, claiming she can even stop a prince from bawling his eyes out. She finally gets some props from her master and is already hitting him up for favors. Sui, feeling a bit salty, jumps in and says they should get back to the main stuff. From the prince's angle, there's no clear way to squash the rebellion right now. At first glance, these soldiers are way stronger than the Shadow Knights. He missed the battle because he wasn't in the throne room, but he knows the enemies are crazy powerful. Basically, the situation's super tight, and everyone's clueless about what to do. Like it's no biggie, he says if the conditions are whack, just flip them to something better. He's planning to sneak into enemy turf and drop a bait, ninja style. Everyone's shook, because pulling off something like this is going to take a ton of effort. Out of nowhere, someone in the castle yells that the hidden prince got nabbed. Right after, soldiers roll in saying they've got the kid locked up. A trio of adventurers pops up, carrying the target like a prize. The hero of doom shows up, and it's the legendary signature Jaeger. And finally, the big bad Drake rolls in, clearly vibing with the drama. The big fish are finally about to get reeled in. 2 hours ago, everyone was already clued in on what to do according to the plan. They needed to scoop up as much intel on the enemies while the knights stalled for time. And if anything went sideways, they had to alert the main dude to jump in. Sui casually mentions how dope those clothes are and thanks for buying them. She says she'll rock them happily forever, even if they're not super fancy. So, the MC puts mad trust in her besties for this risky mission. The dragon got wrecked, and all its secrets are now buried with its tomb. Still, Drake definitely knows some juicy stuff got spilled before his last showdown. Now, the new king of Evergreen calls the hero and the knight for a meetup. The weirdest part is they were royal fam allies but still handed over the runaway prince. This makes the old dude wonder what shady plans these folks have up their sleeves. Cleverly, the elder suggests they head home before things get even messier. To wiggle out of this jam, the hero talks about a certain chance. In the chaos of war, chances pop up, and one is that Emilia had the first queen. Because of this, Carbon whipped up an army for the first time since forever. If war kicks off, the neighboring continents are going to get even more chaotic. Evergreen's the continent's hub and will definitely get swarmed by opportunists. The duo's got different goals but good vibes and knows this whole thing's messed up. This ends up being a solid move from the hero and makes the old dude trust him. The mercenary needs to jump into the convo, because he's a key player in this whole revolution. He's the boss of the most decked-out mercenary squad on the continent. He says it's a total honor to finally meet the hero of doom, but without a second thought, he charges in, wishing him a peaceful exit via death. Luckily, the kid's quick and whips out his blades just in time to block. While holding his ground, he jokes that it's weird to call it trust with a sword in his face. Glenn's clear he won't let the supposed red dragon sword thief walk away alive. The commander stays out of it, but worries his buddy might lose this brawl. Having lost his epic sword, he's way weaker than the enemy. To make it worse, this mercenary's got the perfect skills to take him out anytime. The knight's gotta force his brain to work in this crazy danger. In the heat of battle, the brightest idea he gets is to just yell for them to stop. The wildest part is that it actually works, and they both freeze the fight. Laura's plan is to sort everything out by talking it out. So, everyone chills with some tea and chats after the chaos. The protagonist already knows who the mercenary is and doesn't need intros. That guy's career got wrecked after being accused of war crimes. The MC knows this because the sword used in the fight is a trophy from the Kaid army. Alright, buckle up, because this story is about to get wild. So, this dude's brain is basically army-made, thanks to some hardcore training experiments. He was in this guild, then went mercenary mode, which means he did some seriously bad stuff. One of those bad moves? Wiping out civilians in different cities. Yikes. That accusation was a total freestyle, but it hit way too close to home. Glenn's like, whoa, this kid's got some serious detective skills. He figures his boss is the legendary Kaid, the Silver Knight, the next big hero. This makes the knight super nervous, because how do you even fight a legend? The hero spots the fear and tells his buddy to keep it cool on the battlefield. Seeing his friend all shaky, he grabs him by the collar and bounces. The mercenaries all catch you on the battlefield before fear eats you alive. Snagging a roll from the table, he's like, I'll snack on this later, and jets with his pal. Then there's this big debate on whether to let the hero and knights off the hook. Drake's got a bad feeling, but decides now's not the time to play detective. The psycho's just itching for the perfect moment to take down his foes. Meanwhile, the prince is chilling in a dungeon somewhere in the city. Finally, someone decides it's go time. Plot twist. Minerva was undercover the whole time. She's all smiles, ready to jump into the action. To clear things up, the little genius lays out the plan from the start. To sneak into Evergreen, they had to distract the old dude and his sidekick. The genius move? Use the prince as bait to grab everyone's attention. But let's be real. A crying kid wouldn't last in a creepy prison. So, someone had to swap places with the prince. Enter Minerva, the escape artist. Even the biggest dummies can get this plan. Basically, Minerva was the one locked up, not the royal prince. Mid-explanation, she waves goodbye and vanishes into the shadows. The soldiers gotta tell the captain but are left scratching their heads about the real target. Elsewhere, the boy's dressed as Minerva, hoping his buddy comes back soon. He's super embarrassed in the girl getup and doesn't want anyone finding out. Luckily, Signature pops up, checking if his protege is alright, cause the kid's looking rough after going too hard the night before. Sui spills that the prince was actually spying on the mercenaries with the prime minister. Flashback to when the duo chatted up some soldiers at the gate. The guards were grumpy, but the princess used her charm offensive. This totally melted the guards, who were dying to know what she wanted. So eager, they spilled the beans on secret stuff like troop numbers. Thanks to this, the prince nailed his spy mission. No sweat. Turns out, the mercenaries have about 100 dudes holding the castle. They took over so easily because there was a traitor in the ranks. They took the risk to scope out the enemy's strength. The allies have like 30 people, while the bad guys have over 130. A head-on fight would be like smashing an egg against a rock. So, they cooked up a plan to scatter the enemy and lure them away. Meanwhile, the Dark Knights will swoop in and reclaim the castle. Good news, the commander rolls up with the carriage, ready to roll out. Plus, they sabotage the enemy's rides to slow them down. The MC's all proud, saying it's a waste to keep the blonde as just a weak knight, but they gotta wait for Minerva's signal before making a move. Then, word gets out that the prince busted out of jail, kicking off the mission. To stay safe, the boys gotta link up with the knights before things kick off. Kaim's super thankful and promises to return the favor someday. Sig's cool with it, saying one favor's enough, and then they're square. The girl rolls back in, all smiles, seeing the heirs finally got the guts to handle a war. But soon, they're bickering, both wanting to swap places, totally over pretending to be each other. While they're switching, Minerva's all wow, these clothes really pop when the right person wears them. The sisters reunite, and the princess is super stressed, thinking prison life must have been rough. But Emo's chill, not even bothered like, prison, meh, no biggie. She's actually hyped for the mission, eager to see the mercenary she's gonna face. But the MC's like, nah, I'm only fighting with Sui, sorry. Minerva's offended, saying, dude, there's a limit to jokes. Cursed swords vie with their owners, sharing feelings like a live stream. Fear was the big mood for the protagonist during the battle. It shows that, even wanting to fight, the girl's still scared for her life. Surprising, right? Behind that brave face, she's got some serious fear she won't admit. He tells her she's not useless, just has other key roles in the war. One big job, protecting the MVP of the mission, Prince Cain. After hearing this, she's pumped and finally gets her part in the battle. With tears, she accepts her role, ready to follow her master's orders. They fist bump, sealing trust and full-on war mode. The carriage rolls out, leaving the girl both hyped and worried. She's got this nagging fear something bad will happen to her master, and it won't quit. Drake's ticked off, realizing the prince how'd he need out of his cell. Security was tight, no way out, guards on full alert. The bodyguards gotta explain what went down before they get in trouble. Turns out, Minerva vanished using her dark magic. It hits them, she was just a decoy, teleporting out like a boss. The Prime Minister starts piecing together the enemy's plan from the jump. Still, he stays cool, saying they'll fix it fast, telling his ally to chill somewhere safe. The old dude loses it, yelling his general couldn't even keep a kid locked up. This ticks off the minister, feeling the need to set the record straight on everyone's roles. With a wicked grin, he says he's not a soldier for the king, just a mercenary for hire. He warns not to mess up their alliance, or else. His words spook the traitor, who quickly says sorry. As he walks away, it's clear who the real threat is in this whole mess. Outside, a soldier asks if it's cool to leave Drake hanging like that. The answer's icy. No need to sweat over an old dog's bark. The mercenaries' plan to puppet Evergreen is already in motion. Just then, a messenger shows up, saying the hero's carriage just bolted from the castle. It's heading towards Evergreen, through the forest, like they want to be followed. They took off chill, no rush, no escape vibes. The sadistic one gets pumped, realizing the hero wants a showdown. Fired up, he craves a deadly duel and a real massacre. So, the Prime Minister calls in all his troops for this epic fight. Meanwhile, the hero's just chilling by the clock tower, waiting for his targets. When Glenn shows up, he jokes, dude, you're super late for the fight. The battle's set in an open field, rain pouring down, making it all dramatic. Standing up, the hero asks why so many soldiers came just to watch. The guy's like, not here to watch, here to take you down, with backup. With all the trash talk, the hero's left speechless. The plan to lure soldiers out with decoys is busted. Drake knows his castle's gonna get hit by the Dark Knights, ready for the showdown, no fear. Then Glenn, with a voice colder than a snowman's handshake, says everyone's gonna bite the dust, no mercy, one by one. Before the brawl kicks off, he's all, hey, you can still bail and save your skin. No need to waste it here. But the main dude's not even phased, firing back that it's his foes who'll be pushing up daisies. The assassin struts in, thinking there's no way the hero can beat the crazy number of soldiers with such a basic plan. Sig gives a heads up that he's not flying solo and knows he doesn't have a squad to go toe-to-toe. Boom! The little princess pops up, unleashing her blue magic right on the enemy crew. In a flash, she nails the Prime Minister with a chest stab, causing major damage. The guy watches the blade go through him and hits the dirt, too weak to even blink. The soldiers are shook, seeing their captain drop like a sack of potatoes. Watching the chaos, the MC grins and casually mentions there's one less baddie to worry about. Still, the soldiers don't back down, charging forward, ready to throw down. No sweat for the hero, who dodges attacks and fires up his most epic spells. A massive explosion rocks the battlefield, thanks to his slick dodges and counter moves. With each enemy down, he's counting how many are left to wrap this up and win the war. From a distance, the soldiers notice his moves are wild, impossible to predict or track. The new game plan is to swarm him, because no sane person could block everything. Luckily, Sui's nearby, taking out the sharpest soldiers without a second thought. Crawling around, no one can figure out where the hits are coming from, like they're falling from the sky. Some peep the horizon and see the big black moon ruling the sky, confirming their suspicions. It kicks off with a simple rain, harmless at first, but when it hits, it's a whole different story. By soaking up the mana in the air, it morphs and freezes into sharp shapes. The rain turns into a deadly ice storm, slicing through even the toughest soldiers. This was always the hero's go-to move for dealing with being surrounded. Using the terrain to your advantage in a fight is almost always the smartest play. With this, the enemy soldiers get wrecked by the sharp rain, leaving no escape. Many keep running, clinging to the hope of surviving. But the blasts are intense and relentless. Uh-oh. Turns out the Prime Minister's still kicking and starts casting some weird spells. Slowly, his body starts healing, and his eyes go full-on spooky white. Finally, he lets out a deep breath, making it clear he's still in the game and ready to rumble. Meanwhile, one mercenary makes a break for it, thinking she's safe in a nearby building. Her crew's all banged up, making escape a long shot. Fear spreads as they realize the hero's power, commanding forces beyond belief. The plan's simple now. Hide until the storm blows over. She freaks out seeing the Prime Minister standing there and whips out her blade. The guy's looking fresh and comments, with a frosty grin, that he's glad to see his men still kicking. Even with a chest wound, his vital spots were protected, and he's totally fine. Calmly, he steps up and heals some of his buddy's vital points. Sadly, not everyone's so lucky. The woman's arm is toast and won't ever heal. Brutally, the sadist grabs her by the neck, saying soldiers who can't fight are useless. He decides to off her, using her life to power up for the next showdown. Using his life-sucking power, he thinks it's the smartest move. Even as she begs for mercy, nothing changes. Her life's drained through magic. This power-up makes him crazy strong, earning him a spot among the Supreme Five. From the start, his soldiers were meant for this, but he never thought he'd need to chow down on so many. Now, he's all serious, vowing to take down Signature Jagger in the best way possible. Outside, the soldiers keep fighting now that the rain stopped, thinking they still have a shot. Even so, the hero's battling like it's just another Tuesday, totally chill amidst the chaos. Sui's ice barrier was a game-changer, wiping out enemies with ease. Alright, so the MC just needs to wipe out the last survivors and finally wrap up this epic battle. With just one hand, he smashes enemy swords like they're made of paper. His blows are that powerful. Turns out, taking them on one by one is way more efficient than going all in at once. Meanwhile, the young woman is still fearless, thinking she can take down Signature all by herself. Fed up, he warns her again that he's not flying solo in this fight and powers up his sword. He kicks off an explosive blade move with his vision spells ready to rock. In no time, he freezes all the baddies in front of him, showing zero mercy. After taking out the last soldiers, the arena finally goes quiet, like a library on a snow day. The little princess pops up, saying sorry for making everything so chilly, like a walking icebox, but she promises she's there to keep her buddy safe from the big freeze. They share a cute chat about having each other's backs and slicing through enemies like a hot knife through butter. Their friendship levels up, and the cursed sword's emotions get even more intense. The melting ice looks like tears on Sui's face, super dramatic. Even though they won, the job's not done. They still gotta head back to Drake's palace. Sui, wanting to stick with her friend, mentions she'd love to hit up Evergreen National Park. The squad's plan is to chill there once all the chaos is over. Word on the street is the sunset there is legendary, perfect for a squad hangout. While they're chatting, a green aura creeps in, making things a bit spooky. Quick as a flash, the boy blocks a blow that could have been game over and spots the dude in front of him. It's wild to see the target survive the attacks and didn't go down like he should have. This time, the minister's all about ending this fight for good. With a wicked grin, he says he's going to do it by taking out his target. No holding back. Flashback to 12 years ago, on the front lines of a territorial beef. Tied up, the psycho's getting punished for looting a whole village. Not cool. He claims there was an enemy spy hiding out, so he did it to protect his crew. The man asks if he feels any guilt for causing such a massive mess. Meet the Grand Duke of Cade and the Supreme Five, the Silver Knight Bino Stein. A massacre went down against civilians in a non-battle zone. Major yikes. For wiping out innocent folks, including the elderly, the psychos dubbed the murderous Raven of Cade. He spills that he only meant to take out one person but couldn't resist and wiped out the whole fam. Finally, he says he took out the whole village so no one would be left lonely. Twisted logic. This screams zero empathy and extreme impulsivity. Classic signs of neural issues. Even with his knightly achievements, you can't just brush off such a horror show. That's why Glenn's sentenced to death for war crimes, no mercy. Still, he shows no regret, claiming he suffered loads, sacrificing everything to be a soldier. To be the ultimate soldier, he injected monster blood into himself, now tossed aside near war's end. Fueled by rage, a green energy snaps the ropes, setting the evil dude free. His power is so intense, he charges at his opponent with pure revenge vibes. Yet, the Silver Knight asks if those are his final words, like a boss. In seconds, he slices the opponent without breaking a sweat. Total pro. He wins a battle he never thought would turn that madman into his main disciple. The traitor, seen as a stain on the army, needs to be tossed out. In a mountain grave, a sack with remains gets chucked into a deep hole. But suddenly, the sack starts moving, and a hand pops out, scaring everyone silly. The evil one rises, his energy so hot it changes the whole vibe of the place. Effortlessly, he does his thing, and even scores a sword in the end. No doubt, this makes his day, perfectly matching the chill weather. The script's clear. From now on, he's got to be a mercenary, no other choice. Back to now, he admits the warrior's skills are seriously impressive. The guys around his enemy were on the brink, but somehow get back up. To make things worse, the MC realizes his plan flopped, and they manage to bounce back. With his mana totally tapped out, dude's stamina was toast after the epic showdown. But Glenevis is in the same boat, can't attack without some serious brainpower. Our hero's scratching his head, totally baffled by the mystery monster lurking in the shadows. Even after a direct hit on his squad, the enemy just shrugs it off with a block. Coughing up blood, the MC's like, whoa, this guy's on a whole different level. Fear's creeping in, but he kinda digs that he's causing such a vibe. Just a glance from that Raven sends shivers down the spine, like major despair vibes. Fired up, the hero gets it. He's facing a full-on assassin. Can't let this dude slip away. As a warrior, backing down ain't an option. Gotta throw down or go home. Suddenly, the enemy steps back, pure instinct kicking in. His body's shaking, and through the pain, he's like, oh, my arm's toast. In his head, it's all about winner takes all. Past wins don't mean squat. Sig's fear hits hard, and his crew's like zombies, charging to finish the job. Orders are clear. Take out the warrior and snag the demonic sword as a trophy. The reborn army's marching with one goal in mind. No distractions. Sui shows up, sees his master beat up, but still striking a macho pose. He's all, once I catch my breath, I'll wipe the floor with these guys. Now with the Ember, the dude's tearing up. Sorry for not fighting better. But no need for sorries. He did his best, and that's what counts. This is the hero's battle. He's got the power to clinch the win. The army's closing in. Battle's far from over. Time to step up. And, of course, Minerva's got to make her grand entrance to hype things up. With her dark magic and teleportation, she pops into the battle, boosting morale. Going for a bro hug, he sees the chaos is off the charts. But, oops, leaving the palace unguarded was a rookie mistake. This ticks off the girl, who is super worried, and she's not feeling the love. Still, they start goofing around on the battlefield. Danger. What danger? Even now, the boy's cocky, not fully getting how serious things are. Yet, the girl gives him a black rose on a stick, a promise for the future. Standing tall, this is Signature Jaeger's last shot to prove his worth. Giving it his all, he wants his master to see him take down the opposition. But he's not down with being anyone's lackey. No thanks. This shows he's as stubborn as the MC. Birds of a feather, right? They joke, saying it takes one fool to know another. This is their one-time team-up, and together, they'll rock the demonic sword, just like in One Piece. Joining forces, Minerva promises to wield the Blade of Resentment, lending her power. In this battlefield, the hero's finally putting his master plan into action. The power unleashed is off the charts. A dark energy orb forms in the sky. This freaks out the baddie, who sees the light vanish in a flash. The hero's new form is revealed, demonic sword in hand, ready to rumble. They feel a mix of solitude and maturity, with a sprinkle of kindness and warmth. The wild part, when they're linked, they can even catch each other's thoughts. This is next-level stuff, and the Raven's totally digging the scene. Even so, the MC's fearless, set on reclaiming what's his. For the assassin, it's just a basic regen ability, and he charges forward. His plan's solid, still aiming to take the warrior out of the game. Minerva and Sui are on point, attacking in perfect harmony. On one side, enemies are frozen solid. On the other, shredded by purple energy. This ticks off the villain big time. Didn't see that coming. Feeling on top of the world, the hero knows what's next is going to be wild. Legendary or demonic swords have their own epic powers, each one unique. In the case of Minerva and her demonic blade of resentment, there's something super unique going on. The power to heal any injury the hero gets, like, instantly. Talk about OP. In a flash, he zooms forward and slices the dude's leg with some dark energy. Feels like slicing through water, and everything's been flowing smoother since the fight kicked off. When the orc chopped that tree, it bounced back even when it was totally wrecked. Turns out, it was Minerva and her secret skills keeping everything together all along. Later, he promises to give his buddy a shout-out once the battle's done. But the little princess gives a heads up that something's off with the locals. What's happening is totally bonkers, and the baddie is shaking in pain. He ditched all his humanity for this power, and now he's losing to a basic sword. His plan? Use his own flesh to power up his minions, letting them chow down on him. In return, he'd dive into an endless battle, fueled by dark energy. Or, more like, the green energy that's taking over now. From the start, his real goal was to spark an endless chaos in the city's fields. In seconds, the reborn army charges through the city, even outpacing the villain leading the way. This is the mercenaries' last-ditch effort, still clinging to victory. The girls are geared up for another round of epic cuts in a wild fight. Turning into a sword, the guy goes for an X attack, blasting dark energy and ice everywhere. The showdown finally kicks off, and it's all about who hits the ground first. The two dive into a fierce clash, dodging and blocking like pros. As he charges, slicing everything ahead, the guy gets ambushed from behind by a trio of stabs. It's clear more crazies are joining in, stabbing him non-stop. What they don't get is this fight's never going to be logical or end peacefully. Next, it's not even a fight anymore, but a total skill flex by the hero. The chaos spreads through the city as bodies dive into battle, until one of them quits or can't heal anymore. This fight's endless. It was a total wipeout, with a clear fate set for both fighters. Sig knows he's unbeatable and tells the enemy to just give up already. But the madman ain't scared, claiming he's meant to take him down. He says the win was fake, just luck on the hero's side. Everything was risked to win, but the MC hasn't kept his end of the bargain yet. He says the only thing making him strong is his bloodline and the two demonic swords, and without them, all wins would be fake, just dumb luck. But it's explained that his lineage was always at a disadvantage. Same goes for the girls with a direct link to the demonic swords in them. This ticks off the MC, who says they don't know his story. Even so, the guy predicts his rival will end up like him someday. Signature Jaeger gets ticked and unleashes his ultimate powers to crush the enemy. Landing a massive hit, he proves the opponent's point about wild power. While taking the hit, he says one day the MC will also turn into a monster, drunk on his own status. His only regret as he fades is not seeing this happen in the future. The hit's so strong it wrecks the battlefield and everything around, unleashing brutal, dark energy. Amidst the chaos, the Silver Savior stands victorious. Beside him, the two girls shift back to human form and hug their master, clearly worried. Happy that everything's cool now and there's no more reason to freak out. Inside the palace, Drake orders the rebels to step aside. He threatens them, claiming he's the real king of all Evergreen. Right then, the little prince shows up with a sword, ready to throw down. The old guy says the former king was a tyrant and a fool, couldn't handle his own crown. This ticks off the blonde, because he knew his dad and knew he wasn't about oppressing people. Even with folks like Drake around, the old king gave his life to save the kingdom. Fueled by anger, the prince says the only weight Drake will bear is the blade in his back, but someone catches the strike with their hand, stopping the fight. Signature steps in, saying that's not how a kid should act. Even Minerva herself doesn't want her buddy getting all Dexter with those bloody hands. The prince drops the sword, hits the ground on his knees, and starts bawling, totally lost. Luckily, Sui pops up, gives him a hug, and whispers some chill vibes. Then, feeling better, the dude starts crying again, right there on the messy battlefield. Finally, they snag the palace, and our main guy can finally crash in his bed. A lot's changed since then, and thank goodness. The scar on his face is totally gone. The best part? The two girls are snoozing in the bed too, like little angels. But this bugs the hero, who's all about solo sleep and not being crowded. Keeping their promise, the trio hits up a picnic by that lake they always chat about. Minerva, though, has the MC worried, because she's munching like a champ every day. They lock eyes, remembering the battle where they went all out to win. It's kind of weird how she avoids eye contact with the emo after turning into a blade. He hands her a cloth, all polite, to wipe the dirt off her face. Meanwhile, Sui, who's always been the quiet type, is even more reserved now. Actually, she's been super sweet and close to her master lately. While walking, Minerva chucks a snack at her master's face. As a lesson, she gets a playful punch, because food fights are a no-go. To wrap up the night, she says there's something cool to show the girls. Time flies, and the moon finally pops up, lighting up the sky all pretty. Away from the crowd, the MC and his little princess cuddle, moon-gazing. They start figuring out who Zig is, the guy dreaming of a city restaurant. This dude taught the MC everything, so he's super important to him. Minerva admits she's not as tight with the blade as her buddy is, which means she's still figuring out her friend's inner thoughts. While Sky watching, she's curious about her master's mentor. After he spills the story, they notice the lake glowing with wild colors. From it, magical fireworks burst out, lighting up the sky even more. These lights are why this spot's called the Pride of Evergreen. The coolest part, the fireworks spell out messages in the sky. Today, they're thank yous to the 3 warriors who saved the kingdom. In the palace, the prince is stoked while his soldiers party hard. Never before did the fighter feel his warrior journey was this epic. His relationships usually ended up in a mess somehow. His life's been a never-ending battle cycle. Watching the sky and reading those gratitude messages with his pals, he starts thinking maybe things aren't so bad. This is the main hangout for the kingdom's mercenaries. They're chatting about how things are getting worse fast. The talk's all about the rebellion and how the young master acted solo. On the magazine cover is the punishment warrior, who took out 100 mercs in one swing. The big worry is they lost their top soldiers, including the legendary Glenn Evis. The old dude says, despite being nuts, Glenn was their best and brightest mercenary. The hat guy chimes in, saying he knows Kevin and they've clashed before. The day after the fight, a totally different guy showed up, even starting his own biz. His plan was to crush rivals with spying and bribery. Business boomed, sales went through the roof, becoming a top brand on the continent. At first, he was stoked to see his son thriving, but soon spotted shady stuff. The practices were wild, from looting to illegal people transport. On the surface, it was just an arms dealer, but really, it was a crime ring. The issue is the young master's too powerful to take down easily. If this keeps up, the whole company's gonna tank, and they need to bail before it's too late. Suddenly, the rude dude barges in, acting like he owns the place. As he gets closer, he says they could have said all that straight to his face, no sweat. Sadly, even trying to play it cool, the crime boss heard every word. His dad gets ticked, saying the management style is too hardcore, surrounding the company with enemies. Alright, buckle up, cause this story's about to get wild. So, this dude learned to crush the competition, no matter what it takes. Then, the butlers all, yo, what went down in Evergreen? We lost a ton of soldiers. Turns out, it was just a test run for future business shenanigans. At first, they wanted to use the city as a puppet for a bigger war, but plans flipped. Even though the rebellion flopped, it was a wake-up call for the world, like a big ol' warning sign. Now, all the kingdoms are gearing up, getting ready for a future showdown. And guess what? They'll be under their thumb, because if you don't deal with them, you're toast. Next up on the hit list is the Kingdom of Emilia, the new testing ground. His plan's rolling just as he thought, and a real war is about to kick off. His fam's freaking out, but his crew's stoked about the progress. These moves are total crimes, in real life, but hey, they're gonna be swimming in gold. Being merchants, it's all worth it if they can stack that cash. The old man's bummed to see his kid turn into a ruthless business shark. So, he boots the young dude from management, like, as soon as possible. But the crime boss, he couldn't care less. Just looks tired. With zero chill, he tells his crew to go after his own dad. He claims he's just getting rid of a rat gnawing at the company. In a savage twist, the execution goes down. Family ties shattered forever. But plot twist, the one who bites it is the poor butler. It's a brutal scene. No mercy for the loyal dude who served him forever. The duo's even grinning, happy they found the rat. Now, they're all about taking over Dad's company. He orders his dad to be sent somewhere chill, far from the boss's chair. As he's taken away, the old man worries about what his son's become. Alone with his wife, he's kind of proud of raising the continent's biggest arms dealer. Still, his dad won't call him a real success. Next target, Signature Jaeger, who's been a thorn in his side. The redheads all, plenty of chances to nail this plan later. Everything he wants is coming. Just gotta trust and follow the master's lead. A few days back, in Evergreen's dungeon, something went down. Drake's like, only way to save the kingdom was to roll with it. Nothing's changing. He says he should have been toast by now, but the prince's mercy kept him alive. This means the old man's up for an interrogation and trial. But first, he's gotta spill everything, like how he hooked up with the arms dealers. Smartest move? Spill the beans on what he traded for military backup. His end can't be like this, cause the girl picked him and should show up to bail him out. Lucky for him, that's exactly what happens, and the sorceress swoops in to save him. With just her presence, Lady Artemis wipes out the guards and frees her buddy. She can't believe he flopped, even after all those investments, from dragons to mercs. He blames it on too many hurdles. Even a warrior got in his way. Even though his mission's done, he begs for another shot. He promises not to mess up again if she helps him bust out. She taps into fire energy and helps him break free. With the dungeon going up in flames, they vanish in smoke and ashes. Soldiers are scrambling for water, getting launched sky high in agony. Evergreen's problem? Solve. Easy peasy. Even without hitting the original target, new paths are opening up. In the distance, you can feel the continent's people getting greedier. That's why she's happy, because the world's full of ambitious folks. The plan now? Gather more power than the old wizard ever dreamed of. He asks if the crime boss knows about the disaster crystals. They're ancient swords, packed with demonic power, just like the redhead. In human terms, he's talking about her own sisters. After a chill break at the national park, the trio heads back to the royal palace to see the king. The whole city was buzzing, trying to clean up the chaos from the rebellion. Anyone who sided with the enemy got booted out, no questions asked. But with Drake gone in the fire, things were still a bit wobbly for a while. Even in the madness, the squad rolls back to snag their mission reward. The young kings all hyped to meet the kingdom's saviors and asks how the trip went. Sui and Minerva joke about loving the fireworks and being stoked with the gift. But honestly, nothing beats what the hero did for the whole city. Still, the mercenary is all about that cash prize as a mission bonus. But plot twist, he finds out he ain't getting the usual payday. His reward? All the treasure from slaying the dragon and squashing the rebels. The catch? All that gold's buried, and someone's gotta dig it up. Right then, a dude named Jenin steps up. The bearded dwarf spots his buddy's missing scar right away. A big guy with dreads and a blonde elf are gonna help out on this mission. They're noble dwarves, super skilled at their craft. Mid-chat, the short one mentions seeing the letter his buddy left. He says things get wild when talking about turning a dragon's tooth into a demon's sword. And digging up a dragon's lair could be a game changer for the dwarves. But first, gotta spill the tea on what's happening in Kaban. Things have flipped since Queen Naias took the throne and built an army. This is the dwarves' epic capital, chilling in an icy mountain. Now, Kaban's folks are at a massive decision crossroads. The queen's dad gave his life for the nation. Still, enemies are chasing the kingdom, hunting its most precious secrets. Now's the time for everyone to unite for the kingdom's sacred good and gear up against foes. And everyone who sacrifices for the great nation will march to victory. With this, no one in the kingdom should go hungry again. Her speech hit hard, but she kept her sneaky plans under wraps. The elf says only someone can stop her and make her pay for her deeds. Truth is, she's alone, wishing Lord Sig would come back to her. She's got a serious obsession with the hero and is super dangerous. This is bad news for the young prince, who fears stronger rival nations popping up. It's known the old king sold his people to shady merchants. His daughter's plans also involve sending her people to battlefields in a harsh way. Plan B? Gather as many as possible and bounce from the city before things get worse. Sure, they're there to dig the dragon's mine, but they also want to tackle these side issues. Before bailing, they need a safe spot to chill and let everyone settle. With the royal power struggles, the industry scene's gonna heat up. Arms dealers are likely to take over most spots in Emilia's kingdom. If their pals can seize this moment, they can lock down a solid base. Even better, this would spread dwarf weapons across the continent. One snag is, being neutral. They need to make deals with Emilia. The strong guy's ticked and says he'll do whatever it takes to fight the arms dealers. Just thinking about exploiting his dad makes his blood boil. But starting a biz with a human nation ain't easy, and they need local partners. Luckily, the hero's been tight with the kingdom's queen for a while, so he decides to head over and ask for help with the settlement. For now, this sorts the migration issue, but they still gotta face the arms dealers. The hero doesn't do favors for free and admits he's got beef with his crew. From the start, his plan was to use this chance to go after his own rivals. Two friends are pumped about teaming up for this mission. The little prince, though, is bummed to see his friends go, wishing they'd stick around. Still, they gotta sort things in Emilia while the dwarves dig the dragon's lair. Minerva tells the young sidekick to stay healthy, making it an order. Sui's totally convinced the blonde dude's gonna be an epic king someday. She promises the city's got their backs, ready to help the adventurers whenever they need it. One day, the blonde dreams of being the next hero of punishment, no biggie. But first, he's got to deal with the whole heir to the throne thing. As he waves goodbye, he yells for his squad to roll with him, no stragglers allowed. They always wanted a chill life until those demonic swords gave them the boot. Now, with stacks of cash, they can finally live the dream life they've always wanted. When they start digging in the cave, the guys are totally shocked by what they find. They're whispering about this demonic sword made from a dragon's tooth, no cap. At the treasure spot, they're debating if the hero was legit or just full of it. But if it's all true, they're about to unleash a worldwide disaster. Yikes. Right in front of them, a skinny dragon with razor-sharp teeth shows up. The trio gets major bad vibes and totally misses the woman watching them. When her eyes start glowing yellow, the strong dudes freak out big time. She thought they were just grave robbers, but finds out they're actually clever dwarves. Like a fiery comet, she dives into the fight, showing no chill. Seeing the warrior, the bearded guy's totally blown away by her vibe. She's on the hunt for someone named Signature Jaeger.
Our video ends here. If you liked it, leave your like. See you next time. Bye-bye.